The X-Men timeline is one of the most twisted in movie history. But in this video, we're keeping it simple. I'm going to walk you through all 14 X-Men movies, in the order of the years they're set. I'm not jumping between timelines or editing scenes from different movies together. Each entry will be shown as its own movie, labeled with the year it takes place, whether it's from the original or altered timeline. So sit back as we travel through decades of mutants, battles, and betrayal, from the earliest moments of history to the far future. And as always, stay awesome and enjoy the recap. X-Men First Class opens up at a German concentration camp in occupied Poland during 1944, where young Eric is separated from his parents by Nazi guards. While his parents are being taken away, the guards bolt the doors shut behind them. They grab Eric to keep him back, but the child desperately calls out for his parents. In that moment, the child's mind remarkably starts bending the metal gate. It takes multiple guards to barely hold Eric back, but to no avail, and just as the gate is about to fly open, a guard knocks Eric unconscious. As Eric falls on the ground, a mysterious man watches from the window, sipping tea and certainly up to no good. Around this same time in Westchester County, New York, a young Charles Xavier is struggling to fall asleep. Laying in his bed, he senses that something's amiss and gets up, walking through his giant mansion with a baseball bat in hand. Charles steps with caution until he finds his mother in the kitchen. Putting the bat down, he tells her how he mistook her to be a burglar and got rather scared. His mother assures him that she was just getting a snack and tells Charles to go back to bed. However, Charles stares at her with suspicion as he reveals that his mother has not stepped foot in that kitchen in a very long time. The woman offers to make him some hot chocolate, but Xavier, stepping towards her and communicating telepathically, accuses his mother of being an imposter and asks what it has done with his real mother, as she would not make him a sandwich or hot chocolate, at which point Mystique shifts back to her normal blue-skinned form. Seeing the little girl turn back into her mutant form, Xavier is overjoyed to meet someone else different like him. He assures her that she doesn't have to be scared or steal ever again. The girl introduces herself as Raven, and Xavier offers her to come live with his family. Back with Eric, scientist Sebastian Shaw had observed his powers through a window and speaks to him. While making a friendly chat about chocolate and genetics being a key to humanity's evolution, he places a metal coin on a desk and orders Eric to use his magnetism power to move it. When Eric cannot, despite his best efforts, Shaw has the guards bring his mother to the room. He then shoots and kills Eric's mother in front of him. In his rage, Eric's out-of-control magnetic power kills the two guards and destroys 2 rooms, to Shaw's delight. Joyous like a little girl, he tells Eric that they'll be having a lot of fun now that they've figured out how to tap into his powers through anger. Meanwhile, the grief-struck Eric is left too stunned to say or do anything. Shaw hands him the coin and leaves the office. In Switzerland, in the present day of 1962, Eric, now all grown up, sits in a hotel room in deep contemplation while using his magnetic powers to fidget with the very same coin. He's been trying to track down Shaw. Vengeful, he launched the coin at the picture of Shaw pinned on a mapboard in front of him. Meanwhile, in England, Oxford University, Xavier's on an entirely different life path. He approaches a woman with different colored eyes and offers to buy her a drink. Using some S-tier riz and his telepathy, he guesses her favorite drink and they begin talking while Raven watches. Raven gets all jealous and crashes their little date, and Xavier leaves the bar with her. They head back home, and Raven, now insecure about her looks and her blue form, keeps asking odd questions from Xavier, who is preparing for his thesis. Xavier is publishing his thesis on mutation. His foster sister Raven, a waitress, lives with him. On the other hand, Eric heads into a bank and presents the banker with a Nazi gold bar. The banker tries to ring the alarm, but Eric, using his powers, takes charge. He forces the banker by ripping out one of the metal fillings in his mouth to trace a bar of Nazi gold to Shaw's address in Argentina. Having gotten the information, he warns the banker to keep their meeting a secret and leaves. Simultaneously, in Las Vegas, Nevada, CIA agent Moira McTaggart is keeping eyes on some high-profile people of interest, including the U.S. Army Colonel Hendry. Spotting them outside the Hellfire Club, she notices that there are a lot more big-name people entering the club. While her partner stares at some of the dancers that are entering the club, Moira gets a bright idea. She strips down to her lingerie and walks right into the club. Inside, Colonel Hendry is greeted by Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw's associate. Emma escorts Hendry into the party to go see Shaw along with dozens of girls, among which Moira sneaks in as well. Emma and Hendry get into a private booth, and as Moira follows them, she finds nobody in there. While Shaw asks Hendry to put American missiles in Turkey and risk a potential nuclear war with Russia, Agent Moira gets in the booth and finds a way to activate the secret contraption that spins her into the hidden office room. After snooping through some files, she sees Shaw, Emma Frost, Riptide, and Azazel. After Shaw threatens Hendry, Azazel disappears with the officer. Moments later, he is in the war room, advocating that the U.S. install nuclear missiles in Turkey. Agent Moira calls to warn her officials, but they write her off as crazy and refuse to believe her since the colonel is already there in the war room and couldn't have been at the Hellfire Club. Elsewhere, Xavier graduates and becomes a professor. He walks out with Raven and decides to get a drink to celebrate, but McTaggart follows them in an attempt to seek Xavier's advice on mutation. In a quiet tavern in Argentina, Eric walked in, ordered a beer, and immediately spotted a photograph that made his blood boil. Sitting at a table were 3 men, former German soldiers. Eric quickly put 2 and 2 together. but instead of acting right away, he decided to sit down and chat. He played along, asking them what brought them to Argentina. They raised their glasses together, but Eric's questions turned sharper with each sip. Finally, he rolled up his sleeve and showed them the number tattooed on his arm, the one the Nazis had stamped during the war. One of the men instantly lunges at Eric with a dagger, which was a bad move. Eric disarmed him effortlessly and drove the same dagger straight through his hand. The man tried pleading, claiming they were just following orders. Classic excuse. Then the bartender pulled a gun, but before he could fire, the gun turned in his own hand. Eric, with his magnetic powers, had taken control. The gun fired, killing the second soldier. Eric then hurled the dagger straight into the bartender's chest, retrieved it midair, and stabbed the first man's hand again. When asked who he was, Eric calmly replied, "Frankenstein's monster, looking for his creator." That creator, of course, being Sebastian Shaw. Meanwhile, Xavier was getting a little tipsy at a bar when CIA agent Moira McTaggart approached him. She asked about mutants, but Charles, a little too deep in his drink, flirted instead. That changed the moment he read her mind and saw the entire Hellfire Club fiasco unfold in her memories. Suddenly sober with concern, he agreed to help. Elsewhere, aboard his luxurious yacht, Sebastian Shaw met with Colonel Hendry. The colonel, furious about not getting paid, pulled out a grenade. Shaw, with the confidence of a man who knew exactly what he was doing, took it from him, pulled the pin, and absorbed the entire blast like it was a power-up. Shaw was a mutant who could absorb energy, and apparently didn't age. Then, with a mere tap, he unleashed the stored explosion back into Hendry, who exploded. Safe to say, that negotiation didn't end in a handshake. Back in the US, McTaggart brought Xavier and Raven to the CIA to warn them about Shaw. At first, no one bought their story. Until Xavier showed off his telepathy and Raven revealed her true form, that made enough of an impression to send them to a secret CIA facility. Though, surprise, surprise, they escaped easily with Moira's help and set off to find Shaw. At sea, Eric finally catches up to Shaw's yacht and launched his attack, but things went sideways fast. Emma Frost, Shaw's icy associate, used her telepathy to freeze Eric in place and tossed him overboard like yesterday's trash. Just as the US Coast Guard pulled up, Emma sensed Xavier's presence and masked Shaw's location from him. The Coast Guard was useless, but Eric wasn't done yet. Using the ship's anchor like a wrecking ball, he ripped the yacht apart. Shaw escaped in a submarine, but Eric almost drowned trying to stop it, until Xavier saved him. After that disaster, Eric joined Xavier and Raven at the CIA facility. There they met Hank McCoy, a scientist and closet mutant. Xavier accidentally exposed him, but they hit it off. Using a device called Cerebro, they began tracking other mutants to form a team. Xavier and Eric hit the road recruiting young mutants. Some were enthusiastic, others not so much, especially one grumpy guy who told them to buzz off. Classic Wolverine. Shaw, learning he was being tracked, decided to stay one step ahead. He sent Emma Frost to meet with a Russian general in his place. Oh, and he had a new accessory. A sleek helmet designed to block telepaths like Xavier. Stylish and functional. Back at the facility, Xavier and Eric were proud of their mutant recruits. Well, mostly. Xavier believed they could train them into heroes, while Eric remained skeptical. When the CIA greenlit a mission to intercept Shaw, Eric warned the kids weren't ready. Xavier believed in them, until he caught them acting like overexcited high schoolers. Raven, trying to lighten the mood, announced everyone had picked out code names. She even dubbed Xavier Professor X and Eric Magneto. Xavier wasn't exactly thrilled. Despite the team's immaturity, Xavier and Eric moved forward with the mission. They snuck into the Russian meeting but found only Emma Frost. Shaw was a no-show. Emma turned to her diamond form to block Xavier's telepathy, but Eric wasn't having it. He nearly crushed her before forcing her out of diamond form. Xavier then read her mind, and what he found chilled him. Shaw planned to ignite a nuclear war, believing it would wipe out the weak and allow mutants to rise as the dominant species. Back at the facility, Azazel, Riptide, and Shaw attack and kill all the guards. Once everyone is disposed of, Shaw introduces himself to the young mutants there. He starts his loaded speech, filled with platitudes, and offers them a choice to either join him or be against him. He clarifies that they can either be on the same side as their own kind or fight for the people who hate and fear them. Since most of them had experienced that discrimination that Shaw mentioned, his speech resonated. Angel walks away with Shaw, and as they're leaving, the rest of them figure that they should do something to stop them. Darwin steps up and says that he wants to join Shaw. While walking out, Darwin hardens his skin and covers Angel while Alexander Summers, aka Havoc, wreaks chaos with his powers. Unfortunately, Shaw simply absorbs the energy blasts. Shaw kills Darwin by forcing him to ingest the massive amount of energy. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Shaw riles up the Russian general and suggests that he should place Russian missiles in Cuba as a deterrent against the Americans. The general finds that plan ludicrous, but Shaw decides to convince him through threats. Eric and Xavier eventually return and find the mutants distraught. Seeing the danger, Xavier thinks they should send them home, but Eric suggests they should stay to avenge Darwin. Eric easily convinces Xavier and they begin to train the mutants. With the news of Russian missiles coming to Cuba, the Americans prepare for war and President Kennedy institutes a blockade. The mutants, on the other hand, need a safe place, and Xavier takes them back to his childhood mansion. Xavier helps them all to train and enhance their powers. He helps them through their struggles, like making Eric realize that there's more to him than just pain and anger, and how he can become far more powerful by controlling his rage. Shaw, in the meantime, travels with the Russian fleet to ensure that the missiles get to Cuba. The world is now primed for war, and Shaw believes that there's nobody who can stop him. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Hank knocks at Raven's door to surprise her with something. He had been working on a serum that would hide a mutant's physical mutations while leaving their abilities unaffected. Raven had encouraged him to create the serum, but now, after everything, she questions if they should have to hide. Still, the both of them wish to at least look normal for once, and Hank takes the syringe, ready to inject it in himself. Raven tries to stop him, arguing that he's beautiful the way he is, and everything that they've achieved thus far is proof that they don't need to hide anymore. Raven's changed perspective argues that they're mutants, but they should be proud of it instead of trying to fit in. However, she's immediately shut down by Hank, who says that his big feet and her natural blue form are not beautiful. Hank leaves one syringe with Raven and walks out while she cries at the heartbreaking words. Meanwhile, Eric and Xavier have an argument of their own, as Eric makes it clear that he intends to kill Shaw, and Xavier tries to convince him otherwise. Back in his lab, Hank takes the injection and watches in joy as his feet change to a normal human form. Sadly, his joy is short-lived, as not only does his feet revert back to normal, his mutation is accelerated, transforming his entire body and growing blue fur. Raven goes to Eric for validation, who tells her that she's perfect as she is and there's no need for her to hide her real form. Shortly after, Raven and Xavier have a little spat as she sees his attempts to save humanity as an effort to fit in instead of doing what's best for the mutants. The next day, Xavier finds a note by Hank asking them to come to the airbase. They all look inside his lab to find it a complete mess. While they wonder what happened, they find the special suits Hank designed for them. Now suited up, the squad arrives at the airbase. Hank walks out in his new blue beast form and explains that the cure didn't work, and instead he enhanced his mutant genes. Raven affectionately assures him that this is the better him and there's no need to hide anymore. And when Eric tries to join in on the compliments, Hank mistakes it for mockery and lashes out. At any rate, Hank gets the new codename of Beast and the team heads out. Xavier, McTaggart, and Eric fly to the blockade to stop the fleets from engaging. The situation's tense as both fleets get ready for a potential war. The Russians try to turn the cargo ship back, but to no avail. Shaw and his men had already killed the crew of the cargo ship so that it could not be turned back. While Azazel kills the crew of the Russian missile ship, Xavier uses his powers to make a Russian ship destroy the missile ship before it crosses the line. Shaw, down in his submarine, realizes that Xavier is powerful and decides to shift to his backup plan. Shaw uses a nuclear core to charge himself up and a helmet to block Xavier's telepathy. Using Banshee's sonic waves, Xavier and the mutants locate Shaw's submarine and give Eric the go-ahead. Eric pulls Shaw's submarine from the water, but an attack forces the jet and submarine to crash. Eric finds Shaw and removes his helmet, and Xavier takes control of Shaw.
No!
Eric puts on the helmet, then kills him by slowly forcing the coin that Shaw taunted him with through his brain. All the while, Xavier begs him to be the better man. However, Eric agrees with Shaw's ideal of mutants being the future of humanity. Eric's fears are validated immediately as the humans, both Americans and Russians, join hands to eliminate the mutants instead. The two fleets fire their missiles at the mutants, but Eric, now fully in control of his abilities, holds the missiles in the air, then turns them on the fleet. Xavier yet again begs him to be the better man and not attack back, but Eric refuses to listen. Seeing no other choice, Xavier tackles Eric and a fight ensues between them. Xavier manages to distract Eric but is soon overpowered, allowing Eric to regain control of the remaining missiles, and just as they're about to strike, McTaggart fires at Eric. He easily deflects the bullets, but one of the strays hits Xavier. The mutants watch in horror and Eric rushes to help his friend. He pulls the bullet out with his powers, but the damage has been already done. The bullet had hit Xavier's spine and paralyzed him. All the missiles end up missing the target, and though the humans were saved, Xavier paid a heavy price. Enraged by his friend's paralyzation, Eric attempts to strangle McTaggart using his abilities, but Xavier convinces him to stop. Eric tries to reason with Xavier one last time, but to no avail. Even now, Xavier doesn't want hostility between the mutants and the humans, but Eric sees it as a necessity since the humans won't accept them. Seeing that his friend won't join him, Eric steps away, leaving McTaggart to take care of Eric. Eric takes Raven, Angel, Riptide, and Azazel and says a farewell to Xavier before he leaves. Xavier is now confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life, and the mutants return to the mansion where he plans to open a school. Moira is now caring for him, and she promises never to reveal the location of the school, but Xavier does not find her to be reliable, and so he erases her memory while kissing her. At the end of the movie, Eric breaks Frost out of the CIA headquarters and in his new uniform calls himself Magneto. X-Men Days of Future Past begins with a narrator explaining that the future is filled with war, suffering, and loss for both mutants and the humans who try to help them, as they fight an enemy they cannot defeat. In a dystopian 2023 where trucks dispose of dead bodies without remorse, the narrator wonders whether they are destined to destroy themselves like so many species before them, or if they can evolve enough to change their fate. In Moscow, Sentinel robots launch an air raid on the surviving X-Men and Warpath alerts them of the attack, allowing the X-Men to quickly gear up for battle. As the Sentinels begin drilling into their hiding place, Colossus transforms his body into steel and Sunspot ignites into flames. The battle starts, but the Sentinels have the upper hand because of their supreme power. They shove Colossus aside and withstand Sunspot's attacks. Meanwhile, Blink uses her portals to help Kitty Pryde escape. Iceman tries to freeze a Sentinel, but it absorbs Sunspot's power and uses it against him, and another Sentinel absorbs Iceman's power to counter Sunspot's fire, resulting in both Sunspot and Iceman being destroyed. A Sentinel dealing with Colossus grabs his hand and absorbs his powers as well. Realizing the severity of the situation, the remaining mutants sacrifice themselves to buy Kitty enough time to send Bishop's consciousness a few days into the past, to warn them and ensure their survival. Just as a Sentinel melts the door and prepares to strike, Kitty tells it that she has already completed her task. This event reaches Professor Xavier's consciousness, who reflects that only a few of them are left. With the immediate threat averted, the group retreats to a temple in China where they regroup with Storm, Logan, Charles Xavier, and Eric Lencher. Kitty explains that whenever the Sentinels attack, Warpath spots them first, and she sends Bishop back in time to warn the group. Blink scouts their next location, allowing them to escape before the Sentinels arrive. Xavier then explains that the Sentinels were originally conceived by Dr. Bolivar Trask, a leading weapons designer in the early 1970s. While in hiding, Trask experimented on mutants, using their powers for his research. Mystique, whom Xavier treats like his own sister, discovered this and hunted Trask across the globe. In 1973, she finally found and assassinated him. However, the assassination didn't have the desired effect. Instead of stopping the program, it gave the government reason to capture Raven and experiment on her, using her DNA to create Sentinels capable of adapting to any mutant ability. Xavier now proposes going back to 1973 to prevent Trask's assassination and stop the creation of the Sentinels at their origin. Kitty tells him that her powers are limited, as she can only send someone back a month at most, and even if she tries, going back decades would kill Xavier. Logan volunteers as his regenerative abilities would allow him to survive the journey. Bishop warns that this mission carries great risk. It could change the course of history entirely, resulting in some of them not even being born. But Storm tells them to decide if they want to end this war or keep fighting till all of them die. Xavier asks them for a sacrifice, not for themselves, but for a better future for others, and eventually the group agrees. They begin preparations, and Xavier tells Logan that since he didn't have his powers in 1973, Logan will have to be the one to convince him. Eric adds that he is the one who set Mystique on a darker path, so Logan will need to work with both Xavier and Eric despite their past hostility toward each other. Kitty explains to Logan that he'll be the only one who remembers that history was changed, and for everyone else the altered timeline will be the only reality they've ever known. Iceman urges them to move quickly, as the Sentinels could find them, and with Kitty occupied, they won't be able to escape this time. Logan wakes up in 1973 lying next to his boss's daughter. The guards break in to beat him, which results in a fight, so Logan defeats all of them and takes their car keys before heading out. Meanwhile, the higher officials debate the need to eliminate mutants. They argue that if mutants exist, then they've been living among humans unnoticed while America has real threats like the Russians and Chinese to focus on. Trask presents a dissertation written by a mutant student who refers to humans as outsiders or another species and claims that just as America underestimated the Vietnamese and suffered for it, underestimating mutants could lead to war in their streets and homes. In the meantime, Mystique poses as a high-ranking officer and goes to a U.S. military camp in Vietnam to free her fellow mutants from the hands of Trask's men. She reveals herself to fight the soldiers and the other mutants join her in battle. Together, they overpower the enemy, and Mystique tells them to leave before shape-shifting back into the Colonel to board the mutants onto a plane. They ask her to join them, but she declines, saying her war is not over yet. Back in the U.S., Logan arrives at the X-Mansion, where Hank informs him that the school has been shut down for years because of the war and refuses to let him in. Logan forces his way through, telling Hank that they'll be good friends in the future. When Hank resists, Logan punches him, so Hank transforms into his beast form and attacks, but Xavier, who has turned to drinking, intervenes to break up the fight. Xavier orders Logan to leave, but Logan insists that Xavier from 50 years in the future sent him. Xavier laughs it off, and to prove his claim, Logan tells him that Xavier got his powers when he was just 9 years old and realized he could read minds when he was 12. This grabs Xavier's attention, and Hank asks how Raven is connected to all this. Logan explains that Raven's DNA was weaponized to create Sentinels. They initially targeted only mutants, but eventually began identifying humans with the potential to produce mutant offspring and those who tried to protect them. Xavier, still doubtful, says that even if he agrees to help, it won't matter, as Raven won't listen to him. Logan mentions that they will need Eric's help, which makes Xavier laugh, but Logan reminds him of the seriousness of the situation. However, Xavier is numb to it all and walks away without saying anything. Hank explains that Xavier lost everything: Eric, Raven, his legs, and his school. So he shut himself off and began using a serum that allows him to walk occasionally, but at the cost of weakening his telepathic abilities. Meanwhile, Xavier recalls how as a child he promised he would always protect Raven, so he decides to help Logan with the hope of reuniting with her. He reveals that Eric is imprisoned in a room made entirely of concrete and sand, and it is 100 floors beneath the most heavily guarded building in the world for assassinating President John F. Kennedy. Logan says he knows someone who can help with the prison break, but admits he doesn't know how to reach him in a time without the internet. Meanwhile, Raven shapeshifts into Trask to infiltrate his office. She goes through his files and then asks his secretary to type out his travel itinerary to make sure he doesn't miss anything. Meanwhile, Logan tracks down Peter Maximoff, a mutant with superhuman speed, and asks for his help with the prison break. Peter agrees, mostly for the thrill of the adventure. Immediately, the group joins a public tour at the Pentagon, and during the mission, Hank blurs the security cameras while Peter sneaks past the guards. He reaches Eric's cell and breaks the glass by vibrating his hands at extreme speed, then gently grabs Eric by the neck to protect him from whiplash. As the cell opens, Peter sprints past 20 guards and rushes into the elevator. Simultaneously, Xavier and Logan activate the building's water sprinklers, triggering an evacuation on that floor under the guise of a safety protocol. Once Peter and Eric reach the floor, Xavier punches Eric and demands that he promise not to kill anyone. But soon, about 20 guards arrive and prepare to open fire. Eric uses his powers to knock them back, provoking the police to shoot. Peter, moving at super speed, calmly rearranges the scene, redirecting bullets and repositioning people so no one gets hurt. And the guards end up hitting themselves instead, which helps the group escape during the chaos. Xavier thanks Peter for his help, and Peter wonders why they are heading to Paris. On the plane, Logan tells Eric that he's from the future, and Eric asks Xavier how he lost his powers. Shocked to learn Xavier gave them up so he could walk, Eric criticizes the choice, but Xavier corrects him, saying he didn't take the serum to walk, he took it so he could sleep. Tension escalates and Xavier grabs Eric by the collar, accusing him of abandoning him, but Eric fires back, saying Xavier was the one who abandoned their mutant brothers and sisters while they were being killed and experimented on. Meanwhile, in Paris, a celebration is held where Vietnamese generals toast their victory over the United States. Raven catches the eye of one general who takes her to an apartment after the party. There, she strangles him and takes his summit invitation. Back on the plane, Eric tries to play chess with Xavier, but he refuses. Eric then confesses that he didn't kill President Kennedy. The bullet curved because he was trying to save him. As Kennedy was a mutant, Xavier asks about Raven, so Eric responds that she's strong and more determined than ever to protect her people. The next day, diplomats from around the world gather to mark the end of American military involvement in Vietnam. Before the summit begins, Trask speaks to the Vietnamese high officials and warns them of a new enemy, one that will render conventional armies useless. To win against this threat, he proposes the use of Sentinels, which possess the capabilities of a Harrier jet and can fire 2,000 bullets per minute. Trask emphasizes that what makes Sentinels special is their ability to detect and target the mutant X gene. They won't beep unless a mutant is identified. To prove this, he activates a device, however it starts beeping. Believing a mutant is present, Trask points the device at a general, alarming everyone in the room. Mystique then reveals her true form and attacks the guards holding her. She manages to overpower most of them, but just as Xavier and Eric arrive, a guard throws electrified wires at her. Eric, using his metal manipulation powers, reverses the wires, saving her. Xavier rushes to Raven, promising to protect her, when suddenly Eric picks up a gun and points it at her. Just as he's about to fire, Hank pushes him aside, but Eric still uses his powers to shoot. The bullet bends toward Raven, striking her in the leg, but she jumps through a window, falling into the crowd outside, making the onlookers pull out their phones and record the scene. Meanwhile, Logan, traumatized by the electric shock, briefly loses control. And when he regains consciousness, Trask has escaped and Eric has gone after Raven. Eric tracks her down and pulls her back by magnetically drawing the bullet from her leg. As he extracts it, Logan, confused and disoriented, begins to question why he's even there and who are these people. Xavier tells Hank to stop Eric while he tends to Logan. Hank leaps down and tackles Eric into a nearby fountain, nearly drowning him. In retaliation, Eric begins drawing all nearby cars and metal objects toward him, creating chaos in the area, but this gives enough time for Mystique to escape. Back in the future, Kitty is wounded from the strain of keeping Logan's consciousness in the past. Eric is still submerged in the fountain, so he uses its metal to pull Hank away and stands up, only to be surrounded by reporters snapping relentless photos. Though Hank breaks free and runs, the mutants have been publicly exposed to the world. Kitty, sobbing from the pain, tells Xavier that she has managed to keep Logan in the past. Logan says he had a vision of someone who would hurt him deeply in the future, which caused his brief loss of control, and Xavier urges him to get out of the area immediately. News broadcasts report that the Paris peace accords were disrupted by unknown assailants unlike anything the world has ever seen, causing mass hysteria. Officials confirm the escape of Eric and his apparent connection to Raven. As world leaders try to understand the situation, Trask steps in and, using the opportunity, he convinces President Nixon to authorize the Sentinel program. Trask specifically requests that Mystique be handed over to his lab for research when she is captured. Raven, in the meantime, gets herself bandaged up with the nurse beside her, watching the news and pitying the mutants, wondering aloud if they have families, and Raven quietly confirms that they do. Meanwhile, Eric studies the details of the Sentinel program and notices that Trask's men have already collected Raven's DNA from the blood she dropped on the street. Sometime later, as he's walking on the subway, he's grabbed by Raven, disguised as an old man who warns him not to make a single move or she'll stab him. She demands to know why he tried to kill her, and Eric explains that they received a message from the future warning that the entire mutant community will be wiped out if Trask gets hold of Mystique's DNA. He admits that it's already too late and blames himself, but he also insists that killing one man won't be enough to win this war. Back at the X-Mansion, the effects of Xavier's serum begin to wear off, causing him to scream in pain as the voices in his head return. Hank rushes to retrieve more serum, but Logan stops Xavier and tells him they need his powers to find Raven. When Hank returns, Xavier is about to inject himself, but he stops and asks Hank to help him into his wheelchair. Elsewhere, Trask is fascinated by Mystique's DNA. He tells his team that she contains the key to mutation itself and insists they need more of her blood tissue. His goal is to create sentinels that can not only detect mutants but also adapt to and mimic any mutant's powers. He claims that mutants could become humanity's salvation by uniting the world against a shared enemy. 2 hours before the transport of the Sentinel prototypes, Eric infiltrates the facility where the Sentinels are being manufactured. Meanwhile, Xavier heads down to the X-Lab to use Cerebro, but the attempt overwhelms him and he screams in agony as the glass around Cerebro shatters. Hank checks the generator, but Xavier confesses that he can no longer use his powers, as they come from within, and right now he's hollow inside. Xavier laments that they sent the wrong man and Logan agrees, explaining that Xavier was the one originally meant to come, but only Logan could survive the journey physically. Logan says he can't help him but suggests that Xavier look into his mind and connect with his future self, so Xavier does that. Future Xavier appears in his mind and tells his younger self to embrace the pain, as it will make him stronger than he's ever been. He urges him to hope again, because they need him. Xavier returns from the vision and decides to try finding Raven again. Meanwhile, Eric jumps on top of the train transporting the Sentinels and uses his powers to rip apart the tracks. He infuses the Sentinels with metal, taking control of them from the inside. Back in 2023, Kitty's condition worsens as she continues to bleed, so Iceman suggests they bring in Rogue to replace her. Xavier insists Rogue is long dead, but Iceman reveals that she's actually being held captive inside Cerebro, the one place Xavier's mind can't reach from the outside, and she's being experimented on so her powers can be used to absorb others. Xavier pauses, then says that no matter how heavily guarded Cerebro is, he knows secret paths into his own house. So the team prepares to retrieve Rogue and save Kitty. Back in 1973, Xavier is in Cerebro and finally finds Raven at an airport and asks her to come back home. He uses multiple people to tell Raven that killing Trask will only start an endless path of killing on the sides of the mutants and humans, but she doesn't let him get inside her head. The trio decides to rest for the night and look for Raven in the morning. However, later at night, she shows up at the house when Xavier is sleeping, and as Hanks patches up her leg injury, she tells him that he shouldn't take serums to suppress his animalistic desires. She tells him that they should be mutant and proud. In 2023, Xavier, Eric, and Iceman head to the X-Mansion, where Eric manages to break down the doors to get to Cerebro and save Rogue, drawing a parallel with Eric in 1973 who manages to breach the security and retrieve his helmet. However, Sentinels find them and throw firebombs at Iceman, who tries to distract them. They then target the gas pipes, making the entire place burst and causing the death of Iceman, which allows Eric and Rogue to survive. Rogue reaches the temple and takes Kitty's place so she can rest. Back in 1973, Mystique disguised as Xavier enters Cerebro and breaks his equipment. Logan wakes up with Rogue's voice in his head, but suddenly Hank tells him that Raven was here, but he didn't stop her. Xavier is disappointed, as he believes they now have no way to find her, but Hank says that he saw the news about the meeting in Washington about the Sentinels, and Xavier orders them to ready the plane to head there. In the event, President Nixon unveils the Sentinels while the three search for Raven. However, Eric appears at the stadium nearby and lifts it up. He then activates the Sentinels and opens fire on the people. So all the high-ranking officials are moved to a hidden bunker, and Raven, disguised as an official, heads down with them. Eric uses the stadium to barricade the White House and orders each Sentinel to guard the surroundings. However, in 2023, 12 large ships of the Sentinels find the mutants in the temple and attack them. Initially, Eric uses his mental power to break an aircraft and bring down all the Sentinels with it. However, he is stabbed in the process and soon many Sentinels come crawling up. They stab Storm and launch multiple attacks on Bishop and Sunspot, making Xavier think this is the end. Back in 1973, Eric orders the Sentinels to attack Hank and impales Logan with rebar before throwing him into the river. In the bunker, the mutant tracker of Trask starts beeping, and Mystique brings out her gun to assassinate him. However, the officials all put their guns on her, so Trask quickly orders them not to kill Mystique, as he needs her alive. Suddenly, Eric uses his powers to pull out the White House bunker to the ground, open its lock, and point all the guns towards the officials. He turns all the cameras towards himself while an injured Xavier lies there. Eric speaks to the world, declaring that the Sentinels were designed to annihilate mutants because humans fear what is different. He says they are right to be afraid because mutants are the future. He warns that anyone who dares to stand against mutant kind will face the same fate as the men before him, clarifying that today was meant to showcase human strength, but instead Eric is offering a glimpse of the devastation his race can unleash. He urges his mutant brothers and sisters to rise out of the shadows and to cast away their shame, as their time has come. Suddenly, Raven, disguised as President Nixon, steps forward telling Eric that if he wants to make a statement, he should kill her, but spare the rest. However, Eric remains unmoved. He sneers that the Sentinels weren't designed to spare mutants, so why should he spare the humans? As a Sentinel approaches from behind, Eric becomes momentarily distracted. In that instant, Raven drops the Nixon disguise, draws a plastic gun and fires at Eric, stunning him and saving the president and his cabinet. She then turns her aim toward Trask, but just as she's about to pull the trigger, Xavier reaches out to her telepathically, pleading with her not to kill him. He tells her that he believes in her ability to choose compassion over revenge. Meanwhile, in 2023, the final wave of Sentinels overruns the temple. One by one, the remaining mutants fall, and the machines breach the central chamber where Rogue, Xavier, and Logan wait helplessly. Just as the Sentinel begins to charge its final strike, everything suddenly stops. Back in 1973, Raven lowers her gun and walks away. Her choice of mercy over murder is broadcast worldwide, and the narrative shifts. The nation sees her not as a threat but as a hero who saved the lives of the president and his advisors. In 2023, history rewrites itself. The Sentinels vanish, and the mutants disappear from the ruined temple. Xavier watches as Eric and Raven leave, and he does not stop them. Instead, he holds on to hope that one day they will all fight together for the right cause. Logan wakes up in the rebuilt X-Mansion, now thriving and full of life. He is shocked to see that Rogue, Jean Grey, and even Scott Summers stand beside her. The school is filled with students and peace has seemingly returned. Logan finds Professor Xavier in his office and tells him that he doesn't remember anything past 1973, and the last thing he recalls is sinking underwater. Xavier explains that Logan was saved by Raven, disguised as Major William Stryker. The Sentinel program was shut down and Trask was arrested for selling military secrets abroad. The narrator adds that the future is never truly set, and even the smallest ripple can change the tide. X-Men Origins Wolverine opens in Canada back in 1845, where a young boy named Victor sits quietly in his room keeping his sick brother James company. James is very unwell. Soon, a man named John Hallett arrives to check on his son's fever. Then, suddenly, Victor's father bursts through the door, shouting for Elizabeth, the boy's mother. John steps in to defend his wife, but a terrible moment follows. He's shot on the spot. Seeing his father lifeless on the floor, James is overcome with rage, and in that moment, sharp bone claws push out from his fists. Without thinking, he lunges at Thomas Logan and drives the claws into his stomach. As he dies, Thomas reveals a shocking truth. He's actually James's biological father. Elizabeth, horrified by what her son has become, sees him as a monster. James has no choice but to flee into the forest, but he's not alone for long. Victor finds him. At first, James thinks his brother wants revenge. Instead, Victor chooses to stand by him. From that day forward, the two brothers remain inseparable. Over the years, they fight side by side in countless wars. No matter what happens, gunfire, explosions, they never die. Victor, also a mutant, has beast-like powers that give him incredible strength and speed. But unlike Logan, James's new name, Victor grows cruel and enjoys violence for its own sake. Logan disagrees with his brother's brutal ways and tries to rein him in. Still, when Victor is captured by soldiers, Logan stays by his side. Both are sentenced to death by firing squad, but since they can't be killed, they're thrown into a dark, filthy cell. It seems they'll be trapped there forever, until Major William Stryker arrives. He offers them a choice: join his special team of mercenaries and in return walk free. The brothers board a plane for their first mission, and inside the aircraft they meet the rest of their new team. Among them is Wade, a skilled swordsman who's nearly the perfect soldier. He has all the right abilities for the job, though Stryker points out one flaw: he talks too much. The team lands in Nigeria, where Maverick quickly handles the enemy soldiers with expert marksmanship. He's deadly accurate, able to hit targets from incredible distances. One soldier survives by hiding inside a war tank, planning to fire at the intruders with its cannon. But Fred steps in, blocking the cannon's barrel with his bare arm, causing the entire tank to explode. Watching from afar through security cameras, the businessman who owns the refinery realizes his facility is under attack. He quickly shuts off the power, hoping to keep the intruders from reaching him, but Bradley uses his abilities to restore the electricity, bringing the building back online. The security guards prepare their weapons and aim at the elevator doors, ready to fire the moment they open. Wade takes the lead. As soon as the doors slide open, he charges out, spinning and slicing with his swords. He moves so fast that the bullets can't touch him, cutting down every guard until the hallway falls silent. Inside the office, the businessman reaches for a gun hidden under his desk, but it's too late. John teleports into the room and appears right beside him, pointing a gun at his head. Desperate, the man offers a deal. They can take all the diamonds, but Stryker isn't interested in the gems. What he wants is information, specifically where the adamantium was found. The businessman reveals that it came from a small village 3 days away from the refinery. When they arrive at the village, the mercenary team takes all the villagers hostage. Stryker questions the village leader about the source of the adamantium, but the man refuses to answer. He insists the metal is sacred and won't reveal where it came from. Stryker, without patience, orders Victor to kill him. With their leader dead, panic spreads through the village. The terrified villagers try to run, but Victor shows no mercy. Seeing innocent people being slaughtered, Logan can't take it anymore. He steps in, tells his brother to let the remaining villagers go, and walks away from the mission. He tosses his dog tag necklace to the ground. No one dares to stop him, as everyone knows they wouldn't stand a f***ing chance. 6 years go by. Logan now lives a quiet life in the mountains of Canada with his wife. He works as a lumberjack, far from the world he left behind. During those years, the mercenary group disbanded. Bradley now works in an amusement park, using his powers to keep a lamp glowing in his tent. Visitors try to turn off the light to win a prize, but none succeed because Bradley makes sure of that. One night, while resting in his trailer, Bradley gets an unexpected visitor, Victor. He immediately knows why his old teammate is there. Bradley swears he's never told anyone about what happened back then. He says he's changed and that he is living a different life now. But Victor isn't there to talk. He came with a mission, and nothing will stop him. He strikes swiftly, using his sharp claws to end Bradley's life. As Bradley dies, the power in the entire amusement park cuts out. In the early hours of the morning, Logan wakes from a nightmare. He screams like an animal, and in the panic, his claws come out, accidentally injuring Kayla. She's not surprised. She knows her husband's history. He's fought in many wars, and the nightmares still haunt him. The next morning at work, Logan gets an unexpected visit from Stryker, who offers him a job. But Logan isn't interested. After living for over 100 years, this peaceful life as a woodcutter is the first time he's truly been happy. Still, Stryker pushes the issue. He reveals that Bradley was killed 2 days ago, and before that, Wade was also taken out. Someone is hunting down members of their old team one by one. Logan isn't moved. He tells Stryker he can take care of himself and walks away. On the way home, he stops by the school to pick up Kayla, who works there as a teacher. While driving back, they come across 2 men arguing in the middle of the road, their vehicles blocking the way. Logan honks, but the men ignore him. Stepping out of the car, Logan prepares to handle it, but Kayla senses trouble. Logan calmly asks the man to move his car, but the situation quickly escalates. The man acts aggressively and Kayla steps in. She gently places her hands on both men's shoulders and kindly asks them to let them through. Surprisingly, the man listens. Logan watches, impressed by Kayla's calm and persuasive presence. With the road cleared, they quietly head home. That evening, Kayla shares a story with Logan. She tells him that long ago, the moon had a lover named Kuekuatsu. They lived together in the spirit world, walking the sky side by side each night. But one day, a jealous spirit known as the Trickster lied to Kuekuatsu, saying the moon wanted flowers. So Kuekuatsu went down to Earth to pick some roses. What he didn't know was that once he left the spirit world, he could never return. Since then, every night he looks up at the sky, calling out for the moon, but he can never touch it again. After telling the story, Kayla softly reveals that Kuekuatsu means Wolverine. The next day, after dropping Logan off at work, Kayla drives toward the school. But along the way, she runs into Victor. He steps up to her car. Meanwhile, Logan picks up his brother's scent in the forest and quickly follows it. He stumbles across the severed head of a wild animal. Right away, he senses something's wrong. Kayla is in danger. He rushes through the woods and back to the road where he finds her truck abandoned with deep claw marks scraped all across the vehicle. Logan calls out her name and races into the forest, searching desperately. Then he finds her. Kayla is lying lifeless on the ground, causing Logan to drop to his knees, devastated. The only woman he's ever loved is gone, taken by his own brother. Logan tracks Victor's scent and finds him waiting in a bar. Victor doesn't hide his intentions. He admits that he killed Kayla just to get Logan's attention. Enraged, Logan attacks. The two brothers clash with full force. Victor, who spent years preparing for this moment, fights with everything he has. But Logan pushes back, managing to drive his claws into Victor and slam him into a pile of tree trunks. Victor grabs one of the heavy logs and swings it at Logan, crushing him beneath the weight. Then he hurls his brother into the path of a moving truck. Logan is badly hurt and struggles to stand. As he gets up, Victor stomps on his claws, shattering them. Left broken and unconscious, Logan is rushed to the emergency room. But when the doctors tear off his shirt, they're shocked to see that every wound has already healed. When Logan wakes up in the hospital, he's furious. He demands to know where Victor is. Just then, Stryker appears. Logan charges at him, convinced this is all his doing, but Stryker insists he had no idea Victor was the one hunting down their old teammates. Logan makes it clear he wants revenge. Stryker tells him plainly that he's not strong enough to take Victor down, but there's a way. He offers Logan a chance to gain the power needed to defeat any enemy. Hearing this, Logan agrees to go through with it. Stryker brings Logan to his secret lab where Dr. Carol prepares him for the procedure. She tells him to focus on the reason he agreed to this, something strong enough to help him withstand the pain. Logan says he's been through worse, but Carol warns him this will be the most painful thing he's ever experienced. Stryker steps in and promises that once it's done, Logan will be indestructible. He explains that after years of searching he found what he needed in Africa. From that rare material, his team created a metal alloy, strong enough to survive any attack. Just before the operation, Stryker returns Logan's old dog tags, but Logan asks for new ones with the name Wolverine engraved on them. Later, Stryker meets with senior military officials and announces that they are about to create Weapon X. The experiment begins. The scientists inject molten adamantium into Logan's bones. His body twists in pain and his heart rate spikes. Stryker watches closely. He's invested $500 million into turning Logan into an unstoppable weapon. But then Logan's heart flatlines. The room falls silent. Suddenly, his heart starts beating again. The scientists confirm the procedure is complete. For the first time, they've created an indestructible being. In a private moment, Stryker tells Maverick that he plans to use Logan's DNA to build Weapon 11. To protect the project, he also orders Logan's memory to be erased, but what no one realizes is that Logan is still conscious, and he hears every word. Determined to hold on to his memories of Kayla, Logan breaks free. His claws shoot out and he rises from the table. The guards rush in, but it's no use. Logan is stronger than ever, and bullets bounce right off him. He tears through the lab, smashes down the gates, and dives off a cliff into a waterfall below. Enraged, Stryker orders Maverick to track him down and destroy him. That same day, an elderly couple returns to their farm after a trip to the city. As they park, they notice a naked man wandering into their barn. Concerned, the husband, Travis, grabs his shotgun and heads over to check it out. Inside, he finds Logan, exhausted and freezing. Instead of reacting with fear, Travis offers him a blanket and invites him into their home. After a hot shower, Logan puts on the clothes that once belonged to the couple's late son. He examines his new metal claws and notices that when he strikes them together, they produce sparks. When Travis knocks on the bathroom door, Logan is startled and accidentally slices the sink in half. Travis calmly tells him dinner is ready, while Logan tries to clean up the mess. At the table, Logan apologizes and promises to replace the broken sink. After the meal, he returns to the barn for the night. The next morning, Travis visits Logan and offers him his son's old jacket. He also invites him to take a ride on the motorcycle. Just then, Heather shows up with breakfast, but before she can hand it over, a bullet crashes through the window and hits her. Another shot follows, hitting Travis, who dies in Logan's arms. A helicopter approaches, firing missiles and blowing up the barn. But Logan escapes just in time, speeding away into the woods on the motorcycle. Once back on the road, he's pursued by military tanks. Logan quickly turns around and attacks. Using his claws, he disables one of the tanks, nearly hitting the helicopter. The pilot manages to dodge the wreckage and Logan tries to fire a cannon at him. In the chaos, the agents accidentally destroy one of their own tanks. Seizing the moment, Logan jumps onto the helicopter and tears apart its rotors, sending it into a violent crash. Maverick survives the wreck and Stryker radios in to check if Weapon X is dead. Logan grabs the radio and gives a clear message. Once he finishes Victor, he's coming for Stryker next. Before leaving, Wolverine strikes his claws together to spark a flame. He lights the spilled fuel and walks away as the helicopter explodes behind him. After hours on the road, Logan arrives in Las Vegas and tracks down an old teammate, John. The two catch up and John explains that after Logan left, Victor grew even more violent. When Stryker began hunting down mutants, John walked away from the team. Logan asks if John knows anything about an island. Before escaping Stryker's lab, he overheard mention of such a place. John says he doesn't know much but suggests that Fred might. Since leaving the team, Fred's life has spiraled. He's developed an eating disorder and put on a lot of weight. John warns Logan not to mention it when they find him. But when Logan approaches Fred, he does exactly the opposite. He calls him fatty, and Fred reacts by punching Logan so hard he's sent flying. To get Fred to talk, Logan steps into the ring with him. They begin to fight. Logan's punches do nothing and Fred knocks him down again and again. But Fred doesn't know Logan's skeleton is now coated in adamantium. When Fred tries to finish the fight with a headbutt, he staggers back in pain. Logan seizes the moment and knocks him out. When Fred wakes up, Logan demands to know where Victor is. Fred reveals that Victor is working with Stryker on the island. Together, they've been capturing mutants and taking them there for experiments. Logan suddenly understands it was all a setup. Kayla's death was meant to push him into agreeing to the adamantium procedure. Fred doesn't know the exact location of the island but says that one mutant escaped from it. His name is Remy LeBeau, better known as Gambit. Without wasting time, Logan heads off to find him. John decides to join him on the search. During class, a student named Scott Summers starts experiencing painful headaches. His teacher, frustrated, tells him to remove his sunglasses, but Scott refuses and insists he can't. As punishment, the teacher makes him stay after class. Later, while Scott is alone in the classroom, he sees a tall, menacing figure approaching. It's Victor, also known as Sabretooth. The mutant moves with animal-like speed and strength. Scott tries to run, but Victor quickly catches him and knocks him down. In the struggle, Scott's glasses fall off and his uncontrollable laser beam shoots out, destroying a large part of the school. Victor doesn't flinch. He captures Scott and holds him down until Stryker arrives. Stryker injects the boy with a sedative, preparing to take him to the mysterious island. That same night, Logan and John arrive at a nightclub where they find Remy LeBeau, Gambit, playing poker while Logan walks inside to speak with him. John waits near the entrance and spots Victor nearby. He follows him and discovers that Victor has just killed another old teammate, Bradley. Furious, John tries to avenge his friend, but Victor is too fast. He anticipates John's every move and kills him by punching straight through his chest. Inside, Logan is talking to Gambit. He tells the young man he needs to get to the island Gambit once escaped from. When Gambit sees Logan's dog tags, he realizes they're just like the ones worn by the people who captured him. Suddenly, Gambit attacks, charging his playing cards with energy and blasting Logan out of the nightclub. Logan stumbles outside and finds his brother standing over John's body. Filled with rage, Logan charges at Victor. He drives his claws into Victor's chest and prepares to finish him off. Until Gambit intervenes, he attacks with his staff, giving Sabretooth just enough time to get back on his feet and escape. Logan tries to chase him down, but Gambit blocks his path. He's terrified of being taken back to that island and would rather fight than risk capture. But even with his powers, he's no match for the new enhanced Logan. After defeating him, Logan makes things clear. He's going to the island to destroy Victor, Stryker, and everyone involved in the experiments. Hearing this, Gambit finally agrees to take him there. As their small plane approaches the island, Logan jumps out and dives into the water. He sneaks into the heavily guarded facility and makes his way straight to the lab where Stryker is waiting. Logan demands to know the truth. Why turn him into a weapon if Victor's attacks were all staged? Stryker finally reveals the plan. He never needed Logan just for his strength, he needed his DNA to complete a new creation. A powerful mutant called Deadpool. Thanks to Logan, they've now finished building Weapon 11. While they talk, Logan suddenly sees someone behind him. It's Kayla. Stunned, he doesn't believe it at first. He assumes it's a trick, another mutant disguised to mess with him. But Stryker tells him the truth. She's not an imposter, she's his wife. Stryker explains that on the day she supposedly died, Kayla was injected with a drug that slowed her heart rate until it looked like she had passed. She was never killed. She was forced to help Stryker because her sister Emma was being held captive on the island. Emma is a mutant with diamond-hard skin. Kayla's ability is to control anyone she touches. Stryker says everything between her and Logan was part of the plan. Their entire relationship was a lie. Hearing this, Kayla's eyes fill with tears, but she stays silent. She knows if she speaks up, her sister could be harmed. After Logan storms out, Kayla turns to Stryker and begs him to keep his word. She did everything he asked, and now he must release her sister. But Stryker refuses. He says Emma must remain in the lab because no one else has a mutation like hers. At that moment, Victor enters the lab. He's furious that Stryker let Logan live. When Kayla tries to stop him by using her power, Victor strikes her violently. Hearing her screams, Logan races back and throws himself at his brother. The two clash once again in a brutal fight. Logan gains the upper hand and has the chance to finish Victor off, but Kayla steps in. She reminds him that the man she fell in love with is not an animal. Logan lowers his claws. Instead of killing Victor, he knocks him unconscious and walks away. After the fight, Kayla assures Logan that she never used her powers to manipulate his feelings. What they shared was real. She explains that she only went along with Stryker's plan to protect her sister, Emma Frost. Hearing this, Wolverine decides to help Kayla rescue her. Meanwhile, Stryker orders the scientists to activate Weapon 11, even though the procedure isn't fully complete. As Logan makes his way through the facility, he sees cages filled with captured mutants. Without hesitation, he tears them open and sets the prisoners free. Just as they're about to escape through the main gates, Deadpool appears. Stryker's latest creation, once known as Wade, is now a mindless weapon under his control. Logan tells Kayla to lead the mutants through another exit while he stays behind to fight. Wolverine faces off against his former teammate, but this version of Wade is nearly impossible to stop. His healing ability is even faster than Logan's, making the battle incredibly difficult. Elsewhere in the compound, the freed mutants are ambushed by armed guards. In the chaos, Emma Frost transforms her skin into diamond, shielding the others while Scott Summers uses his laser blast to take out the enemies. Once the path is clear, Kayla tells her sister she can't come with them. She's been injured, but doesn't want Emma to know. She urges her to take the others and escape. Though confused by her sister's choice, Emma agrees and leads the group out, unaware that Kayla has been shot. Lost in the maze-like halls of the facility, the group begins to panic, until Scott hears a calm voice inside his head guiding him to safety. Wolverine in the meantime climbs to the top of the tower trying to escape the deadly weapon chasing him. But in an instant, Deadpool, now known as Weapon 11, teleports and appears right beside him. The creature drives its swords through Logan and prepares to finish him off. Suddenly, Victor, Sabretooth, arrives and knocks Deadpool away. He declares that only he has the right to kill his brother. With that, the two join forces to fight the monstrous mutant. Deadpool attacks both of them at once using his teleportation to stay one step ahead. Just as Victor believes he's caught him, Deadpool vanishes and reappears on the other side. Stryker activates Deadpool's next ability, optic blasts, just like Scott Summers. Deadpool fires laser beams from his eyes. Wolverine uses his claws to block the attack while Victor tries to strike him from behind, but the move fails and Victor is hit hard by the blast. Seeing his brother on the brink of death, Logan charges in and slashes Deadpool's neck, finally bringing him down. Even in death, Wade Wilson's eyes remain open as the tower begins to collapse around them. The laser beams tear through the structure. As a last resort, Stryker picks up a gun loaded with adamantium bullets and plans to shoot Wolverine in the head. He knows it won't kill him, Logan's body will heal, but it will erase his memories, making sure he never comes back for revenge. As the tower falls, Logan and Victor are forced to jump. Logan hits the ground and is nearly crushed by falling debris, but just in time, Gambit appears and shatters the massive concrete chunk with his staff, saving his life. Just then, Logan hears Kayla's voice calling out to him. He tells Scott Summers, the young mutant later known as Cyclops, to go help the others who are trying to escape the island. Logan rushes to Kayla's side. She looks up at him and softly says that she truly loves him. That's when he notices she's been shot. He lifts her in his arms, determined to carry her to safety. But before he can move, Stryker appears and opens fire. Logan charges at him, but Stryker shoots him in the head with an adamantium bullet. Logan drops to the ground unconscious. Stryker fires one more time, ensuring his memory is completely wiped. He then walks over to Kayla and points his gun at her. But before he can shoot, she manages to touch his foot. Using her power, she controls his mind instead of ordering him to end it. She tells him to walk until his feet bleed, and then keep walking. She refuses to become like him. Meanwhile, the rescued mutants make it to the surface. Waiting for them is Professor Charles Xavier. Scott realizes it was Xavier's voice he had heard in his head guiding them through the maze to freedom. Seeing that the others are safe, Remy LeBeau, Gambit, goes back to find Logan, who has just regained consciousness. But Logan remembers nothing. Looking at the dog tags around his neck, he learns his name is Wolverine. Confused, he asks where he is. Realizing what's happened, Gambit tells him they're friends. With no other option, Logan agrees to follow him. But as they walk, he spots Kayla's body. He doesn't recognize her, yet something about her feels familiar. In the distance, sirens begin to sound and Logan tells Gambit to go on without him and that he'll find his own way. X-Men Apocalypse opens back in 3600 BC, where a powerful mutant known as Apocalypse became the first of his kind. Using his incredible powers, he took control of ancient Egypt and ruled as pharaoh, forcing everyone to bow before him. But his body couldn't last forever. To stay alive, he needed to move his mind into a new body, one that could heal itself quickly. He found the perfect mutant for this and began the transfer. However, just as the process started, a group of soldiers who were tired of his rule decided to stop him. They knocked over a large sandstone block, damaging the pyramid and causing it to collapse. Still, Apocalypse managed to complete the transfer just in time. His loyal followers used their powers to protect him with a force field shielding him as they were all buried under tons of rock. More than 5,500 years later, in 1983, a teenager named Scott Summers is in class, learning about the 1973 battle at the White House. Suddenly, his eyes start to bother him and he begins blinking quickly. He asks to go to the bathroom and stares at himself in the mirror, trying to figure out what's wrong. Meanwhile, another student wrongly thinks Scott winked at his girlfriend and follows him in, ready to fight. Scott locks himself in a stall and the bully starts banging on the door. Frustrated and angry, Scott opens his eyes and a powerful energy blast shoots out, destroying part of the bathroom. Afterward, Scott's parents realize he needs help. His older brother Alex decides to take him to the X-Mansion, hoping Professor Charles Xavier can help Scott understand and control his powers. As soon as Scott arrives at the mansion, the headmaster, Professor Xavier, steps outside to meet him. He gently asks Scott to remove the blindfold covering his eyes. When Scott finally does, Xavier is shocked by the power of his optic blasts, and immediately decides to enroll him at the school. Meanwhile, on the eastern side of Berlin, a young mutant named Angel is fighting in an underground fight club. He's already won 10 matches in a row and is now the crowd favorite to win his 11th. The announcer hypes up the next match by calling in a demon, and the crew releases Nightcrawler into the cage, a blue mutant with the power to teleport. Nightcrawler doesn't want to fight. He starts teleporting around the cage, trying to avoid conflict, but ends up hitting the high-voltage electric grid that surrounds the ring. Outside the cage, Mystique sees her son being electrocuted and can't stand by. She rushes over and pulls the lever that controls the power, forcing the circuit to overload. Back in the cage, Kurt decides he has no choice. He teleports behind Angel and throws him into the electric barrier, burning one of his wings badly. The hit causes the transformer to explode and the audience quickly flees in panic. With the chaos giving them an opening, Mystique enters the cage, finds Nightcrawler, and leads him away from the mess. In Egypt, a CIA agent named Moira is investigating a strange cult. She notices several people with a mysterious symbol tattooed on their necks and quietly follows them. The trail leads her to a young man covering something with a rug. Curious, she asks if the item is for sale, but the man becomes defensive and tries to force her out. Acting quickly, Moira knocks him out and pulls back the rug, revealing a hidden entrance to an ancient underground cave. Inside, she discovers a small golden pyramid. She quietly hides and begins taking photos while a group of men gathers around the object, praying. As time passes, sunlight slowly shines into the cave and strikes the pyramid. The symbols on it begin to glow with golden light, which travels through the ground and awakens Apocalypse from his deep slumber. Now reawakened, the powerful mutant absorbs the energy from the symbols. As his strength returns, he rises and begins lifting the heavy rocks buried over his body. The force he unleashes is so strong it blows apart the cave and causes a massive earthquake, one powerful enough to be felt all the way in the Soviet Union. There, Magneto is living in hiding, working at a metal factory. During the tremor, a vat of molten metal breaks free and nearly crushes one of the workers. Without thinking, Eric uses his magnetic powers to save the man, exposing who he really is. Realizing he's been seen, Magneto knows he must run and quickly rushes home. Eric tells his wife to get their daughter ready quickly so they can escape. But when she goes to the bedroom, she realizes their little girl is missing. In a panic, Eric runs out into the forest, calling for his daughter, only to find her already surrounded by Soviet soldiers. They're armed with wooden weapons and bows, claiming they just want to talk. One of the officers tells Eric that his co-workers reported something unusual at the factory. He then shows Eric a newspaper article linking him to the 1973 White House attack. Knowing he's been exposed and accused of causing many deaths, Magneto agrees to surrender, on one condition: his daughter must be released. But when the girl sees her father being taken away, she panics. Her powers awaken, summoning hundreds of birds that swarm the soldiers. In the middle of the chaos, one soldier fires an arrow. It strikes the girl in the back and passes through her, hitting Eric's wife in the heart. Both fall to the ground, lifeless, killed by a single shot. Shocked and devastated, Eric rushes to them and cradles their bodies in his arms. But his grief quickly turns into rage. Taking the small pendant he had once given to his daughter, he launches it with deadly force, striking down every soldier nearby. In just one moment, he ends the lives of more than 10 men. At the X-Mansion, one of the most powerful young mutants, Jean Grey, begins having disturbing visions of Apocalypse. Professor Xavier senses something is wrong and uses his telepathic abilities to enter Jean's mind and pull her out of the trance. But once inside, he sees the same vision himself, and it deeply unsettles him. Charles begins to fear these visions may be a warning of something catastrophic, possibly linked to the recent earthquake. To investigate further, he puts on the neural helmet and projects his mind to Cairo, the place where it all began. While exploring the vision, he spots Moira exiting the ancient cave and decides to reach out to her, hoping the CIA might have information about the strange tremors in Egypt. Meanwhile, Apocalypse rises from his tomb and walks through the streets of Cairo. He notices a young girl using her powers to create a sandstorm, helping her steal goods from local merchants. During her escape, she gets cornered. Just then, Apocalypse appears and asks who rules the world today, but speaks in ancient Egyptian, which no one understands. Growing impatient with the confused humans around him, he lashes out. With a small swirl of sand, he decapitates the merchants and turns another man's body completely to stone. At the CIA headquarters, Alex and Professor Xavier visit Moira's office to ask about the situation in Egypt. There, they learn that Moira has been investigating a secret cult that believes in the existence of the world's first mutant, and is working to bring him back. Moira explains that this ancient being is called Apocalypse, and he was born tens of thousands of years ago. Over the centuries, he gained the power to transfer his consciousness into other bodies, and by doing so, he also absorbed their abilities. As a result, Apocalypse collected the powers of countless mutants over many generations. With so much power, he eventually chose 4 special followers to expand his strength even further and protect him. Now that he's returned, he's planning to do the same again. His first choice is a young mutant named Storm. She brings him to her hideout and tries to speak with him, but he doesn't understand her language. Instead, Apocalypse connects to the television, absorbing every modern language and learning what has happened over the past 5,000 years. Realizing that the weak now control the world, Apocalypse decides it's time for change. To start, he boosts Storm's powers, preparing her to join him in carrying out his plan. Back in Berlin, Mystique visits a black market dealer named Caliban to buy fake documents. She wants to help Kurt, also known as Nightcrawler, leave the country and live a safe, normal life. While Kurt is busy taking photos for the passport, Caliban mentions he has news about Magneto. He tells Mystique what happened to Eric's family. Hearing this, Mystique immediately changes her plans. She decides to head to the United States and inform Professor Xavier of everything she has just learned. Not long after Mystique and Kurt leave, Storm and Apocalypse arrive at Caliban's shop. They ask for information about powerful mutants, but they have no money to offer. Caliban refuses to help and pulls out a revolver to defend himself. But Apocalypse easily disintegrates the weapon with his powers. Seeing that Caliban is in danger, a mutant named Psylocke who works with him steps in to protect him. She summons a glowing sword made from energy and stands her ground, but instead of feeling threatened, Apocalypse is impressed by her abilities. He decides to recruit her to his team, boosts her powers, and promises her freedom in return for her loyalty. Soon after, Psylocke teleports the group to where Angel is hiding. Apocalypse sees potential in him and decides to recruit him as well. Using his powers, Apocalypse repairs Angel's damaged wings and transforms him into Archangel, a mutant with powerful metallic wings that can launch razor-sharp feathers like deadly blades. Meanwhile, in Poland, Magneto is ready to take his revenge. He returns to the metal factory where he once worked. Locking all the doors and stopping the machines, he gathers the workers' attention. Filled with pain and anger, he tells them that soon their families will feel the same loss he has suffered, because he plans to eliminate them all. Just then, Storm, Psylocke, Archangel, and Apocalypse appear behind Eric. Thinking they've come to stop him, he prepares for a fight, but Apocalypse tells him that's not the case. Without hesitation, Apocalypse uses his powers to disintegrate all the humans in the factory. With the destruction complete, Apocalypse turns to Eric and says he came for him. He invites Magneto to join them and takes him to the remains of the prison where Eric's powers first appeared. There, Apocalypse speaks to him about his painful past and admits he couldn't protect him during World War II, but promises to make him invincible now. Finally, Apocalypse increases Magneto's powers and tells him to test them. Eric reaches out, controlling the metals in the ground with ease, and uses his new strength to completely destroy the ruins around them. In the United States, one of my favorite characters, Peter, or Quicksilver, watches a news report about Eric's attack in Poland. He decides to go to Xavier's school for help in finding him because even though no one knows it, Peter is actually Magneto's son. At the X-Mansion, Mystique reunites with Hank and leaves Nightcrawler with Cyclops while she waits for Professor Xavier to return. It isn't long before Charles arrives, accompanied by Moira. He's surprised to see Mystique again and asks for a moment alone with his old friend. Once they're alone, Mystique tells Charles about Eric's reappearance and the loss of his new family. She asks for help to find him before it's too late. To do this, Xavier uses Cerebro, the neural helmet that allows him to locate and connect with other mutants. He successfully reaches Magneto's mind even from across the world. Charles speaks to Eric and asks him to return to the X-Mansion, but Eric refuses. He says that soon everyone will feel the same pain he does at that moment. Apocalypse senses Xavier's presence. Using his powers, he takes control of the telepath's mind and connects to people all over the globe, forcing nations to launch their nuclear weapons into the sky, leaving the world completely exposed. In a panic, Hank tries everything he can to shut down the system. When that fails, Xavier tells Alex to use his powers to destroy Cerebro before Apocalypse causes the missiles to strike. Alex unleashes an energy blast, damaging the system just in time. The missiles remain orbiting in space and the neural link is broken. But just as they catch their breath, Magneto appears through a portal. Using his powers, he pulls Xavier's wheelchair and takes him away. Alex tries to stop them, firing an energy blast at Apocalypse. But the villain escapes just in time and the blast strikes a piece of the mansion's equipment, causing a massive explosion. Outside, Quicksilver senses that something is wrong. He instantly activates his super speed, slowing down time around him. Rushing into the X-Mansion, he moves through the chaos, rescuing Mystique and the others from the flames before they're hit. On the first floor, several students are moments away from being caught in the explosion, but Quicksilver reaches them just in time, moving from room to room at lightning speed. With the mansion filled with students, he makes sure every single one is safe before the fire can reach them. After the blast, Scott returns with Nightcrawler and begins calling out for his brother. But Alex had been closest to the center of the explosion, and he was the first to be hit by the flames. Sadly, Quicksilver wasn't able to reach him in time. As Cyclops struggles to process the loss, Jean Grey suddenly picks up on someone's thoughts approaching. Acting quickly, she hides in the rubble along with Scott and Nightcrawler. They watch as the military arrive, landing a helicopter and unleashing a hypersonic weapon to knock everyone out. Once the area is cleared, one soldier moves through the rubble to check for survivors. Jean quietly uses her powers to control his mind, making him believe that the spot where they're hiding is just a pile of concrete. As the helicopter prepares to leave, Scott turns to Nightcrawler and asks him to teleport them on board. The three mutants vanish from the wreckage and reappear inside the aircraft, heading straight to the enemy's base. At the enemy base, Colonel Stryker accuses Professor Xavier of being responsible for the warhead launches. But Moira steps in, warning him that there's someone much more powerful they need to worry about now. Meanwhile, Scott and the others try to figure out how to rescue their captured friends. Elsewhere, Apocalypse waits for Professor Xavier to wake up. Once he does, Apocalypse forces him to use his powers to send a message to the entire world. Speaking through Charles, the villain warns all of humanity that the first mutant has returned, and that soon they will be wiped out. But while delivering this message, Xavier secretly reaches out to Jean Grey using telepathy. He connects with her mind and sends her his exact location, asking her to gather the other mutants and come save him. As Jean, Scott, and Nightcrawler look for a way to help, they're spotted by a security guard. The man fires at them, forcing Kurt to teleport them out just in time. Luckily, they end up in the generator room, where they can shut off the power and make it easier for their friends to escape. While searching for the controls, Jean hears someone breathing inside a large reinforced box. She feels a strong presence and decides to free the person inside. Before she can act, 3 soldiers enter the room, and the group hides. Still using her telepathy, Jean unlocks the box from a distance. Inside is Wolverine, who bursts out in a rage and attacks the soldiers. Overwhelmed with fury, he quickly takes them down. Watching his men fall, Stryker panics and flees the scene. Wolverine finishes the fight, then begins to search for a way out. Realizing something isn't right with him, Jean runs after Wolverine and removes a neural helmet from his head. This action restores part of Logan's memories before he disappears into the forest. With the power now off, Nightcrawler heads to the control room. He warns his friends to step back from the door, then Cyclops blasts it open using his optic powers. Reunited at last, the young X-Men return to the X-Mansion. They quickly board a jet and head off on a new mission, flying straight to Egypt to rescue Professor Xavier. In Egypt, Apocalypse begins his final plan. He wants to take over Professor Xavier's telepathic powers. While preparing for the transfer, he commands Magneto to destroy everything humans have built. Following the order, Eric uses his powers to disturb Earth's magnetic field. He starts pulling in shipwrecks, creating massive storms and earthquakes across the globe. With the planet on the brink of collapse, Apocalypse traps Xavier on a raised platform and explains how his powers will help him. Using Charles's mind, the villain says he'll be able to reach anyone anywhere and control them at will. After a long journey, the X-Men finally arrive in Egypt. Mystique decides to take Quicksilver to confront Magneto while the rest focus on rescuing Professor Xavier. Using his incredible speed, Peter races toward his father, but a powerful magnetic field surrounds Eric, keeping anyone from getting too close. At the base of the pyramid, Angel suddenly attacks the X-Men. Hank tells Nightcrawler to head inside and rescue the professor. But Angel notices the plan and breaks off the fight to chase after him. Meanwhile, the other heroes rush toward the pyramid's entrance. There, Storm appears to block their path. She hurls a car at Beast, who catches it and throws it right back. Just then, Psylocke shows up and slices the vehicle in two with her energy blades. She joins Storm to fight side by side, trying to keep the X-Men separated. Inside the pyramid, Nightcrawler quickly teleports from room to room searching for Xavier, but he's suddenly caught off guard by Archangel, who attacks him from behind and grabs hold of his tail. Still teleporting, Kurt shifts the fight all over the pyramid until he finally manages to trap Archangel inside a metal cage, clearing the way to reach the professor. Outside the pyramid, Hank is locked in a tough battle with Psylocke. She wraps her energy whip around his neck and slams him against the wall, dragging him across the ground as he struggles to breathe. Just when it seems like he might lose his life, Hank manages to break free and lands a powerful kick, sending Psylocke flying into the roof of a nearby building. While Cyclops is still trying to land a shot on Storm, Nightcrawler reaches Professor Xavier, just in time to find him losing his hair as the transfer begins. Kurt quickly teleports Charles into the jet, rescuing Jean Grey along the way. Back outside, Cyclops and Storm continue to fight when Kurt reappears. He tells Scott to put on his visor, then teleports him into the jet. With only Beast left to rescue, the team is almost ready to leave Egypt and return to the United States. But just as Moira powers up the jet, Archangel breaks free. He finds Psylocke and carries her up toward the aircraft. To help them reach the jet, Psylocke uses her sword to slice open the ceiling. Nightcrawler quickly teleports everyone back to the ground, giving Jean the chance to tilt the jet downward. The villains crash into the earth below. Archangel, unable to escape in time, is caught in the explosion and dies in the wreckage. Psylocke, however, survives by leaping out and using her blade to slow her fall against a nearby building. Meanwhile, Mystique tries once more to convince Magneto to stop fighting. At that moment, the explosion grabs their attention, and Quicksilver finally steps into the battle. Using his super speed, he unleashes a series of rapid punches on Apocalypse before the villain can react. Though slower, Apocalypse uses his sand manipulation to trap Peter's feet. With the speedster stuck in place, the mutant strikes back, breaking Peter's legs with every blow. Then Psylocke appears. Apocalypse offers her the chance to finish the fight, but instead of siding with him, she raises her katana and aims for his neck. Thanks to the powers he has absorbed, Apocalypse quickly recovers and catches her by the throat, only to discover that it isn't Psylocke at all, it's Mystique in disguise. Seeing his friend in danger, Professor Xavier finally decides to act. Using his telepathic powers, he enters Apocalypse's mind, attempting to overpower him from within. But Apocalypse proves too strong even on the mental plane. He blocks Xavier's attacks and strikes back inside his consciousness. Through the mental link, Apocalypse discovers Xavier's exact location and begins walking toward him in the real world. Just as he's about to reach him, Magneto finally steps in. He uses his power to hurl massive amounts of metal at the villain, trying to crush him from all sides. Realizing Apocalypse is holding his ground, Beast rushes into the battlefield to carry away the wounded. Cyclops joins Magneto, combining his optic blasts with Eric's metal manipulation to try and break through the enemy's defenses. Despite the onslaught, Apocalypse continues fighting Xavier in the mental realm while fending off the others in the physical world. Seeing her teacher and friends on the verge of defeat, Jean Grey finally unlocks the full strength of the Phoenix Force. With a single powerful wave of energy, she shatters Apocalypse's shield completely. Now exposed, the villain is struck by Magneto's steel beams, the combined attacks of the X-Men and Jean's raging flames. Overwhelmed, Apocalypse's body is disintegrated, erased by the sheer force of their united power. With her master's defeat, Psylocke gets up and leaves without anyone noticing. Moira quickly rushes to the professor and Jean uses her powers to wake Xavier from his trance. The professor looks around and thanks everyone. He then turns his attention to Moira and thanks her for the second time. He brings her memories back that he once took from her, and she breaks down in tears. With Apocalypse's defeat, the heroes save the world from destruction, and in the aftermath, mutants are finally accepted by humans, allowing them to live in peace at the X-Mansion. There, Quicksilver looks up at his father, who doesn't yet know he has a son below him. However, Quicksilver chooses to remain quiet. Sometime later, Xavier and Eric have a heart-to-heart. Xavier tries to tell his friend to remain at the school with him, but as they share different ideals, Eric chooses to part ways for the time being. With calm restored, the X-Men take this moment to recover and prepare for the challenges that still lie ahead. X-Men Dark Phoenix begins in 1975, where an 8-year-old Jean Grey is traveling with her parents, but she isn't happy listening to classical music, so her mother politely tells her that when she grows up she can listen to whatever she wants. The radio suddenly changes channels on its own, and Jean tries to stop it, but she unintentionally sends their car towards the incoming traffic, leading to a devastating accident. At the hospital, everyone's shocked that she didn't suffer even a minor injury, and they wonder how they will share the bad news with her. Later, Professor Charles Xavier meets her and she questions if her parents are dead, so he confirms her suspicion. She wonders what will happen to her. So Xavier invites her to his school for gifted individuals, saying it's up to her whether she uses her powers for good or bad. They soon arrive at the school, but Jean fears she may break things, so he reassures her that he will fix whatever she breaks. She asks if he can fix her as well, but he rejects it, saying she isn't broken. In 1992, the US launches a space shuttle, but shortly after liftoff they detect something unusual on the satellite and lose contact with the crew. While watching the news, Hank realizes what Xavier must be thinking, so he reminds him that their jet isn't designed to go that high. Suddenly, the phone rings and it's the president asking them to rescue the astronauts, so the X-Men gear up for their next mission. Raven explains that it's a simple extraction where they go into space, save the astronauts and bring them back home, but Jean asks her if they will be alright, so she assures her that if anything goes wrong, she won't hesitate to turn back for their safety. The news of the X-Men being called to rescue the astronauts goes worldwide and everyone is glued to the TV screens. Meanwhile, Xavier uses Cerebro to contact NASA, and he asks them to update him on the situation. The director informs him that they believe the heat from the solar flares disrupted their electrical systems, leading to a total loss of control and communication with Earth. The X-Men arrive at the site where they witness the solar flare and see the space shuttle spinning rapidly out of control. Hank fears that the cabin can't hold for long, so Raven wonders if Kurt can get in there. He explains that it's spinning too fast and he can't see inside the window, so Raven orders Scott to slow it down by blasting the thruster. As the shuttle slows down, Kurt teleports there along with Peter, while Raven tells Storm to seal up the cracks. Peter uses his speed to send all the astronauts towards Kurt, who teleports them back to their jet. Just as they're about to leave, they learn that the commander is still in there, working on the thruster. Storm warns them that she can't hold any longer, but Xavier orders them to save the commander, as he thinks Jean can hold the shuttle. She agrees to help, but she notes that she can't help from outside the ship, but Hank tells Raven they only have 1 minute before the flares hit the shuttle. Jean leaves with Kurt, but just as he finds the commander, they run out of time and the flares hit her. Kurt returns with the astronaut and they prepare for an impact, but Jean absorbs the solar flare, making her lose consciousness. Kurt teleports her back to the ship and they're all relieved to see her alive. The X-Men receive a warm welcome on their return to Earth, but Raven isn't happy that Xavier put them in danger. He justifies it, saying it's their only option. Otherwise, the humans will start seeing them as enemies again. Hank checks Jean, and although her vitals are within the normal range, he notices her strength has increased exponentially. After that, Jean meets Scott, and he wonders if she's alright. So she replies that she feels great. Meanwhile, a woman is having dinner with her family when she hears her dog barking, so she goes outside to check. She fearfully sees several aliens emerging from the woods, and one of them assumes her identity after killing her. Back at the school, they hold a small party where everyone has fun, and Scott tells Jean how everyone's calling her a phoenix. Raven suggests to Hank that they should also move on with their lives because she doesn't like how Xavier is controlling their lives. They suddenly notice that something is wrong with Jean, but before they can get to her, she loses control of her telekinetic powers and loses consciousness. Xavier excuses himself from the event held in their honor and immediately returns to the school. He tries to see what the problem is, but he's unable to penetrate her mind, so he decides to use the Cerebro. As they enter her mind, he tells them that he had to build walls within Jean's mind to keep out all the trauma, but he thinks those walls have been torn down and she's experiencing PTSD. Jean suddenly wakes up and she tells him she heard her father's voice, but he insists she's just hearing things and she needs rest. She refuses to trust him, so Xavier forces Hank to increase Cerebro's power, but it proves too much for him, and he loses consciousness. Scott rushes toward Jean's room to check on her, but she feels bad for hurting him earlier. She tells him that she needs to go because she can hear her father's voice, which means he's alive. He insists on going with her, but she fears she will hurt him, so she uses her powers to knock him out. When he regains consciousness, he tells Xavier that she's going to see her father, so they all get ready to bring her home. Elsewhere, Vuk meets the remaining members of the Dabari Empire, a race of shape-shifting aliens. Vuk thinks they can use Jean's lack of knowledge about her powers to resurrect her race. Beginning a new life on Earth, Jean in the meantime goes to her old neighborhood and she meets her father, but she soon realizes that he gave her to Xavier since he couldn't understand her powers. He tries to calm her down, but she gets angry with him, so he reminds her that she was responsible for her mother's death. She feels overwhelmed remembering all that, but she suddenly senses that Xavier and others have arrived there, so she knocks him out before going out to confront them. Xavier tries to convince Jean to come back, but she feels betrayed since she thinks he used her for her powers. Scott reminds her of her promise to come back to him, but they're interrupted by the police sirens, and she once again loses control of her powers. She flips the police cars and tries to fly out of there, but Kurt manages to grab her and he teleports them to a house, but she brutally defeats him, crushing him under the debris. They all try to attack her simultaneously, but she is more powerful than all of them combined, and she even sees through Peter's lightning-fast attack and severely injures him. Hank has a clear shot at her, but Xavier stops him because he wants Raven to try it one last time. Raven asks Jean to come back, but she warns her to stay away because she hurts people who come close to her. Raven tells her that she isn't afraid of her, but when she continues to come closer, Jean loses control and she accidentally kills Raven by pushing her into sharp pieces of wood. Hank rushes to her and she dies in his arms while confessing her love for him. Hank blames Xavier for Raven's death, but he shows no guilt, so Hank mentions that Raven wanted to leave because of his selfish nature, but he talked her out of it. On the other hand, Vuk visits Jean's father, and she demands that he tell her everything about Jean, but he refuses to talk without his lawyer, so she tortures the information out of him. Jean goes to the island of Genosha, where Eric leads his group of mutants. They are alarmed by her surprise visit, but Eric calms them down and invites her in. She questions how he stopped hurting people, and he explains that he thought killing others would bring him peace, but it never happened, so he eventually stopped. He notices blood on her shirt and asks about it, but she refuses to answer his questions. They are interrupted by the arrival of army helicopters and Eric goes to check it. Eric reminds the officer that the land was given to them by the US government, and they have every right to be there, but the officer tells him he's looking for Jean. He mentions how she attacked the police, but as they're talking about her, Jean gets angry and she uses the army helicopter to hit the soldiers, which destroys it, and its blade nearly hits Eric. Jean takes control of the second helicopter, but Eric intervenes and stops her from destroying it. He urges everyone to get on the chopper and leave because he can't hold it much longer. After that, he urges Jean to leave, saying that she's endangering everyone by staying. Xavier sees the news and he tries to explain their situation to the president, but he's told that the line will no longer be operational. Meanwhile, Vuk finds Jean at a bar despite her disguise, so Jean wonders who she is. She dodges the question and starts manipulating Jean by reminding her how everyone abandons her because they think she's evil, but she believes these are just words. Hank takes the X-Jet to meet Eric, who reveals that Jean has already left. Hank tells him about Raven's death and requests his help in finding her, but Eric warns him that if he finds Jean, he will kill her. Vuk takes Jean to her mansion, and she shows her that what entered her body in space wasn't a solar flare, and it wasn't an accident because it was drawn to her. She reveals that her race was also in space following the Force because it consumed her world. Before entering Jean's body, this Force annihilated everything it came in contact with, meaning that Jean is very special. Vuk offers Jean help in achieving her destiny of becoming the greatest force in the galaxy capable of creating whole new worlds. In the meantime, Eric and Hank get information about Jean, so they get ready to avenge Raven, while Xavier, unable to track her himself, relies on Eric to lead him to her. Xavier tells Kurt and Storm that they have found Jean, but Eric and his mutants wish to kill her. He thinks they should stay back because Eric won't hesitate to kill them, but they volunteer to accompany him, so Kurt teleports everyone there. Eric and his team also arrive in New York, where Xavier pleads with him to spare Jean, arguing that killing her won't bring Raven back and will only make the world see them as violent freaks. But Eric ignores him. Scott tries to stop him, but while they're occupied with each other, Hank attacks him from behind. They are all fighting each other, and Vuk tells Jean that they want to kill her. Eric uses his powers to force an underground train to the surface, and he uses it to create an entrance for himself. He confronts Jean for Raven's death, but he's unable to hurt her, and she overpowers him with her telekinetic power, sending him flying out of the window. Xavier asks Scott for help, and with Kurt's teleportation powers, he too enters the house. Jean asks him if he also wishes to kill her, but he rejects it and apologizes for not being an ideal guardian to her. He notices Vuk, but he can't read her mind, and Jean uses her powers to make him walk to her, so he urges her to look into his mind. She sees that he always gave her a choice and he had faith in her when even her own father gave up on her. He tells her there is still hope, but Vuk tells her it was just the past and she should follow her into the future, but Jean rejects it, saying she never asked for it. She allows Vuk to take the powers from her, but Xavier tells her to stop since it might kill her. Vuk believes their lives mean nothing and she plans to kill them all, but luckily Scott arrives just in time to save her. However, the mutant containment unit also arrives there and restrains all the mutants, allowing Vuk to escape. While they're being transferred, Xavier accepts that Raven died because of his mistake and Jean is innocent. However, he mentions that the power inside her wasn't his doing, as he would never intentionally harm her. He thinks they still have hope, so Eric wonders what's controlling her. But even Xavier is clueless about it. He tells them that Vuk will come after her soon, and Eric thinks they should let her die. But Xavier warns him that the killing won't stop at Jean. Just then, the Dabari attack the train transporting the mutants, so the commander sends soldiers to stop them, but Eric warns him that they aren't mutants and they can't deal with them alone. The mutant containment unit has never faced such enemies, so their weapons fail to cause any damage. The commander wants an update on the attackers, but he's informed that they aren't mutants and Scott tells him that they are looking for Jean. Kurt offers to help if they free them, but the commander orders his men to stand ready as something powerful keeps striking the metal door. The aliens break the metal door and a fight ensues, but the soldiers are no match for them, so they free the mutants. The aliens ask them to step aside since they only want Jean, but Hank refuses because it's what Raven would have wanted. The mutants realize their attacks have little effect on the aliens, so they just try to slow them down and throw them off the train. Scott takes Xavier to see Jean, while the rest of the group engages in a fierce fight with the aliens. Kurt tries to save the soldier who freed them, but he's unable to teleport him before the Dabari lands a lethal hit on him. Kurt gets angry and takes out several enemies, teleporting one right into the path of the train while Storm helps Eric push back their enemies. Eric manages to trap them all in one compartment and removes it from the train, but Vuk arrives and jumps directly on Hank. Storm tries firing lightning at Vuk, but she had already taken some of Jean's powers, so she uses that for a counterattack. Kurt then wakes up and he tries to avenge his friend, but Vuk simply knocks him out with Jean's powers. She then tells Eric that she doesn't wish to fight him, and she reminds him how he wanted to kill Jean, but he tells her that he had a change of heart. He shoots all the guns at her, but that does not affect her at all, and she continues to move toward him. Meanwhile, Xavier tries to wake up Jean, and he reminds her that he was just trying to protect her from all that pain. She enters his mind since it's more peaceful there, and he tells her that he just wanted her to experience a happy family. The remaining aliens continue to fight the mutants, and Vuk easily neutralizes Eric from her path. Jean senses Vuk has arrived there, so she wakes up, telling Xavier that she must protect her family now. She makes a protective shield around all mutants nearby and safely sends them outside, where she gets ready to fight the Dabari race. They all rush at her, but she uses her powers to vaporize them with ease. Vuk rushes at her from behind and she attempts to drain all her powers, but she soon realizes it's too much for her. Jean refuses to let her go, and to protect her family, Jean takes her high into the sky before finishing her, creating a large phoenix. After that, we see that Xavier's school has been renamed to Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters, and Xavier decides to retire, so Hank becomes the new headmaster. After retirement, Xavier goes to Paris, where Eric comes to meet him, saying he remembers how Xavier gave him a place to stay, so he would like to return the favor now. He invites Xavier to play a game of chess, and the movie ends with us seeing a phoenix flying in the sky. X-Men begins in German-occupied Poland in 1944, where a family is being taken to a concentration camp. The adults are separated from the children, so they tear the teenage boy Eric Lencher away from his parents. He desperately tries to reach them, but the guards hold him back, and his strong emotions unintentionally manifest his powers, causing the metallic gate to bend towards him. But a guard strikes his head with his rifle butt, making him unconscious. A few years later in Meridian, Mississippi, Anna Marie, or Rogue, is studying with her boyfriend in her room. When they try to kiss each other, he suddenly collapses, so she screams and her parents rush upstairs. She insists that she didn't do anything except touch him, and her mother tries to console her, but Rogue pushes her away, fearing that she might harm her as well. In the present day, Jean Grey addresses the Senate about how mutations typically manifest during puberty, often triggered by emotional stress. Senator Kelly dismisses her explanation, arguing that mutants pose a clear danger to society, and if they truly have nothing to hide, they should all register themselves. The majority of the audience applauds his stance, and Professor Xavier notices Eric preparing to leave, so he quickly follows him outside. Xavier pleads with Eric not to abandon faith in humanity, but Eric responds that he has heard these arguments countless times before. Xavier reminds him that it happened decades ago, and humanity has progressed significantly since then. Eric believes mutants are the future, and Xavier should simply stay out of his path. Rogue flees her hometown to protect others from her dangerous power, and she reaches Laughlin City. She goes to a bar where she sees Logan brutally defeating his opponent in a cage fight. After the match ends, Wolverine's opponent demands payment, threatening to expose him as a mutant, but Wolverine ignores him, so he tries to attack him from behind. Wolverine scares him, and he splits the bar owner's gun in half with his metal claws.
Look out!
After that, he leaves in his truck, but Rogue secretly hides in the storage container on the back of his truck. After a while, he discovers her presence, and although he's hesitant at first, he allows her to accompany him. She introduces herself, and when he tells her to warm her hands using the heater, she pulls them back, saying people get injured when they touch her skin. She notices he isn't wearing a belt and suggests he should wear one, but he tells her that he doesn't require her guidance. Suddenly, a tree collapses in front of their vehicle, launching Logan through the windshield, and Rogue's seatbelt gets stuck. She notices that he has self-healing powers, which completely shocks her, and Logan realizes it wasn't just an accident. He senses someone's presence nearby, and he suddenly gets attacked by Sabretooth, who manages to overpower Logan, knocking him out with a strong hit. He begins advancing toward Rogue, but Storm and Scott suddenly arrive at the scene, and their combined attack forces him to retreat. They rescue Rogue and Logan, taking them to Xavier's School for Gifted Individuals. Sabretooth returns to the Brotherhood's hidden base, where he informs Eric that he failed in his mission because Xavier knew about their plan. But Eric remains confident that they don't know everything about their strategy, so they should continue preparing for the upcoming UN summit. Jean, in the meantime, helps Logan recover from his injuries, but when he regains consciousness, he tries to attack her and escape. However, Professor Xavier enters his mind telepathically and guides him to his office. Logan demands to know where he is, so Xavier explains that he was attacked, and his people brought him here for medical treatment. Logan asks about Rogue, so Xavier assures him she's safe and introduces him to Storm and Scott, who rescued him. Xavier reveals he was attacked by Sabretooth, who works for a powerful mutant named Eric, but they will keep him protected. Logan thinks it's some kind of joke, but Xavier tells him he knows Logan can't remember his past, so he offers to help recover those memories using his abilities. Logan remains suspicious, so Xavier demonstrates his powers by speaking into his mind, which makes Logan wonder what this place is. Xavier explains it's a school for gifted individuals, where he trains mutants to control their powers, but that's just their public face, as beneath the school they operate the X-Men headquarters. Xavier shares that as a boy he discovered he could control minds, and when he was 17 he met Eric, who could manipulate metal, but he believed humanity would never accept them. So he started his own group of mutants. He mentions that if they aren't stopped, they might end humanity. So he suggests making a deal with Logan that if he gives him 48 hours to find out what Eric wants with him, he will use his power to help piece together Logan's past. Meanwhile, Senator Kelly boards his helicopter, and he tries to convince the other senators to vote in favor of his Mutant Registration Act. But it turns out his assistant is actually Mystique in disguise, and she kidnaps him with her friend Toad's help. Jean examines Logan again, and he apologizes for attacking her earlier. She discovers that an indestructible metal called adamantium has been surgically grafted to Logan's skeleton, and he survived the procedure only because of his regenerative abilities. Meanwhile, Eric uses Senator Kelly as a test subject, and he uses his magnetic powers to create a radiation field that can transform normal humans into mutants. Jean takes Logan to his new room where he attempts to flirt with her, but she tells him she's already with Scott. He asks about her powers, so she explains she has telekinetic and telepathic abilities. He requests her to examine his mind, so she hesitantly probes his thoughts only to discover disturbing images of his tragic past, but she notices Scott outside and abruptly leaves. Logan teases Scott that he must be getting insecure, but Scott sarcastically reminds him how he was the one who saved his life, and he warns Logan to stay away from Jean. Later that night, Logan experiences a violent nightmare. So Rogue comes to wake him up, but he gets startled and accidentally stabs her with his claws. He gets worried and calls for somebody to help her, but she grabs his face and absorbs his healing powers through her skin. Logan falls unconscious as everyone rushes to the scene, and Rogue tells them it was just an accident. When Logan wakes up later, he asks if Rogue is safe, so Xavier tells him she's fine because she can absorb others' life force, and in the case of a mutant, she can absorb their power. Xavier explains that she used Logan's powers to heal herself, but if she had held on longer, Logan could have died. At the Brotherhood's hideout, Senator Kelly attempts to escape using his newly acquired elasticity powers, but Eric discovers him in the process. However, when Sabretooth tries to pull him back, Kelly slips from his grasp and falls into the ocean below, which greatly disappoints Eric, so he locks Sabretooth in his cage as punishment. Kelly manages to swim to the nearby shore, where everyone is shocked to see him, and he overhears the news report about the upcoming UN summit taking place on Ellis Island. Meanwhile, Rogue's friend Bobby tells her that she shouldn't have used her dangerous powers on a fellow mutant, and he believes the other children at the school are now frightened of her. He suggests she should leave the school, but we discover it's actually Mystique disguised as him. Logan informs Xavier that Rogue is missing, so Xavier uses the Cerebro helmet, explaining that it can help him find any mutant because it amplifies his telepathic powers. Logan wonders why he doesn't simply use it to find Eric's location, so Xavier explains they built the device together. So Eric has developed some sort of mental shield that prevents detection. They soon discover that Rogue is currently at the train station, so Xavier tells Storm and Scott to retrieve her, but Logan decides to go anyway, taking Scott's motorcycle without permission. Logan finds her on the train and they both apologize for last night. He wonders why she is leaving, so she explains that a boy told her Xavier was angry at her. Meanwhile at the school, Mystique enters the restricted Cerebro room, and she inserts a poisonous chemical into the Cerebro machine. In the train, Logan tells Rogue that Xavier can genuinely help her control her powers, so she should give them another chance and return to the school. Storm and Scott also arrive at the station, but while Storm is inquiring about Rogue's whereabouts, she suddenly gets attacked by Sabretooth, who chokes her. Scott tries to save her, but Toad removes his protective visor, so he accidentally blows up the entire station roof with his optic blast. It gives Storm the perfect opportunity to shoot powerful lightning at Sabretooth and successfully save herself from his grip. On the other hand, Eric attacks the train and he easily subdues Logan by controlling his adamantium skeleton. So Logan wonders what exactly he wants from him. Eric reveals that he doesn't need him at all because he is after Rogue. Eric exits the station, but the police are already surrounding the entire building. Eric uses his magnetic powers to snatch all their guns away and point them back at the officers. Xavier telepathically controls Sabretooth's brain and forces him to choke Eric, demanding to know what he wants from the innocent girl. Eric tells Xavier this is his best opportunity to kill him and save the girl, but several police officers will be sacrificed in the process. Xavier decides to release his hold and let him escape, so Eric and his team flee in the helicopter. Logan isn't happy with Xavier as he didn't protect Rogue, but Xavier explains that he couldn't read Eric's true thoughts because of his protective helmet. Logan decides to abandon them and search for Rogue on his own, but he encounters Senator Kelly at the door, who wishes to meet Dr. Jean Grey immediately. Xavier realizes that Kelly has been transformed into a mutant, so he uses his telepathic powers to revisit Kelly's recent memories and witness how Eric forcibly turned him into a mutant using his machine. Xavier explains to everyone how the machine works, while Jean explains that the mutation isn't biologically stable and Kelly's body is rejecting it. Logan realizes that since operating the machine significantly weakens Eric, he plans to make Rogue copy his magnetic powers, so she can operate the machine in his place instead. Xavier tells them that he will find Rogue and they should prepare for the mission, but Scott and Logan get in an argument about whether he should join them or not. Meanwhile, Senator Kelly asks Storm if she is afraid of humans, and she admits they are dangerous. He suddenly transforms into a transparent liquid, so she rushes to inform Xavier of his death. Xavier attempts to find Rogue using Cerebro, but the deadly toxin injected by Mystique affects his brain and he goes into a coma. Jean removes the poison from the Cerebro, and she uses the machine for the first time, but she struggles to bear the immense load it places on her brain. Scott rushes to check on her, and she tells him she has successfully discovered where Eric is taking Rogue. Meanwhile, Mystique and Toad take out several police officers who are performing their duties for the upcoming UN summit. Eric tells Rogue that she will be sacrificed for a great cause, as he intends to transform all the world leaders into mutants, so they will no longer view them as dangerous monsters. Scott explains how Eric is transporting Rogue to Liberty Island, and if he is successful, he will turn all the world leaders into mutants, but they think he doesn't know about Senator Kelly's death from the forced mutation. Scott details how they will fly in the advanced X-Jet to the far side of Liberty Island, but Logan wonders if the harbor patrol or any radar will spot their approach. However, Scott feels completely confident in their aircraft. They soon depart for the rescue mission, and Eric hears the noise of the approaching jet, so he realizes the X-Men are also there. He instructs Sabretooth to remain close by his side because he will be weakened after transferring his magnetic powers to Rogue. While entering the Statue of Liberty, Logan's adamantium skeleton triggers the security alarm, but he quickly destroys it with his sharp claws. He senses that someone else is also present in the building and warns the team to remain vigilant. Logan is suddenly attacked by Mystique, who has disguised herself as him. She drags him into a nearby room and locks the door before anyone can intervene. Scott prepares to blast the door open, but Toad pulls him aside and locks him behind an iron door. Toad then sends Storm to the next floor while focusing his attention on Jean. He tries to attack her, but Jean stops him midair using her telekinetic abilities. Toad spits disgusting fluid at her, which seals her mouth shut, and with her temporarily incapacitated, he pursues Storm and throws her down the elevator shaft. Meanwhile, Logan struggles against Mystique as her agile attacks stop him from getting too close to her. Scott destroys the door and he removes the sticky fluid from Jean's face. Storm also returns, and she uses a powerful wind to send Toad out of the building, but he narrowly saves himself by grabbing the metal railing with his tongue. However, Storm strikes him with lightning, making him fall into the water below. After that, we see Storm approaching Logan, but he senses she is Mystique, so he stabs her in the stomach. When Logan reunites with the rest of the group, they demand he prove his identity. Logan responds by mocking Scott in his characteristic manner, confirming that he is indeed the real Wolverine. They continue toward the top of the statue, but Logan suddenly feels paralyzed and tells the others to get out. Eric arrives and traps everyone using the surrounding metal. He positions Scott in front of Jean, and Sabretooth throws away his visor, so he can't open his eyes. Scott tells Storm to strike Eric with lightning, but he reminds them that lightning a huge copper conductor isn't wise. Eric tries contacting Mystique, but he can't reach her, so Jean tells him that Senator Kelly is dead and these people will die too if he uses his machine, but he doesn't trust her. Eric reminds them that those world leaders control every mutant's fate, but soon they will share the same destiny. Logan hears Rogue screams and calls Eric a coward for using the girl instead of doing it himself. Ignoring Logan, Eric flies to the top where Rogue is chained beside the machine. Meanwhile, Logan manages to free himself and pretends to be unconscious. When Sabretooth approaches, Logan stabs him with his claws, so he throws Logan outside. They fight each other until Sabretooth believes Logan has fallen off the statue, but he returns and helps Scott shoot Sabretooth out of the building. They realize Eric has transferred his powers to Rogue and is starting the machine. Logan asks Scott to shoot it, but Scott fears the machine is moving too fast and he might accidentally kill Rogue. Scott asks Storm if she can fly him up there, but she worries he might fly over the torch. Logan volunteers to go, saying if he fails, they can still shoot the machine. Storm successfully sends him there with Jean's help, but when Logan tries to destroy the machine, Eric uses all his remaining power to stop him. The summit participants notice the bright radiation field approaching them, but just before it can be completed, Scott shoots Eric, allowing Logan to destroy the machine. Logan notices Rogue won't survive, so he gently touches her face, letting her absorb his healing abilities. Meanwhile, Mystique takes the shape of a security guard and pretends to be injured, so they rescue her. Xavier wakes up from his coma and asks if they succeeded. Jean tells him yes and points toward Logan, who lies unconscious on the next bed. Logan soon recovers and he asks about Rogue, so Jean tells him she is well, but she seems to be attracted to him. However, he tells her that his heart belongs to only one woman. Later, Xavier fulfills his promise and tells Logan about his forgotten memories of a military compound at Alkali Lake in the Canadian Rockies. He warns him that there isn't much left, but Xavier thinks Logan might find some answers. Logan bids them farewell and gives Rogue his name tag, promising he will come back for it. In the end, we see that Mystique has stolen Senator Kelly's identity, convincing everyone against the bill, while Eric is trapped in a plastic prison. There, Xavier visits to play chess with him and sees if there is still any hope left for redemption. X-Men United begins as Kurt enters the White House and breaches the visitor's checkpoint. He uses his teleportation powers to move from one point to another, which confuses the Secret Service agents, making them believe there are multiple attackers. The security team covers the president's room, but Kurt still manages to overpower them and nearly kills the president before an agent shoots his arm. He flees the scene, leaving behind a knife with the message, "Mutant freedom now." Meanwhile, Logan travels to Alkali Lake in Alberta to find clues about his past, but he only finds an abandoned military compound. After failing to find any answers about his past, he decides to return to Xavier's school. On the other hand, the students go to the museum, and everyone enjoys the outing except for Jean, who struggles to control her powers as she unintentionally begins hearing other people's thoughts. Scott notices her distress and she explains that her telepathy has been unstable lately. He believes it's not just her telepathy that's changed, because in the past she had to focus just to lift a book, but now when she has nightmares the entire room shakes. She confides to him that her dreams are getting worse and she fears something terrible is about to happen. He tries to comfort her, promising that he won't let anything happen to her. Storm interrupts them, asking if they have seen Bobby and Rogue, so Jean tells her they're in the food court. The young mutants get into an argument with some other kids, but when they begin using their powers to show off, Xavier arrives and mentally freezes everyone except the mutants. They hear the news about the attack on the president, which makes them wonder who could be behind it. Scott suspects Eric's hand, and although Xavier thinks he has the resources to do that, he believes such actions would only hurt Eric's goal of mutant prosperity. Xavier mentions that he's been trying to locate the mutant responsible, but the attacker's movement is too erratic to pinpoint his exact location. He asks Storm and Jean to take the jet and try to capture him before the authorities do, while he and Scott will pay a visit to Eric. At the White House, Colonel William Stryker requests the president to approve an investigation on Xavier's school. Mystique, disguised as Senator Kelly, also arrives, and Stryker notes that Kelly's views on mutants have changed recently. He shows satellite images of the school to the president, showing the X-jet underneath the school's football field, but he asks for the source of Stryker's information, so he reveals he obtained it from one of the mutant terrorists involved in the Liberty Island incident, which intrigues Kelly. The president allows him to carry out the mission, but he urges him against killing any mutant, which might bring negative media coverage. As Stryker leaves the office, Kelly asks if he can arrange a visit with Eric, but Stryker firmly declines because of their opposite views on mutants. Logan returns to the school where Rogue rushes to meet him and introduces him to her boyfriend Bobby. Logan wonders how they manage physical contact, so she tells him they're still figuring it out. Jean welcomes him, and she informs him that they are going to track the mutant who attacked the president. Elsewhere, Stryker visits Eric's secret prison, and with the help of a guard named Lorio, he injects a chemical into Eric's brain before questioning him about Xavier's school and Cerebro. At the school, Xavier uses Cerebro to confirm the mutant's exact location, but Logan asks him to read his mind again, so Xavier tells him that no matter how many times he examines it, the results will remain the same. He reminds Logan that sometimes the mind needs to discover things on its own, and he promises to discuss the matter later when he returns. Before leaving, Xavier asks Logan to watch over the students at the school. Meanwhile, Mystique enters Stryker's office disguised as his assistant Yuriko, and from her computer, she discovers the location where Eric is being held, along with details about the guards. She also finds a folder labeled Cerebro, and she begins reading about how Stryker plans to create his own version of the device, but she's unable to find its exact location. She realizes the real Yuriko is coming, so she quickly disguises herself as a janitor and manages to escape. In Boston, Jean and Storm reach the church where Kurt is hiding. Jean realizes he's been teleporting everywhere, which explains why Xavier was unable to pinpoint his exact location. They ask him to come down, but he refuses, so Storm strikes him with lightning, causing him to fall. Jean catches him midair using her telekinetic powers, and Kurt desperately tries to convince them that he didn't mean to harm anyone, so they question him about the incident. He explains that he doesn't know how he got to the White House or how the attack happened because he only remembers it as a bad dream. He thinks he might have been tested for his faith, but they notice a strange mark behind his neck and he doesn't recognize where it's from. Storm asks Jean to check his memories, but she believes Xavier is better suited for this task. Logan wakes up after being haunted by memories of his past, and he meets Bobby in the kitchen having a late-night snack. Logan asks how Bobby's parents sent him to the mutant school, so Bobby explains that they don't know it's a mutant school because they think it's just a prep school. Meanwhile, Xavier and Scott reach the facility where Eric is being held, but the guards stop Scott, allowing only Xavier to meet with Eric. Xavier notices bruises on Eric's face and asks what happened to him. Eric mentions that Stryker has paid him several visits, and he wonders if Xavier has told Logan that Stryker was the one behind his mutation. Xavier tells him he has placed Logan on the right path as his mind is still fragile, but Eric wonders if Xavier is afraid of losing a soldier. Xavier reads his mind and he asks Eric what he has told them. So Eric confirms he has revealed everything, and he believes Xavier should have killed him when they had the chance. Suddenly, they are knocked out as someone injects gas into the chamber. Scott realizes something is wrong and tries to fight the guards, however, Yuriko knocks him out as well. Simultaneously, Stryker's team attacks the school and they start knocking out the sleeping students, but Logan hears their footsteps and he manages to take out a few attackers. He engages them while Bobby goes to find Rogue and Colossus helps most of the students escape through the underground tunnels. Logan reunites with the group and he tells them to escape while he keeps the attackers busy, but Rogue refuses to go without him. Logan asks the soldiers to shoot him, but Stryker recognizes his voice and commands them to stop. He calls him Wolverine, saying they are meeting after 15 years, and although Logan hasn't changed much, he has become old. Logan thinks he might finally get some answers about his past, but Bobby creates an ice wall between him and Stryker's men. Logan assures them that he will be fine, but Rogue tells him that they need him, so he decides to leave with them. They take Scott's car and Logan explains they are going to Boston since Jean and Storm are already there. So Bobby mentions that his parents also live there. Meanwhile, Stryker manages to steal Cerebro while Mystique seduces Lorio. She mixes a drug in his drink and after he loses consciousness, she injects a liquid into his body. Stryker confronts Xavier, explaining that he has placed a neural inhibitor on his head so he cannot use his powers. He resents Xavier because he sent his son Jason to Xavier's school, but when Jason returned home he blamed them for his condition, so he projected illusions in their minds, which led to Stryker's wife being killed in the process. Yuriko suddenly behaves strangely, so Stryker injects a strange liquid behind her neck where she has the same wound as Kurt. Xavier mocks him for keeping a mutant so close to him when he hates them so much, but Stryker notes they serve their purpose as long as they can be controlled. Stryker brings Jason, and he explains to Xavier that the liquid released by Jason's brain serves as a mind-controlling agent. Xavier reminds him that it's his son, but Stryker firmly replies that his son is already dead. Logan and the others arrive at Bobby's house, and although his family isn't present there, they soon arrive. They are surprised to see all of them, and Bobby tells them everything, which shocks his parents and causes his brother to go to his room and dial 911. In the prison, Lorio arrives, and Eric notices Lorio's blood iron level is quite high. He then forces it out of him, advising him against trusting beautiful women, which allows him to successfully escape the prison. Jean manages to contact Logan, so he informs her about the situation, urging her to pick them up from Bobby's house. The police officers suddenly surround the house, demanding that they surrender. They order Logan to place the knives down, but he shows them that he cannot do that. So an officer shoots him in the head. The remaining students surrender except Pyro, who uses his powers to attack them. Rogue notices he's spiraling out of control, so she grabs his leg to absorb his power. She extinguishes the fire and the X-Jet arrives just as Logan recovers from the gunshot, which shocks everyone. They board the jet, but on their way to the mansion they detect two jets approaching them on the radar. The Air Force commands them to lower their altitude and return with them to the base, but as they reduce the altitude, the military locks target on them. They try their best to evade the missiles and Storm creates several tornadoes which attempt to stop the pursuing aircraft, but she only manages to stop one of them. The second aircraft launches missiles at them just before being caught up in a tornado, so Jean uses her powers to redirect the missile's path, but the second missile strikes their jet. Rogue gets sucked out of the jet, but Kurt teleports her back inside, and just as they think they will crash, Eric arrives, stopping the jet from crashing. Eric reveals that Stryker attacked their school just to get to Cerebro, because he wishes to create his own version of it. Allowing him to connect with every mutant's mind, he adds that with a strong enough concentration, Stryker can even kill them all. But he needs Xavier to operate it, which is the only reason Xavier is still alive. Storm wonders how he knew about Cerebro. So Eric confesses that Stryker has powerful persuasion methods, under which he gave him the information. They are curious to know more about Stryker, so he explains that he is a military scientist who spent his whole life trying to solve the mutant problem. And if they wish to know more about him, they should ask Logan, which surprises him. Eric reveals that Stryker is the only person he knows who can control adamantium besides him, but Logan mentions Xavier didn't inform him of that. Eric suspects Xavier wanted him to discover it on his own, but he isn't as talented as Xavier thinks. He mentions that Mystique has learned that they are building the new Cerebro in the base, but he doesn't know where the base is. He suggests Kurt can help them, so Jean uses her powers to examine his memories, where she learns that the base is under Alkali Lake. After that, Logan meets Jean and during their conversation he kisses her, but she feels guilty and leaves. Mystique witnesses the whole scene and later at night she goes disguised as Jean to sleep with Logan, but from the wounds he gave her during their previous encounter, he realizes it's her and orders her to leave. On their way, Eric and Mystique mock Rogue's hair, so she prepares to fight them, but Bobby calms her down. Pyro asks Eric about his helmet, so he explains that it's the only thing that will protect him from the real bad guys. After learning about Pyro's ability to manipulate fire, Eric praises him by saying that he is like a man among insects. The group discusses their plan on entering the base and Logan thinks he should go alone first because he believes Stryker will want him alive, but Eric argues he isn't suitable for such a delicate task, so they send Mystique disguised as him. Stryker lets her in, but upon a closer look he realizes she is an imposter and orders the guards to kill her. However, she manages to escape and enters the control center. Mystique opens the gate, allowing the rest of the team to enter. So Stryker plans to accelerate his plan to eradicate all mutants. The X-Men and Eric take out all the soldiers in their way, and they also reach the control center, where Mystique informs them that she has found the Cerebro chamber. Storm notices the mutant children, and she, along with Kurt, goes to rescue them, while Logan sees Stryker, so he goes after him. Stryker commands Jason to make Xavier kill all the mutants, and he also orders the guard to kill anyone who enters the room, even if it's him.
It's time.
Is it time to find our friends?
Time to bring it to an end. Oh, yes.
On the way, Scott suddenly attacks Eric and Mystique, but Jean pushes them to safety, telling them to continue without her. With her increased telekinetic powers, Jean deflects Scott's energy blast, but it hits the dam's structure. Scott regains control and apologizes to her for hurting her because he wasn't in control of his body. Meanwhile, Stryker realizes the dam is about to flood the whole facility, and he tries to escape. But on his way, he encounters Logan, who is looking at the lab where he was created. Stryker explains to him that the adamantium is kept very hot because if they allow it to cool, it becomes indestructible. Stryker informs him that he thought he was one of a kind, but he was wrong. And Yuriko extends her long adamantium nails, which surprises Logan. She starts attacking him, and her agility gives her the edge, but he still manages to slice her face and stab her stomach. However, it turns out she also has the same regeneration abilities as him. She puts on a great fight, but he finally defeats her by injecting boiling adamantium inside her body, which turns solid and kills her. Meanwhile, Xavier connects with all the mutants in the world and they start experiencing a deafening sound in their ears. But Eric enters after defeating the guards outside Cerebro. He changes the structure of the Cerebro, so it stops working, and he mocks Jason that he can't control him because of his helmet. He also taunts Xavier that it seems the humans aren't playing by his rules, so maybe they should also get their hands dirty. Mystique, disguised as Stryker, instructs Jason to make Xavier kill all humans. Outside the base, Stryker attempts to escape in his plane, but Logan stops him, demanding why he destroyed his life. But Stryker responds that he volunteered to be part of the procedure. He calls Logan a failed experiment and declares that he was a bad person and people don't change. They suddenly hear a noise, so he urges Logan to join him as the whole place will soon be flooded with water. But Logan ties him and leaves to save his friends. The X-Men regroup and they find the Cerebro chamber locked. So Jean informs them that Xavier is with another mutant, and Eric is now trying to kill all humans. Storm asks Kurt to teleport her inside, but he warns her it's dangerous to teleport to a place he can't see and they may get trapped in a wall. However, she reminds him that she has faith in him. Kurt successfully teleports her inside, but instead of Xavier, they just see a little girl. Storm tells Kurt to be careful, and she uses her powers to freeze the entire area, which makes them shiver, as well as causing Jason to lose control over Xavier, which allows him to remove the Cerebro, disconnecting him from all the humans. Meanwhile, Eric finds Stryker chained to the plane, and he declares it's the last time they will run into each other. He escapes in the plane with Pyro, who has started to prefer Eric's ideology over Xavier's. Just then, the Cerebro chamber starts collapsing, so Kurt teleports Storm and Xavier out of there, leaving Jason to die there. Logan rushes to save his friends, and as they are about to enter the safe tunnel from which they entered the compound, Logan locks it because it's flooded with water. He leads them out of there through the other exit, but he is shocked to see the helicopter missing, which makes them hopeless. Luckily, Rogue somehow pilots the X-jet there, but it experiences a rough landing on ice. They all board the jet, but Logan notices Stryker chained to the wall. He asks Logan to save him in exchange for answers, but Logan decides to let go of his past and throws his name tag at him. Xavier tells Scott that they need to get to Washington, but the jet fails to take off due to the failure of vertical thrusters, and the engines are also shot. Jean notices the dam walls are almost rupturing, so she gets off the jet and Scott tries to go after her, but she uses her powers to close the ramp while starting the engine. She uses her powers to divert the water, and she gets into Xavier's mind to bid her final goodbye to everyone. She lifts the jet, but she can't hold the water for long and drowns under it, which makes everyone shed some tears. In the Oval Office, the US president prepares for an important press conference about the recent events. However, Xavier freezes everyone in the room as he arrives with the X-Men. The president is surprised to see them, especially Kurt, but Xavier assures him that they aren't there to harm him. He shares the files that prove Stryker's involvement in the attack on him and his research on creating mutants. The president wonders if they are threatening him, but Xavier clarifies that it's an opportunity to stop the war between mutants and humans. At the school, Xavier explains to Logan and Scott how in the past Jean was hesitant about her powers, but Logan wonders why she left the plane because there must have been some other option. However, Xavier believes she made her own choice. The students arrive for their class with Xavier, so Logan and Scott leave the room, and Logan assures him that she made a choice and it was him. The film ends as Jean narrates how mutation is the key to evolution, and we see a phoenix flying below the lake where Jean died. X-Men: The Last Stand kicks off in 1986, with Charles Xavier and Eric Lencher visiting Jean Grey's house to convince her to join Xavier's Institute for Gifted Youngsters. Jean's parents admire the brochure, but her father wonders what they will do about Jean's illness, and this baffles Eric, as her parents think Jean is sick rather than being proud of her powers. They ask to sit with Jean alone and explain that they are mutants like her, but she doubts anyone is like her before lifting all the cars and objects against gravity to prove her powers. Eric is impressed and Xavier asks her if she wants to control the power or let it control her. 10 years later, Warren Worthington II grows anxious when his son Warren Worthington III refuses to come out of the washroom for over an hour. Upon barging in, Warren Worthington II realizes that his son is a mutant because he was trying to cut off his wings while sobbing. In the near future, Logan kicks back while all of the other X-Men hide from the laser-shooting robot that has attacked them. Storm urges Logan to take this more seriously, and as the robot gets near, Storm orders them all to run, but Logan asks Colossus to throw him at the robot despite Storm's protests. He soon manages to tear off the robot's head and throws it to the ground, causing the simulation to end. It angers Storm, who reminds Logan that this was a defense class, and Logan indifferently says that offense is the best defense. Rogue and Bobby get into an altercation, as Kitty hugs Bobby to save him from the attack earlier in class, so Rogue expresses discomfort at not being able to touch her own boyfriend without hurting him. Scott is still mourning over Jean's death and meets Logan, who urges him to move on as he is only harming himself. Meanwhile, Hank joins a meeting with high-ranking officials in the management of mutant affairs, who tell him that they've captured Mystique and they plan to confine her in their new prisons that even she can't break. Mystique is being investigated for the location of Eric, but she continuously changes forms, making the investigator angry, before she beats all the guards in the room. The president explains why he can't negotiate with the mutants anymore, and adds that Mystique got caught while stealing a file on Worthington Labs' antibody to suppress the X gene, which gives mutants their abilities and offers the cure to any mutant who wants it. They tell Hank they need his diplomatic power to calm the mutants, who will react violently to this. On the other side, Xavier gives a lecture to his class when suddenly he feels something is wrong and quickly dismisses the class. He goes to Storm, who has manifested bad weather because of her mood, and she tells him that she doesn't know why the mutants stay in hiding, so Xavier tells her that they're not hiding but warns her to always be careful. He tells her that Scott is a changed man after Jean's death, so she has a chance of taking Xavier's place, which makes her realize that he's hiding something. They head to the office and are pleasantly surprised to find Hank there, who informs them about the antibody, and Xavier tells them that Worthington Company is holding a press conference to release it publicly. In the conference, he says that mutants are basically humans with a disease and can now be cured. This interests Rogue, as she rushes to Xavier's office to confirm if she can be cured, but Storm tells her that there is nothing wrong with being a mutant. A meeting between mutants is held where two parties are formed, one that thinks the government wants to exterminate them using the cure, and the other that thinks the cure is voluntary so they can simply educate the government on it. Eric gets on the stage and warns them that the extermination has begun, and they can choose if they want to wait for the inevitable genocide or take charge and stop this. There he meets a mutant named Callisto, who tells him that along with great speed she can sense other mutants and their powers, so Eric asks her to locate Mystique for him. Meanwhile, Mystique is being transported to another prison by Trask, the head of the Department of Homeland Security. On the other hand, Hank goes to meet Jimmy, also known as Leech, a mutant whose ability automatically disables nearby mutations, and Hank is surprised as being near Jimmy gives him a glimpse of his human hand after years. Scott, who is still disturbed over the loss of Jean, drives to her resting location at Alkali Lake. Jean suddenly appears there, making Scott intensely happy, but she suddenly kills him as they kiss. Xavier quickly senses that something is wrong, so he sends Storm and Logan to the lake where they find floating stones, Scott's glasses, and an unconscious Jean. At the X-Mansion, Xavier tells Logan that Jean is the only Class 5 mutant he has come across, and her potential is limitless, explaining that when she was a young girl, Xavier created a barrier in her mind to isolate her from her subconscious powers, which resulted in a dual personality. A conscious side that could control her powers, and a dormant side called Phoenix, which has immense destructive potential. Logan gets angry, saying that Xavier had no right to cage Jean's powers against her will, but Xavier dismisses him, refusing to explain himself. Meanwhile, the Cure Center in the city finally becomes operational, starting with Warren III, but once he is tied to get injected with the antibody, he anxiously reveals his mutant form, saying that he doesn't want this. He jumps out of the window and flies above the mutants lining up for the cure while others gather to protest against it. On the other hand, Eric intercepts the convoy, easily freeing Mystique before going through the list of other mutant prisoners and freeing Multiple Man and Juggernaut. But a guard regains enough consciousness to use the cure as a weapon against Eric, but Mystique comes in front of him and it depowers her. Eric abandons her, saying she is no longer one of the mutants.
Such a shame. She was so beautiful.
Hearing about the incident, Hank resigns from his government position to exclusively support his kind, as the decision to use the cure as a weapon was made without his knowledge. Meanwhile, Jean wakes up and Logan realizes she isn't the woman he once knew, as she confesses to killing Scott. She becomes so mentally distraught that she asks him to kill her, but her alternate personality resurfaces, pushing Logan and getting out of the room. Eric tells them that he would use this weapon that utilized the cure injections to bring countless more to his team, and he is about to go find more mutants. Callisto then tells him that she has felt a massive mutant power of Class 5 even stronger than Eric, so he tells her to locate it. Meanwhile, Xavier realizes that the Phoenix has woken up and left the mansion to go back to her childhood home, so he rushes to her, only to find Eric there as well. They both head inside, with Xavier telling Jean that he only wants to protect her, but Eric proposes another idea. He explains that Xavier has forced Jean to hold back her power long enough, so now she needs to be free. The house shakes, which makes the X-Men try to get into the house, but mutants on Eric's side hold them outside. Xavier still has hope and tells Jean to come back home, saying that she is family to him, but Jean refuses to let Xavier into her mind. The Phoenix then resurfaces and destroys the house, vaporizes Xavier in front of Logan, and leaves with Eric. Logan and Storm mourn over him, and an emotional funeral is arranged for him at the institution. Later at night, Kitty weeps about the loss as she feels alone without Xavier, so Bobby freezes the fountain for her to ice skate, which makes Rogue jealous. Rogue heads out, but Logan finds her and asks her where she is going. She tells him that she is afraid of her powers and craves human touch, so Logan tells her that he will respect her decision to get the cure if she is sure about it. On the other hand, with Jean on his side, Eric prepares to head to the cure center and kill Jimmy. Putting an end to this, one of the mutants mentions that they shouldn't have killed Xavier, and Eric says it's his biggest regret that Xavier had to die for their dream to live. Meanwhile, Bobby asks Logan, Storm, and Hank what would happen to the school now, and Hank tells him that it's best if the institute ends with him, but Bobby says that most of the mutants have nowhere to go. Warren Worthington III then shows up, saying he was told this is a safe space for mutants. Storm quickly takes charge, saying that the school will stay open, and even finds a room for Warren to stay in. Logan in the meantime is at Xavier's grave when he starts hearing Jean's voice in his head like Scott did, so he quickly packs his things to leave, but Storm stops him. She tells him that Jean has killed Scott and Xavier, so it's about time Logan realizes that she isn't the same old Jean, but Logan says there is still hope, wishing for Jean to resurface out of her Phoenix. Storm tells him that she chose to join Eric, and it's now time for Logan to make a choice of which party he wants to join. Bobby goes to the Cure Center to look for Rogue, but he is unable to find her. However, Pyro shows up and makes the first attack from Eric's side. Later, Eric releases a video stating that this first attack is just a declaration that war will be waged as long as the cure exists, and he will ensure that the cities will no longer be safe. He also proposes that fellow mutants join his cause. The president says that this is a national security matter, and orders the troops with cure weapons to the Cure Worthington labs, saying that he will give Eric the war he is looking for. The army is deployed, ensuring all their metal weapons are taken away and they're given new plastic weapons with cure injections. Meanwhile, Logan heads to the forest from where he hears Jean's voice and is faced by many mutants working for Eric. However, he defeats them and wears a hood to join the army of mutants. Eric gives a speech on how they have their weapon, pointing to Jean, and openly announces that they will use the cure against any mutant who stands in their way. Jean goes into the forest and Logan follows her, but Eric pushes him onto a tree as soon as he locates him, saying he can smell his adamantium from a mile away. Eric says he isn't keeping Jean here against her will, but Logan says Eric isn't aware of what he is dealing with. When Logan refuses to leave without Jean, Eric throws him back far into the forest. Meanwhile, filled with contempt, the depowered Mystique gives away the location of Eric's army base to the FBI, who raid it, but only find that the detected human heat signals in the camp are multiple man and his copies. The president realizes it was a decoy and wonders where Eric and his army is. Early in the morning, Eric tells his men to prepare for the attack. Meanwhile, Logan rushes back to the Institute and tells Storm that they are heading to attack Alcatraz. So they all get their suits, and Logan tells Hank that Eric has an army on his side. Bobby points out that there are only 6 of them who are ready for battle, and Logan accepts that they're outnumbered, but if they don't take a stand, everything Xavier ever worked for will end, which they can't allow. On the other side, the Golden Gate Bridge shakes violently, which causes all the traffic to stop. The people start running away thinking it's an earthquake, and families shiver with fear. Eric brings his mutants onto the bridge before lifting the entire bridge and using it to lead them to Alcatraz, the small island locating the Cure Center. They reach their destination, and Callisto informs Eric that the boy is in the southeast corner of the building. So Pyro orders the mutants to go ahead and destroy the building. When the strong mutants try to move, Eric stops them, saying that the pawns go first. The human army launches its attacks with cure injections. The army targets the bridge, but Eric uses metal to shield them and orders Arclight to use her shockwave powers to target the plastic weapons. The mutants have the upper hand till the X-Men come to stop them. Storm uses her powers to push back the mutants while the others jump into the battle scene as well. The 6 X-Men stand in line and Logan orders everyone not to let any mutant get past this line. Eric calls them traitors and orders the mutants to finish them. The X-Men easily manage the normal mutants, so Eric sends Callisto after Storm, who uses her speed to gain the upper hand, but Storm is more powerful. Eric then orders Juggernaut to go for Jimmy and kill him. so Juggernaut rushes past everyone and breaks the wall to get inside the research center. Hank announces that Juggernaut is after the boy, and Kitty rushes after him. She moves through the walls with her phasing ability and uses the same ability to hold Juggernaut and push him halfway inside the floor, leaving him stuck there. But she doesn't have an idea of Juggernaut's power as he easily breaks through the ground and emerges out of it. He rushes after her, breaking walls after walls, till she decides to hide on the side of one. While Juggernaut rushes past her and is confused when he is unable to find Kitty, Warren Worthington II and his secretary are cornered by 3 mutants, including Arclight and Spike, who question if he is the guy who invented the cure. Upon confirming, the girls drag him away, while Spike holds back the secretary, who begs them not to hurt Warren. He hugs her tightly, telling her to calm down as everything will be okay, before turning his whole body into spikes and murdering her. Hank and Logan deal with the unending army outside, and Logan makes fun of Hank returning to battle after being a diplomat for so long. On the other hand, Kitty manages to find Jimmy and tries to phase him out using her abilities, but he tells her that her powers won't work on him. Juggernaut breaks into the room and rushes at the duo. He stupidly hits the wall with full strength, but as his powers don't work because of Jimmy's ability to disable mutation, Juggernaut knocks himself out. Spike and the girls take Warren to the top and throw him down, but his son manages to reach them in time and save his father using his power of flight. Meanwhile, Storm overpowers Callisto and uses lightning on her till she passes out. Eric decides it's time to end the war and picks up cars one after another, which Pyro ignites using his fire abilities and throws them at the army and X-Men. The continuous explosions cause huge destruction, and while taking cover, the X-Men find some unused injections of the cure. Logan tells Bobby to handle Pyro while he goes for Eric. However, because of the adamantium in Logan's body, Eric can control him. But this time, Logan is just a distraction, giving Hank enough time to plunge some needles into Eric, which turns Eric into a human. He tells Jean that this is what they will do to all mutants, while Logan tells her to come back home, and for a second it seems like she will return, but as the army shoots cure injections at her, the Phoenix resurfaces and vaporizes all of them before destroying the entire island. The mutants help everyone evacuate the island, and Eric regrets giving full power to Jean. Everyone leaves, only Logan stays behind as his regenerating power allows him to constantly rebuild himself as she vaporizes him. He tells her that he would die for her, and it causes Jean to resurface, who pleads with him to save her. So he tells her that he loves her before stabbing his claws into her.
I love you.
The island calms down and Jean dies, this time with no return. Sometime later, the school reopens and Bobby holds Rogue's hand, who has decided to give up her power while Hank is announced as the UN ambassador. Eric sits alone at a chess table, trying to use his powers on a metal pawn, and surprisingly, it slightly moves. As for Charles Xavier, it is revealed that he transferred his consciousness into a comatose patient right before his death and managed to keep his mind alive. The Wolverine opens just as an atomic bomb is about to be dropped on Nagasaki. The Japanese soldiers there make a surprising decision. They choose to free the prisoners, giving them a chance to survive. Among those soldiers was Sergeant Yoshida, who opened the pit and released Logan from captivity. Shortly after, Yoshida joined the other soldiers who were preparing to do the bomb's work for it before the base was hit. But just as Yoshida was about to die, Logan decides to help and rushes in to save him. Logan pushed the sergeant into a well, shielding him from the blast. Using a metal bar, Logan covered the opening, leaving his own body exposed to the explosion. When the blast ended, Logan stood back up. His skin was burnt and damaged, but Yoshida looked up in shock as he watched the man heal right before his eyes. What he didn't know was that Logan was a mutant, with the ability to regenerate. Years later, Wolverine is still haunted by this moment. He wakes suddenly, lying beside Jean Grey. For a brief second he forgets what happened, forgetting that he had once harmed the woman he loved with his own claws. But as reality sets in, he remembers. It was only a dream. Jean Grey is gone. After waking up, Logan walks through the forest until he reaches the city. He picks up a few supplies and heads back to his quiet shelter among the trees. That night, while sleeping in his cave, he's jolted awake by distant screams and the sound of gunfire. Curious and concerned, he steps outside to investigate. Following footprints in the muddy ground, Wolverine comes across a badly injured bear. The creature is in pain and has no chance of survival. With a heavy heart, Logan uses his claws to end the animal's suffering quickly, sparing it from a slow and painful death. Furious, he tracks down the hunters responsible. At a bar, he finds one of them named Red, who claims the bear attacked him and his friends. According to Red, the bear wiped out the whole group, and he was the only one who made it out alive. Logan isn't buying it. He pulls out the arrow he found lodged in the bear, one tipped with poison. A cruel and illegal method of hunting, and without a word he drives the arrow through Red's hand. Red retaliates by smashing a glass over Logan's head. Just as Logan prepares to strike with his claws, a young woman named Yukio steps in. Yukio calmly tells them that these men won't live long anyway. They'll die in a car accident next week. Suddenly, another man at the bar pulls a gun, aiming to shoot them, but Yukio moves faster. She slashes the man's neck with her sword. She then turns to Logan and asks him to come with her. The two leave the bar and get into her car. Once they're alone, Yukio explains she's been searching for him for over a year. Master Yoshida, the man Logan saved during the Nagasaki bombing, sent her to deliver a special sword. Yukio also reveals that Yoshida is dying and wishes to thank Logan personally before it's too late. But there's a catch. He lives in Tokyo. When the pair arrive at the mansion, Logan is introduced to Shingen, Master Yoshida's son. He watches as Shingen expertly handles a sword and is quietly impressed by his skill. Then Logan sees Mariko, Yoshida's granddaughter, looking heartbroken as she prepares to say goodbye to her grandfather. After a shower and a much-needed haircut, Logan is finally allowed to visit the man he once saved. But Yoshida didn't ask him to come all this way just to say farewell. He has a proposal, one that could change Logan's life forever. Yoshida tells Logan that he can take away what he calls a curse, the healing power that has kept him alive for decades. Logan has lived through the loss of so many he cared about, forced to watch them age and pass while he stayed the same. Now, Yoshida offers him an end to that suffering. According to the scientists working for Yoshida, Logan's healing ability could be transferred to someone else if the process succeeds. Logan would become mortal, free from his endless cycle of pain. But Logan refuses. He's not ready to give up his gift. Yoshida tries to change his mind, warning him that Mariko is in danger and needs protection, something only he can provide. As Logan leaves the room, he sees Mariko in a heated argument with her father. Hurt and overwhelmed, she runs off toward the cliffs. Logan follows and reaches her just in time, gently stopping her before she does something irreversible. Minutes later, during a quiet conversation with Yukio, Logan learns more about her past. She reveals that Master Yoshida adopted her when she was just a child. Back then, she had been living on the streets, rummaging through garbage for food. Since that day, Yukio has stayed close to the family, growing up alongside Mariko like a sister. Yukio tells Logan that a plane is scheduled to take him back to the United States the next morning. She suggests he get some rest after the long journey. But that night, Logan is awakened by an unexpected visitor. When he opens his eyes, the woman is gone. The next morning, Logan receives troubling news. Master Yoshida passed away during the night. Wanting to pay his respects, he decides to attend the funeral. At the ceremony, Logan notices Dr. Green, Yoshida's personal physician. Something about her seems off, and he starts to grow suspicious. He also sees Mariko standing beside her fiancé, Noboru Mori, who happens to be Japan's Minister of Justice. But it's clear from her expression Mariko isn't happy. As the ceremony continues, Logan senses something is wrong. He steps forward to stop Mariko from approaching the coffin, but before he can reach her, one of the ceremonial attendants removes his disguise and shoots Logan. At the same time, others from the Yakuza gang begin firing into the crowd, capturing Mariko and causing chaos. Though wounded, Logan recovers quickly and charges after the attackers. Yukio joins the fight, cutting down the armed men with her sword. From the rooftop, a mysterious archer appears and unleashes a flurry of arrows targeting the gang members. Meanwhile, Dr. Green quietly records footage of Wolverine in action. When one of the attackers turns his weapon on her, she calmly defends herself, using poison to take him down. After taking down all the attackers trying to stop him, Logan sets his sights on rescuing Mariko. He catches up with the men holding her and manages to defeat them, but not without a cost. Shot several times, Wolverine starts to weaken. His healing isn't working like it used to. Luckily, Harada steps in to help finish off the last of the criminals. Logan and Mariko escape into the city. Thanks to her own fighting skills, Mariko had already managed to break free from her captors. As they're chased through the busy streets of Tokyo, Harada continues to assist from the shadows, eliminating more of their pursuers. Seeing that Logan is injured and bleeding, Mariko urges him to see a doctor. She suggests going home alone, but Logan refuses to leave her unprotected and insists on staying by her side. The two board a train together. While in the train's restroom, Logan notices something troubling. His wounds aren't healing. Something's definitely wrong. When he steps back out, he's met with another wave of gang members. This time, he has to face them alone. As the fight spills out onto the moving train, Logan struggles to protect the innocent passengers. During the chaos, he's pulled onto the roof and forced into a dangerous fight with one of the Yakuza. After a tough battle, he defeats the attacker and climbs back inside the train. Once reunited with Mariko, he tells her they need to get off at the next station. Looking for safety and a place to regroup, they decide to rent a hotel room for the night and figure out their next move. Logan stays up through the night, keeping watch to ensure Mariko is safe. But the toll from his injuries and blood loss is too much, even for him. He collapses, and Mariko rushes to get help from the hotel owner, asking for a doctor to treat him. As Logan slowly recovers, he starts piecing things together. He remembers seeing Dr. Green in his room the night before. Realizing his healing isn't working as it should, he suspects she's the one behind it. Elsewhere, Dr. Green, who is actually a mutant known as Viper with the power to poison her enemies, meets with Harada. She pressures him to work for her, revealing that now that Master Yoshida has passed, she's taken control. Harada, the skilled archer, had been hired by Yoshida as a bodyguard, but with the old man gone, he's now caught between loyalty and survival. Dr. Green tells him that she has suppressed Wolverine's healing and needs to finish what she started. To find Logan, she enlists Harada's help. Meanwhile, Logan and Mariko take a bus heading toward Nagasaki. They walk to a peaceful country house owned by Mariko's family. Over dinner, Logan asks about the archer he saw at the funeral. Mariko explains they were childhood friends and once planned to marry. But her grandfather, Master Yoshida, disapproved and ended the relationship. Before his death, Yoshida revealed something important to Mariko. He had left the entire company in her name. In 3 days, when the will is officially read, she'll become one of the most powerful people in Japan. As for her engagement to Noburo, the Minister of Justice, Mariko explains it's not about love. She's only following her father's wishes out of respect. The next morning, Mariko calls Yukio and tells her where they are. She then heads out to talk to neighbors and asks Logan for help clearing a fallen tree nearby. Logan does the work, but it leaves him exhausted. Another reminder that his powers aren't working the way they used to. As he catches his breath, he notices something familiar in the distance. It's the same place where he once hid with Yoshida during the atomic bombing. Drawn by memory, he walks to the old well where it all happened. Hours later, as rain begins to fall, Logan and Mariko return to the house. That night, they finally share a quiet moment together. But while the world outside rests, Yukio is disturbed by a vivid dream. She wakes in a panic. She's seen a vision of Logan's death. The next morning, Logan wakes to the sound of Mariko screaming. He rushes out of bed and finds her being dragged away by 2 members of the Yakuza. He gives chase, but one of the kidnappers shoots him in the leg, slowing him down. Helpless, he watches as the car speeds off with Mariko inside. Determined to find her, Logan grabs one of the gang members left behind and forces him to talk. The man reveals just enough for Logan to begin piecing things together. As Logan limps through the city, he runs into Yukio. After her nightmare, she decided to find him and warn him of the vision she saw of his death. Seeing his injury, she quickly helps him into the car. Logan tells Yukio to drive him to Noburo's house. Before he gets out, Yukio tries to stop him, explaining her vision in detail. She insists she saw exactly how he would die. But Logan remains focused. He tells her to wait in the car, he's going in no matter what. Yukio refuses to sit back and insists on joining him as his bodyguard. Inside the apartment, Logan finds Noburo with 2 women. He tells them to leave. Then, furious, he corners the Minister of Justice and demands answers. Why would he have his own fiancée kidnapped? Noburo tries to stay silent, but after one solid punch, he begins to talk. He reveals that ever since Master Yoshida fell ill, he poured billions into secret research, stockpiling adamantium in a hidden lab, desperate to prolong his life. But none of it worked, and the company nearly collapsed. Despite all this, Shingen, Yoshida's son, remained loyal, hoping to inherit the empire. But when Yoshida left everything to Mariko instead, Shingen was outraged. He asked Noburo to help eliminate her and promised him a large fortune in return. Hearing this, Logan is filled with rage. He throws Noburo out of the window in a fit of fury. Luckily for the minister, he crashes into a swimming pool below and survives. That night, Mariko is brought back to the mansion where she comes face to face with her father, Shingen. During their short and tense conversation, he coldly admits that he was the one who ordered her to be eliminated. He shows no regret even as he threatens her again. Before he can act further, a group of ninjas suddenly invade the mansion. They move swiftly, taking out every guard in their path as they search for Shingen. Realizing his life is in danger, Shingen tries to escape, but he's quickly surrounded. Meanwhile, Mariko is pulled from the house. Confused and frightened, she has no idea what's going on until she's met by Harada, her childhood friend. He gently reassures her, revealing that he came to rescue her. Together, they leave the mansion for safety. Back inside, Dr. Green storms into Shingen's office. Without hesitation, she pierces his neck with a poison pen. As Shingen writhes in pain, the doctor calmly turns and walks away, her ninjas disappearing into the night. Soon after, Wolverine and Yukio arrive at the mansion. As they step inside, they find a note left behind, revealing the exact location where Mariko was taken. Before heading out to rescue her, Logan decides to use Master Yoshida's medical equipment to figure out what's wrong with his body. Running a scan, he discovers something shocking. A parasite lodged in his heart. Determined to remove it, Wolverine uses his claws to open a hole in his chest and reach his heart. Just then, Shingen appears, ready to eliminate him. But Yukio is there to protect Logan. She grabs a sword and engages Shingen in a fierce battle. While they fight, Logan continues his operation and successfully removes the parasite from his heart. But as soon as he does, his heartbeat stops, just as Yukio had foreseen in her vision. Yukio tries to defend his body, but she's eventually overpowered and nearly defeated. Just as Shingen raises his weapon for the final blow, Logan suddenly wakes up and attacks. Now fully healed, Wolverine regenerates instantly after being struck. He realizes his powers have returned. Even with multiple sword wounds to the abdomen, he remains standing in a final clash. Logan defeats Shingen with his claws. When Yukio regains consciousness, she's relieved to see Logan alive. She admits this is the first time one of her visions didn't come true. After confirming she's okay, Logan picks up the note left by Dr. Green and heads off to find Mariko. Meanwhile, Mariko comes face to face with Dr. Green, the very doctor who once cared for her grandfather. But now she learns the truth. It was Dr. Green who took his life. Before Mariko can react, she's attacked, and in shock, Mariko collapses into Harada's arms, where he quickly carries her to a room for safety. When Mariko wakes up, she quietly explores the building and makes her way into a hidden laboratory. There she finds Dr. Green, also known as Viper, standing beside a large suit of armor made entirely of adamantium. Meanwhile, after riding for hours on his motorcycle, Logan finally arrives at the same location. But to reach Mariko, he first has to get past Harada and his men, all members of the Shadow Clan. Seeing that Wolverine has regained his healing powers, Harada changes his strategy. He dips the tips of his arrows in poison, hoping it will give him an advantage. Even after being struck in the back by several arrows, Logan continues to push forward, refusing to go down. But when Harada lands a shot with one of the poisoned arrows, the toxin quickly takes effect. Logan stumbles and finally collapses. Hours later, Logan regains consciousness. He's strapped to a chair face to face with Dr. Green, the mastermind behind Mariko's kidnapping. Her true goal wasn't just to capture Mariko, it was to get her hands on Wolverine for experimentation. Fortunately, Yukio arrives just in time. She breaks into the facility, determined to rescue both Mariko and Logan. While speaking with Logan, Dr. Green reveals more about herself. In addition to being a doctor, she's an expert in powerful toxins and genetically immune to all known poisons. Now that Logan is in her hands, she plans to complete her work. Meanwhile, with Logan captured, Mariko is technically free. Harada tries to convince her to leave and return home, but she refuses to abandon Logan. Instead, she distracts Harada by drawing close, and in a quick move she takes the blade from his uniform and strikes him, quickly rushing to help Logan. At the same time, Logan discovers something troubling. The adamantium suit of armor nearby can be controlled remotely. Just as the machine is about to sever his claws, Mariko intervenes, stopping the attack. The chair holding Logan is damaged in the process, giving him the chance to break free. After helping Mariko escape, Logan runs, but Dr. Green is hot on his trail. Just then, Harada steps in one final time. He fires an arrow that pierces Dr. Green's heart, stopping her from reaching Mariko. But even after falling from a great height, Dr. Green survives and continues her pursuit of Wolverine. Logan is now being hunted by the Silver Samurai, a towering armored weapon built for one purpose: to destroy him. After managing to knock the machine down, Wolverine struggles to his feet, knowing he can't afford to stay down for long. During the brutal fight, the Silver Samurai lands a devastating blow, tearing the claws from Logan's right hand. He screams in pain as metal and bone are ripped away. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the lab, Dr. Green undergoes a disturbing transformation. Her skin begins to change, revealing a stronger, more venomous form than before. Yukio finds a way into the lab and confronts Dr. Green. The two engage in a fierce battle, sword against venom, high above the chaos below. Back in the tower, Logan tries to escape, but the Silver Samurai corners him once again. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Harada appears. He fires an arrow straight into the samurai's head, buying Logan precious time, but the act costs Harada his life. With a moment to strike, Logan grabs one of the samurai's swords. Using the blade, he slices off the machine's head and hurls it from the tower. In the process, Logan also slips and falls, but manages to catch himself with his claws and climbs back up the side of the building. Reaching the top, he sees the shattered remains of the samurai and believes the battle is over. But suddenly, the machine powers back on, this time severing the claws from Logan's left hand. During her intense battle with Dr. Green, Yukio suddenly experiences a vision. She sees exactly how her opponent will perish. Wasting no time, she uses that insight to her advantage. She wraps a rope around Viper's neck and secures it to the elevator cables. As the elevator moves, the tension pulls tight, and the battle ends with Dr. Green's death. Meanwhile, Logan continues his desperate fight against the Silver Samurai. The machine grips him tightly, driving its claws deep into his bones. Struggling in pain, Logan had believed the armor was controlled remotely, but he's shocked to discover the truth. Inside the suit is none other than Master Yoshida. Yoshida had faked his own death. His real plan was to capture Logan and forcefully take his healing powers. As the adamantium claws of the armor drive into Logan's body, his regenerative ability is slowly transferred to the old man. Yoshida begins to rejuvenate, growing younger while Logan grows weaker by the second. Watching from nearby, Mariko is horrified to learn that her grandfather is the one behind everything. Determined to stop him, she grabs one of Logan's severed claws and throws it with precision, striking Yoshida in the head. Then she drives the claw into his neck, giving Logan the opening he needs. With the last of his strength, Wolverine finishes the fight, eliminating Yoshida once and for all. With the adamantium stripped from his body, Logan's claws are no longer coated in metal. They've reverted back to bone, but that doesn't stop him. Summoning his last reserves of strength, he drives his bone claws into the Silver Samurai's chest and hurls the armored figure off the cliff, bringing the battle to an end. Exhausted, Wolverine collapses, finally able to rest. As he catches his breath, he's relieved to see both Mariko and Yukio safe. A week later, the will is officially read, and Mariko is named the new CEO of the Yoshida Technology Company. She bids farewell to Yukio, her adopted sister, who has chosen to follow her own path. Mariko then meets with Logan and asks him to stay in Tokyo. She wants him by her side. But Logan gently explains that his path is different. He's a soldier, and he must keep moving forward. After a final goodbye, the two part ways. Logan boards a plane with Yukio by his side, and now serving as his loyal bodyguard. Together, they head back to the United States, where new challenges surely await. One of the world's most famous anti-heroes hops into a cab on the biggest mission of his life. Feeling lonely, Deadpool moves to the front seat to talk with Dopinder, an Indian driver. As they chat, Dopinder mentions Geeta, the girl he's deeply in love with. He says Geeta would have made a perfect wife if his cousin Bandu hadn't stolen her heart. Deadpool, having recently experienced heartbreak himself, advises Dopinder to hold on to love and never let it slip away. When Dopinder asks why he's dressed in the red suit, Deadpool explains he's hunting some bad guys. Specifically, he's after Ajax, a cruel scientist who ruined his face. Deadpool has waited 1 year, 3 weeks, 6 days, and 14 minutes to confront him. Meanwhile, Ajax is making a deal with a military leader, selling mutants created in his lab as weapons. After finishing his business, Ajax and his men leave. As Deadpool nears his destination, he realizes he forgot his ammo bag and now has only 12 bullets. Saying goodbye to Dopinder, he waits calmly on the edge of a bridge for Ajax's convoy to appear. Seeing his targets, Deadpool jumps straight into action. He dives into a moving vehicle, quickly taking down everyone inside. He uses their bodies as shields against incoming bikers, causing a major crash. While fighting one smuggler, another car filled with armed men approaches. Deadpool accelerates the vehicle he's in, flipping it over. Within moments, enemies lose their heads and bodies fly in all directions. Images of the accident quickly appear on the news, and when the reporter mentions a man in a red suit, Colossus immediately realizes that Deadpool is responsible. He abandons his breakfast and calls Negasonic to join him at the scene. Meanwhile, seeing armed men taking control of the blocked road, frightened drivers abandon their cars and flee on foot. The armed gang surrounds the vehicle where Deadpool is hiding. With only 12 bullets, Deadpool carefully counts each shot, eliminating his opponents one by one. Suddenly, a skilled biker arrives and shoots Deadpool. While regenerating, Deadpool attempts to return fire, but the biker escapes. Now down to just 7 bullets, Deadpool strategically moves between cars for cover, carefully targeting his enemies. He even triggers a large explosion by shooting a grenade. Thinking the battle is over, Deadpool pauses briefly to celebrate, only to be suddenly machine-gunned from behind. Believing Deadpool to be dead, the attacker approaches, but he's quickly taken down by a bullet to the head. Deadpool then empties his pistol by shooting 3 more bandits appearing in his path. However, he doesn't realize one of these enemies is a mutant who survives the headshot. With no bullets remaining, Deadpool swiftly draws his swords and cuts the mutant cleanly in half. But in order for you to understand how we got to this point in the story, we need to go back 2 years before Deadpool got shot in the backside. Back then, he was known as Wade Wilson. Wade ordered a pizza to be delivered to Gavin Merchant's address. He had been hired by Megan to scare Jeremy, the pizza delivery guy, who spent his free time stalking her. Wade firmly warns Jeremy to stay away from Megan or he'll lose at least one limb. After dealing with Jeremy, Wade visits Megan and tells her the situation is handled. Relieved, Megan hugs him and calls him her hero. Wade, uncomfortable being compared to good guys, quickly leaves, stating clearly that he'll never be a superhero. He sees himself simply as a bad guy who gets paid to beat up worse guys. Later, after another typical day's work, Wade heads to Sister Margaret's bar where his friend Weasel works. As soon as Wade arrives, he starts trouble among the customers, causing a fight to break out. Without even realizing what's happening, a customer named Booth is punched and knocked unconscious. Weasel checks if Booth is still breathing, and when he confirms that Booth is alive, everyone around looks disappointed and returns to drinking as if nothing happened. Minutes later, Vanessa approaches Wade and they begin chatting. Wade asks what he could get for $275. Vanessa replies that for that amount they can do whatever he wants for exactly 48 minutes. With this freedom to choose, Wade decides to take Vanessa to an amusement park where they enjoy various games and have a great time. When the 48 minutes are up, they're having so much fun that they decide to keep going. From that day on, the couple never parted again. Everything is perfect until Christmas arrives. Wade proposes to Vanessa, asking her to marry him. They capture that special moment with a photo. However, shortly afterward, Wade suddenly collapses, forcing Vanessa to rush him to the hospital. After several tests, Wade receives devastating news. He has cancer in his liver, lungs, prostate, and brain. Upon hearing this diagnosis, Vanessa tries to stay strong. She speaks with the doctor, desperately searching for a possible cure. Meanwhile, Wade watches Vanessa closely, worried it might be the last time he sees her face. Back in the present day, Deadpool continues hunting for Ajax. He chases down a mysterious biker, believing him to be his enemy. After knocking the biker down and kicking him repeatedly, Deadpool removes the man's helmet to make sure he has the right target. Confirming it's Ajax, Deadpool drives his sword through the scientist's shoulder. Barely conscious, Ajax can't understand why he's being attacked since he doesn't recognize the man behind the mask. Wade finally reveals his identity and prepares to finish off the villain who ruined his life. Just as he's about to take revenge, Colossus suddenly appears and interrupts him, spoiling Deadpool's plans. As Deadpool is thrown aside, he remembers what happened after his cancer diagnosis. A few days after receiving the bad news, Wade prepares to go to the hospital. Although he knows he won't recover, he doesn't want Vanessa to suffer with him at home. Wade wishes Vanessa could keep only good memories of their time together. Before heading to the hospital, Wade stops by his favorite bar to say goodbye to Weasel. During their chat, Weasel hands Wade a card and tells him a man sitting nearby wants to speak with him. Having nothing to lose, Wade approaches the mysterious man known as Agent Smith. Agent Smith introduces himself as a recruiter from a secret organization. He claims they can cure Wade's cancer and as an added bonus give him incredible abilities most people only dream of. Suspicious that it might be a trap, Wade decides he doesn't trust Smith and leaves. However, that night, Wade can't stop thinking about Agent Smith's words. Just the thought that Vanessa won't have to suffer through his death convinces Wade to take the chance at being cured. After Deadpool is thrown aside, Colossus tries again to convince him to join the X-Men. But Deadpool insists he'll never join the good guys and tries pushing Colossus out of the way to finish off Ajax. While they're arguing, Ajax escapes. When Deadpool realizes the only man who can fix his face is gone, he gets furious and attacks Colossus. Unfortunately, Deadpool's punches don't even scratch the mutant. Instead, Deadpool breaks his own fists and ankles trying to hurt Colossus. After delivering a final blow, Colossus cuffs Deadpool and plans to take him back to the mansion to meet Professor X. Dragged along the road, Wade decides to free himself by cutting off his own hand. He jumps onto the back of a passing truck and escapes, landing in a pile of garbage. Lying there, Deadpool remembers the decision that changed his life forever, agreeing to join the experiment, hoping for a chance to live a long, happy life with Vanessa. Minutes after arriving at the lab, Wade knew he'd made a terrible mistake, but it was too late. He's quickly strapped down onto a stretcher, and that's when he first meets Dr. Ajax. Ajax bluntly explains the experiment will cause unbearable pain, but if Wade survives, he'll become invincible. The scientist injects Wade with a special serum designed to activate any mutant genes hidden inside his body. But for it to work, Wade must endure extreme pain and stress. Every person reacts differently to this treatment. Angel, Ajax's assistant, gained superhuman strength, while Ajax himself developed faster reflexes and lost the ability to feel pain completely. In the weeks that followed, Wade endured all kinds of torture. His body was constantly flooded with adrenaline, forcing him into a state of pure survival. Because his mutant genes hadn't activated yet, Ajax and his team kept hurting Wade in increasingly painful ways, determined to continue until he either mutated or died. Even though he was living through the worst kind of hell, Wade did his best to keep his sense of humor. He eventually became friends with David Cunningham, another patient held captive in the lab. As a last attempt to trigger Wade's mutation, Ajax placed him in an oxygen chamber. Inside this device, the oxygen levels would drop until Wade felt like he was suffocating. Right before he passed out, the oxygen would return. This painful cycle repeated itself for hours. Before this brutal session began, Wade learned the terrible truth. The laboratory wasn't creating superheroes, but super soldiers who were controlled by special collars and sold as weapons. Throughout the weekend, Wade remained trapped in that oxygen chamber, hovering near death until finally his mutation activated. His body transformed into something monstrous, making him look like the devil himself. But thanks to this mutation, Wade's cancer began to disappear. Before being locked back inside the oxygen chamber again, Wade headbutted Angel, Ajax's assistant, knocking her away from the controls. During the struggle, he managed to grab the matchstick she always carried in her mouth. Later that night, Wade used his own fingers to ignite the match. The moment the flame touched oxygen, it caused a massive explosion, destroying most of the laboratory. At that moment, Ajax rushes in to find out what happened and realizes Wade has escaped. Wade attacks Ajax with all his strength, but hesitates when Ajax claims he's the only one who can fix Wade's disfigured face. Lowering his guard, Wade gives Ajax a chance to strike back. Ajax quickly knocks Wade down and grabs a metal bar and thrusts it through Wade's body, piercing his heart. Before losing consciousness, Wade sees his friend David tied down as flames surround him. Hours later, Wade wakes up to discover he's not only cured of cancer, but his body can heal from any injury. However, none of this matters to him compared to seeing Vanessa again. The next day, Wade goes looking for her, determined to tell her everything. He covers his disfigured face with a hooded jacket and follows her through the streets. Everywhere he goes, people stare at him in fear and disgust. Terrified of Vanessa's reaction and afraid she'll reject him, Wade eventually loses his nerve and walks away. Deciding he must first find Ajax to get his face fixed, Wade meets Weasel at the bar and tells him his plan. He intends to hunt down Ajax's henchmen, hoping one of them will reveal Ajax's location. Weasel advises Wade to wear a costume to hide his face, first to avoid frightening people, and second to stop Ajax from discovering he's still alive. It's during this conversation with Weasel that Wade chooses the codename he'll be known by from then on, Deadpool. Wade returns home and starts sewing his anti-hero costume. His first attempt is a white sweatshirt combined with a mask made from a cotton shirt. This outfit makes Wade look like a real angel of death, but there's a big problem. After each mission, his suit ends up stained completely red with blood. To solve this issue, Wade decides to try another approach. He sews a red suit which conveniently hides the bloodstains. After several missions, Wade improves his costume and begins using the skills he gained during his mercenary days to hunt down Ajax's men, since Ajax himself had disappeared. Everywhere Deadpool goes, he leaves a trail of bodies behind. He struggles to interrogate his targets because he usually eliminates them before they have a chance to talk. After months of hunting, Wade finally catches up to Agent Smith, the same recruiter who first tricked him. Wade captures Smith and after some painful persuasion manages to get all the information he needs to find Ajax. Deadpool then hops into a cab to surprise Ajax, which brings us back to when he first met Dopinder. From here, we know what happened next. Injured and frustrated that his plan failed, Wade decides to return home. Since escaping the lab, Wade has been sharing an apartment with an elderly blind woman named Al. When Al hears someone approaching the door, she grabs her cane ready to attack but instead trips over a vacuum cleaner and falls to the floor. Wade opens the door and discovers Al was trying to build a chest of drawers that arrived in the mail. Unfortunately, she forgot to use the screws and the entire piece of furniture collapses. Fed up with everything going wrong in his day, Deadpool storms off to his room to sulk. Meanwhile, Ajax arrives at his hideout and tells Angel he has finally discovered the true identity of the Man in Red. After treating his wounds, the scientist starts making plans to find Deadpool before he's taken by surprise again. Back at home, Wade finishes taking a shower and gets ready for bed. As he sits down on the couch, Al joins him. Wade gently thanks her for all the support she's given him over the last few months, even using his tiny regenerating hand to touch her face. Al advises Wade to go after Vanessa, believing that if Vanessa truly loves him, she'll accept him regardless of how he looks. Wade insists that Al only says that because she's blind. If she could see him, she'd understand why he can't face Vanessa until his appearance is fixed. Hours later, Ajax and his assistant Angel go to Sister Margaret's bar, the same place where Agent Smith first recruited Wade. Ajax questions Weasel about Wade Wilson, but the bartender claims he's never heard of anyone by that name. While searching, Angel finds a photo of Wade and Vanessa, which Wade had left behind for Weasel as a keepsake before being hospitalized. She grabs Weasel by the neck, ready to attack, but Ajax orders her to stop when the bar patrons suddenly pull their guns on them. As soon as Ajax and Angel leave, Weasel immediately calls Wade to warn him that the villains are going after Vanessa. Desperate, Wade rushes to the nightclub where Vanessa works. He enters and scans the crowd looking for her. When he finally spots her, he slowly approaches, but before she can see him, he hides. Even after all these months, Wade is still afraid of how she'll react to his appearance. He runs to the bathroom and splashes water on his face, trying to find the courage to face his ex-fiancée. As Wade steps back out, one of the nightclub employees tells Vanessa that someone outside wants to speak to her about an old boyfriend. Curious, Vanessa hurries to the back exit. In the dark, she sees a hooded figure and believes it's Wade, but to her shock, it's Ajax. Before she can escape, Angel grabs her and takes her away. Meanwhile, Wade can't find Vanessa and asks Weasel if he saw where she went. Weasel tells him she left through the back door. Wade heads outside and finds a small gift left by Ajax, proof that Vanessa has been taken. Realizing what's happened, he immediately returns home with Weasel. Furious, Wade begins destroying everything in sight. Then his phone buzzes. It's a message from Ajax, sent using Vanessa's phone. The villain wants to meet Wade at the junkyard. At noon, Deadpool gathers every weapon he can find in the house and stuffs them into a bag, knowing the upcoming fight won't be easy. Before leaving, he tells Al he loves her and thanks her for taking him in all this time. Realizing he's still at a disadvantage, Deadpool heads to the X-Men mansion to enlist help. He convinces Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead to join him in rescuing Vanessa. After all, it was partly their fault Ajax managed to escape. Deadpool calls Dopinder to drive them to the junkyard. During the ride, Wade asks if Dopinder has won Gita's heart. The driver explains that he tried, but his cousin Bandu is more handsome and confident, so he had to take drastic measures. Bandu is now tied up in the trunk. Deadpool is impressed, but gives the boy a moral lecture for Colossus' sake, since the metal mutant is sitting in the back and overhearing everything. When they arrive, Dopinder says goodbye and the three mutants step out. As they walk toward Ajax's hideout, Wade suddenly realizes he left his entire gun bag in the cab. But it's already almost noon and Dopinder is long gone. With no choice, Deadpool decides to go in old school, armed with only his twin swords. Suddenly, dozens of armed soldiers appear and surround them. Angel steps forward, ready to block their path and eliminate Deadpool. But Colossus steps in to fight her, allowing Wade to focus on saving Vanessa. Unfortunately, Angel knocks Colossus down with a single hit. Negasonic jumps in to help and blasts Angel away. In response, Angel commands the soldiers to fire. Colossus quickly throws a truck tire at the soldiers, knocking many of them out. As chaos breaks out, Deadpool and Negasonic duck behind a mountain of rubble to avoid the incoming gunfire. Wade then rips off his underwear and waves it like a peace flag. When the soldiers momentarily stop firing, he offers them a chance to surrender, saying he'll spare them if they put down their weapons. But his plan backfires. The soldiers open fire again, forcing Wade to charge in with his sword, slicing through their ranks, cutting bodies in half and severing heads without hesitation. Meanwhile, Colossus and Angel are still trading blows, arguing over who's stronger. As the chaos continues, Negasonic helps Deadpool reach the second floor of the junkyard where Ajax is holding Vanessa. She uses her powers to launch Deadpool and a large metal plate straight into the upper level. Once there, Wade sees Vanessa trapped inside the oxygen chamber and promises to rescue her. When she realizes the masked man is actually Wade, her ex-fiancé, she's shocked and furious. Ajax, seeing her reaction, cuts the oxygen supply to the chamber. Grabbing two weapons, he attacks. Wade fights back, and during the struggle, he throws one of his swords into the chamber to break the seal and let oxygen flow back in. Now down to one sword, Wade is at a disadvantage, and soon that last sword is broken too. Left unarmed, he's forced to fight with nothing but his fists. At the same time, Angel uses a thick metal cable to choke Colossus, keeping him from rejoining the fight. Inside the chamber, Vanessa uses the sword Wade threw to break her restraints and starts freeing herself. Back on the battlefield, Ajax pulls a hidden knife from Wade's suit and stabs him. He throws Wade aside, then drives the blade into his head and begins pummeling his face repeatedly. Just then, Vanessa escapes the oxygen chamber and stabs Ajax in the back with the sword. But with his brain injured, Wade can't think clearly or even stand. As he lies helpless, he sees Vanessa on the ground and starts imagining little cartoon creatures around her. Ajax recovers and lunges at Vanessa. Meanwhile, Negasonic sees Colossus in danger and unleashes the full force of her powers. The blast causes a massive explosion, destroying the entire area. By now, Wade begins to recover from the damage to his head. He rushes to fight Ajax, while also trying to protect Vanessa as the second floor begins to collapse. As the debris falls and containers slide everywhere, Wade puts Vanessa back into the oxygen chamber to shield her from the impact. Colossus, seeing the destruction around him, grabs Vanessa and Negasonic and runs to safety just before the entire structure collapses. The chamber, now buried under rubble, protects Vanessa from harm. Minutes later, she's pulled from the wreckage by the mutants, almost completely unharmed. Wade appears next, finally expecting a happy ending until Ajax bursts out of the rubble and attacks again. The two roll across the debris, grappling violently. Wade finds an opening and breaks both of Ajax's arms. He demands Ajax fix his face, but the scientist laughs and tells him there is no cure. Wade, he says, will have to live with that disfigured face forever. With no cure in sight, Deadpool takes out the small pistol that Al gave him, ready to end Ajax once and for all. Just as he's about to pull the trigger, Colossus arrives and tries to stop him, urging Wade to make the heroic choice. But while Colossus is in the middle of his heartfelt speech about being better and choosing the high road, Deadpool fires without hesitation, killing Ajax on the spot. Colossus immediately throws up his breakfast while he and Negasonic watch from the sidelines stunned. Wade turns to Vanessa and tries to explain himself. She's furious about being abandoned and punches him several times in the face. Once she gets her anger out, Wade apologizes for disappearing without a word and never coming back to tell her what happened. He explains that he was afraid to face her because the man under the mask isn't the same person she once knew. Vanessa gently removes the mask, only to find a fake Wolverine face underneath. She peels off the second mask and finally sees Wade's real face. She's startled at first, but then tells him that after a little time and a few drinks, she'll be more than happy to kiss that face. Colossus and Negasonic are surprised by her reaction. Before leaving, Colossus tells Wade that one day he's sure he'll join the X-Men, but for now, Wade tells them to head back to the Xavier mansion. Apparently, Vanessa didn't need much time at all. She pulls Wade in and the movie cuts to black. Deadpool 2 opens in the week of Deadpool's dating anniversary, where Wade travels across the globe, taking down members of a powerful international criminal organization. After wiping out the entire Asian cartel, Wade returns to the United States to confront the last remaining leader of the group. Though he's alone when he reaches the criminal base, Deadpool wastes no time and completely clears out the narcotics lab. The leader, Sergei Valoshenkov, retreats into a bunker and watches helplessly from the security monitors as Wade eliminates all of his men, with the lab cleared. Wade heads to the bunker's entrance and calls out for Sergei to come out. But just then, backup arrives, forcing Deadpool to retreat. Running late for his anniversary, he jumps into Dopender's cab and rushes home to Vanessa. At home, Wade gives Vanessa an arcade token, a memento from their first date. In return, Vanessa hands him her birth control box, hinting that she's ready to have a baby. Overjoyed, the couple begins talking about baby names, but Wade suddenly senses something wrong outside. He quickly tells Vanessa to hide, just in time to avoid a shotgun blast that shatters the front door latch. The same thugs who were backing Sergei earlier storm the apartment and start firing. Wade fights back with kitchen knives, taking down the intruders one by one. After the fight, he asks Vanessa to come out and see she's unharmed. But before they can breathe easy, Sergei appears in the doorway and fires a shot. He misses Wade, but the bullet strikes Vanessa in the heart. Wade leaps out the window to chase Sergei, but is hit by a car mid-street. Sergei escapes for the moment, but just a few meters ahead, a pickup truck crashes into his car, bringing it to a halt. Desperately trying to restart the engine, Sergei fails. Wade catches up, grabs him in a tight embrace, and seconds later they're both hit by an ambulance. After Vanessa's death, Wade sinks into a deep state of grief. He spends his days drinking heavily and using harmful substances to cope. After 3 full days at a bar, he returns to his old home and is greeted by Al, the blind woman who once lived with him. Overwhelmed by guilt, Wade collapses onto the floor, mourning everything he has lost. Al tries to comfort him, offering words of support, but as usual, Deadpool brushes them off. Consumed by pain, he attempts to break his curse of immortality using several methods like jumping into a bear's cage and blowing up the apartment. Instead of dying, Wade finds himself in a kind of purgatory. There, he's reunited with Vanessa's soul. Filled with joy at seeing her again, Wade tries to reach out, but an invisible barrier stands between them. He calls out to her, desperate for one final touch, but Vanessa gently tells him that his heart is not yet in the right place. Confused and heartbroken, Wade keeps trying to reach her, until he's suddenly pulled back to the world of the living at that moment. Colossus arrives at the destroyed apartment, collects Wade's scattered body parts, and takes him to the X-Mansion. Once Wade's body is reassembled, Colossus invites him to join the X-Men and starts explaining the mansion's rules. But Wade, never one to follow rules, steals Professor Xavier's wheelchair and attempts to flee. He's quickly caught by Colossus. Still grieving over Vanessa, Wade is reluctant to stay, but when Colossus tells him that the X-Men can be his new family, Wade finally agrees to remain at the mansion. At the same time, a young mutant named Russell arrives at the Essex Orphanage, an institution that claims to cure children with powers. There, he's greeted by the head of the facility, a cruel man who believes people with the X gene are diseased and should be eliminated. When the director realizes that Russell won't easily fall in line, he forces all the other children to watch as the boy is electrocuted. After days of enduring this abuse, Russell finally reaches his breaking point. He unleashes his fire powers on the staff, sparking chaos throughout the orphanage. When the police fail to get the situation under control, the X-Men are called in. Colossus convinces Wade to join them on the mission. As soon as they arrive at the facility, which is meant to protect mutants, Deadpool senses something is off. He approaches Russell hoping to help, but the frightened boy lashes out. He attacks Ellie, another X-Men, who quickly shields herself with a force field. Deadpool tries to calm the boy down, but Russell, still scared and angry, throws a fireball that hits Colossus in the chest and sends him flying into a news van. Seeing Russell as a potential danger, Deadpool pulls out his weapons ready to end the threat. But Colossus stops him, reminding him of the X-Men's first rule: never take a life, no matter the situation. Trying to follow the rules for once, Wade lowers his weapons and carefully approaches Russell, hoping to earn his trust. Just as he's getting near, the director of the orphanage suddenly steps outside. The director strolls out of the building without a care, leaving Russell even more out of control. In a fit of rage, Russell attacks Deadpool, knocking him into a room on the 3rd floor of the orphanage. Fed up with the boy's outbursts, Deadpool jumps down from the 3rd floor and throws one of his katanas, striking Russell right in the forehead and knocking him unconscious. With Russell down, the police place a power-neutralizing collar around his neck, cutting off his abilities. The director thanks Deadpool for his help and claims that his staff will now take full responsibility for the boy. But Russell, terrified, begs to be arrested instead, anything to avoid staying there. Sensing that something is wrong, Deadpool stops the staff from getting near Russell. As he checks the boy, he notices marks of abuse on Russell's neck. When Deadpool asks if the staff did this, Russell confirms it. Furious, Wade stands up and makes a short speech about not wanting to be the hero anymore. And then, without warning, shoots one of the staff members right in the head. Chaos erupts. The director and his staff hide behind a car to avoid more gunfire. Colossus quickly steps in and restrains Deadpool. Confused and angry, Colossus threatens Wade, who explains that the boy was being mistreated. But Colossus reminds him that the X-Men are not judges and cannot hand out punishment. At that point, the police place a neutralizing collar on Deadpool too. Both he and Russell are sent to the Icebox, one of the largest mutant prisons in the United States. Inside the Icebox, Russell suggests they team up with the strongest inmate they can find. Wade warns him that there's a dangerous monster trapped underground, but tells him not to worry about it for now. With his powers blocked by the collar, Wade becomes mortal again. His illness, once held back by his abilities, starts to take over, and he grows weaker by the day. Wade tries to adjust to life inside the prison, spending most of his days with Russell. But after getting dragged into a fight with other inmates and taking a beating because of the boy, Deadpool loses patience. He tells Russell he does not want to be friends anymore, leaving the boy hurt and disappointed. Meanwhile, a mysterious man sees a news report about the Essex Institute incident. Using advanced futuristic technology, he gathers weapons and prepares for action. Fully armed, the man breaks into the Icebox. After locating the cell where Wade and Russell are being held, he begins fighting his way toward them, easily defeating the security guards in his path. Realizing that his weapons cannot break through the armored cells, the intruder heads to the control room and sets off a bomb, destroying the computers and unlocking every cell in the prison. At first, Wade thinks the man is after him. He urges Russell to run in a different direction to stay safe. But once he sees that the man is actually targeting Russell, Wade makes a quick decision. He will protect the boy and prepares to fight. Even though Wade wants to protect Russell, he is severely weakened by his illness and struggles during the fight. As the battle continues, the mysterious man accidentally shoots Deadpool's collar, causing it to malfunction and slowly restore Wade's immortality and healing powers. With Wade seemingly defeated, the stranger turns his attention to Russell, preparing to take him out. But just as he's about to fire, Deadpool rises, tackles him, and the two crash down to the 2nd floor, finally knocking the collar off for good. Thinking Deadpool is down for good, the cyborg focuses on Russell, blasting the floor beneath him and sending the boy crashing to the lower level. But as soon as Russell hits the ground, Wade fully recovers and launches himself back into the fight. Deadpool grabs an iron bar and begins beating the attacker, managing to grab his futuristic gun. Setting it to full power, Wade fires, sending the man flying across the room. Wade approaches his opponent and demands to know who he is. The man simply replies that his name is Cable, and that he has come from the future. Before Wade can react, Cable uses a magnetism device to pull his gun back and fires at the ceiling, causing a heavy steel structure to collapse. Wade narrowly avoids being crushed. Determined to stop him, Deadpool charges Cable again and the two engage in another brutal fight. Even with his powers restored, Wade suffers heavy injuries. His arm is broken, his thigh is punctured, and he takes a punch so strong it knocks Vanessa's arcade token loose. After overpowering Wade, Cable picks up the arcade token as a trophy. Deadpool, unwilling to lose it, struggles to his feet and tries to retrieve it. But Cable knocks him down again with a powerful punch. With Wade nearly powerless, Cable demands to know why he is protecting Russell. Not realizing that the boy is listening, Wade bitterly says he does not care about him. Feeling hurt and betrayed, Russell quickly turns himself into the prison guards. At the same time, Wade pulls the pin on one of Cable's grenades, causing a massive explosion that blasts them both out of the prison and into the snowy mountains. As they roll through the snow, Cable manages to grab onto a rock to stop himself, but Wade is not so lucky. He slams his head on a rock and falls unconscious into a frozen lake. As soon as he hits the water, Wade once again finds himself in purgatory. He begs Vanessa to let him join her, but when she does not respond, he reflects on her earlier words. He finally realizes that Russell is where his heart truly belongs. With this understanding, Wade is pulled back into the world of the living. Emerging from the icy water, he heads straight to the bar to make a plan to save the boy. While talking to Weasel, the bartender, Wade learns that the prisoners are going to be transferred to an even more secure prison in a few days. With little time left, Wade decides to put together a rescue team, which he proudly names X-Force. After assembling the team, Weasel leaves the bar to head home, but Cable intercepts him along the way. Despite being Wade's friend, Weasel quickly caves under pressure and reveals everything he knows about Russell and the X-Force. Meanwhile, back in prison, Russell decides to follow Wade's old advice. He steals pudding from another inmate, starting a huge brawl in the mess hall. While everyone is distracted by the chaos, Russell sneaks away and approaches the monster Wade had warned him about. He offers the creature his tray of food, winning its friendship. On the day of the transfer, Russell and the other prisoners are loaded onto a transport truck headed for a maximum security prison. With their plan set, Deadpool and the X-Force jump out of a helicopter, aiming to land on the truck. However, strong winds cause disaster. One by one, all the team members crash to the ground and lose their lives, except for Domino, who uses her super luck to land safely and sneak onto the truck. Once inside, Domino throws the driver out and takes control of the vehicle. But just as she secures the wheel, Cable shows up and manages to climb aboard as well. Inside the truck, Cable notices Deadpool chasing after them on a tiny scooter. To stop him, Cable begins releasing the prisoner cabins, trying to crush Wade. But Deadpool dodges each one, though it leaves him struggling outside the truck. Wade attempts to leap from his scooter onto the truck but misjudges the jump and crashes hard onto the road. Luckily, just as he gets up, he is struck by one of the prison vehicles. Grabbing onto the hood, Wade eliminates the driver, then steers the car from outside, one hand on the katana to press the gas and the other gripping the wheel. Meanwhile, Domino tries to fight Cable inside the truck but is quickly overpowered. Just as Cable is about to finish her off, Deadpool catches up and saves her at the last second. Demanding his stolen chip back, Wade faces off against Cable while Domino returns to the driver's seat. However, she soon realizes that the truck's brakes have failed. The earlier gunfire damaged the chassis and caused all the brake fluid to leak out. As Domino desperately tries to slow the truck down, Cable fires at Deadpool. Wade skillfully deflects several projectiles with his katana, but still takes a few hits. At that moment, Russell manages to unlock his cabin door using a pen he had hidden in his clothes. While Cable and Deadpool are still fighting, Russell sneaks over to the monster's cell and frees him. The creature, Juggernaut, bursts out, slamming his fists into the ground so hard that he creates a massive crater, flipping the entire transport truck. After the crash, Juggernaut steps out and walks over to Deadpool, easily tearing him in half like a candy bar. Now just a torso, Deadpool tries to apologize to Russell, but the boy coldly tells him he no longer needs him and plans to continue his quest for revenge with Juggernaut's help. After this painful goodbye, Russell leaves with Juggernaut while Domino carries Wade's remains back to their apartment to wait for his legs to regenerate. As they wait, Weasel arrives and warns them that Cable threatened him earlier. Moments later, Cable himself walks through the door. Although everyone braces for an attack, Cable instead asks for their help. He explains that Russell plans to kill the director of the Essex Institute, and if he does, it will spark a dark path, leading Russell to grow into a dangerous villain who in the future kills Cable's wife and daughter. Cable says he could have stopped Russell alone, but with Juggernaut by his side, he now needs help. Wade asks why Cable did not simply travel further back in time to stop the events earlier. Cable explains that his time travel device only had two charges, one to arrive in the past and one to return to his own time. Understanding Cable's pain, knowing he would have done the same for Vanessa, Wade agrees to team up. However, he asks Cable for one thing: a chance to talk to Russell first, hoping he can change the boy's mind before any blood is shed. Realizing that even he and Cable together are not enough to stop Juggernaut, Wade asks Dopinder to drive them to the X-Mansion. There, Deadpool apologizes to Colossus for letting him down and explains the situation with Russell and Juggernaut. However, the X-Men refuse to help, still unwilling to support Deadpool's reckless ways. Accepting their decision, Wade admits that his own heart has been in the wrong place too. With little choice, he gets back into the cab and heads to the Essex Institute with the team. When they arrive, Wade notices Cable carrying a scorched teddy bear and asks about it. Cable explains that the bear is stained with his daughter's blood, a painful reminder of what he has lost. Meanwhile, outside the orphanage, Russell and Juggernaut arrive and knock on the door. Even though Deadpool and the new X-Force try to convince Russell to walk away from his revenge, the boy furiously blows the door open and chases after the director. As Russell pursues his target through the building, Cable, Deadpool, and Domino stay outside trying to take down Juggernaut. Despite using Cable's futuristic weapons and their best fighting skills, they are no match. Juggernaut easily overpowers them. Domino manages to land a grenade launcher shot directly to Juggernaut's face, but it barely slows him down. As Wade and Cable struggle to catch up, Deadpool finally regains consciousness and sees that Colossus has changed his mind and come to help. Knowing Colossus is the only one strong enough to stand a chance, Deadpool watches as the X-Man charges Juggernaut and lands a solid punch to his helmet. Even with all his strength, Colossus is still weaker than Juggernaut and has to rely on some dirty tactics just to stay in the fight. While Colossus battles Juggernaut, Domino sneaks inside the Institute and fights off the nurses to rescue the children. Thanks to her incredible luck, the staff mostly defeat themselves during the chaos. With the way clear, Domino tries to lead the children out, but the exits are blocked by fire. Just then, as Juggernaut tries to hit Colossus, he throws a bus through the window, creating a perfect ramp for Domino and the kids to escape. At the same time, Wade and Cable take down the remaining nurses outside and finally reach Russell. But even when Deadpool steps in front of the director to protect him, Russell shows no hesitation. He unleashes his powers, forcing Cable to seal them both. Seeing that Russell is determined to complete his revenge, Cable raises his gun to take him out. However, Deadpool stops him, insisting there is still time to save the boy. As Wade and Cable struggle to restrain Russell, Ellie and Yukio arrive at the Institute and rush to Colossus's aid. Working together, Yukio traps Juggernaut's legs with an electrified chain. Colossus then jabs a high-voltage wire into Juggernaut's back, and Ellie uses her sonic powers to blast him into a pool, electrocuting him and taking him out of the fight. With Juggernaut defeated, all that remains is Russell. Wade, still believing in him, slowly approaches the boy, pleading with him not to take a life. Although Russell accepts the apology, he admits he cannot trust anyone and blasts Deadpool with his powers, sending him flying. Realizing he has failed to convince him, Wade takes a drastic step. He puts the neutralizing collar back on himself, becoming mortal once again, and approaches Russell for one final attempt. Fearing that Deadpool will be killed, Cable grabs his gun and fires the last projectile at Russell. In a split-second decision, Wade jumps in front of the shot, taking it straight to the heart. As he collapses, Russell sees the sacrifice Wade made for him. Realizing how much anger had blinded him, the boy breaks down in regret. At that moment, the bloodstains on Cable's teddy bear vanish, a clear sign that the future has changed and Cable's family has been saved. But with the collar still on, Wade's life now hangs by a thread. Colossus tries to remove the collar from Deadpool's neck, but Wade refuses, saying his mission is complete and his heart is finally in the right place. In his final moments, Wade says goodbye to the new X-Force, giving special attention to Cable and Russell. After his farewells, he drifts back into Purgatory, where he finally reaches Vanessa. But even now, Vanessa tells him it is not his time yet. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Cable decides to change Deadpool's fate. He uses the last charge of his time travel device to return to the moment outside the Essex Institute. There, as Wade asks about the teddy bear, Cable quietly slips Vanessa's arcade token into Wade's shirt pocket, positioning it perfectly to intercept the shot. When the events replay, Wade once again leaps to shield Russell, but this time the bullet hits the token, absorbing the full impact and saving his life. Seeing the token, Wade immediately realizes what Cable has done and understands that Cable can no longer return to his own time. But Cable simply says that what matters is his family is safe, and now he will stay a little longer. With the crisis over, Russell removes Wade's collar, and they leave the Institute together. As they exit, the director of the orphanage appears, hurling insults at them. But before he can finish, Dopinder runs him over with his cab, ending him once and for all. Sometime later, Ellie and Yukio manage to fix Cable's time travel watch, and give it to the worst possible person, Deadpool. Wade wastes no time. He travels back to his apartment just in time to stop Sergei before he can harm Vanessa, saving her for good. After that, Wade jumps to the events of X-Men Origins, Wolverine, where he eliminates his bizarre old version. Finally, he travels to prevent Ryan Reynolds from ever agreeing to star in Green Lantern, erasing yet another mistake from history. With all the world's evils corrected, Wade finally gets to enjoy a peaceful life, at least until he inevitably messes it up again. The New Mutants opens up in 2020 on an Indian reservation in the United States, where a girl named Dani Moonstar wakes up to the sound of loud explosions. Moments later, her father rushes into the room panicked and pulls her outside. Once they step out, they're met with a terrible sight. Everything around them is in flames. Cars are destroyed, houses are burning, and people are running in all directions trying to escape the chaos. Dani and her father move quickly, searching for a safe place. Eventually, they reach a forest on the edge of the reservation. There, her father hides her inside the hollow of a large tree and runs back to help the others. But not long after, Dani sees her father's lifeless body thrown onto the ground in front of her. Terrified, she takes off running through the forest. As a strange noise begins to follow her, she runs even faster, until she trips, tumbles down a hill, and loses consciousness. Hours later, Dani wakes up in a hospital bed with one of her hands handcuffed to the rail. She struggles to break free, but before she can do anything, a woman appears outside the room. The woman introduces herself as Dr. Reyes. She explains to Dani that a tornado destroyed her home and that she was the only survivor. According to Dr. Reyes, Dani managed to survive because of her mutant gene, though they still don't know what her powers are. Hours later, Dr. Reyes takes Dani back to her room and explains that she'll need to stay in the hospital for observation until they can figure out what her mutation is and how to control it. The next day, Dani walks into a room where several other young mutants are gathered with Dr. Reyes. The doctor asks them to talk about their powers. The first to speak is Rain, a girl who can transform into a wolf. One of the other mutants, Ileana, grows bored of the conversation and tries to leave, but Dr. Reyes stops her and asks her to show Danny around the hospital. Ileana isn't thrilled, but she agrees. Outside, Ileana tells Danny that the hospital has no walls and that anyone can leave whenever they want. Danny takes her word for it and tries to escape, but instead she crashes into an invisible force field. Ileana watches and laughs, then tells Danny that this isn't really a hospital, it's a prison. Upset by the trick, Danny lashes out and tries to attack her, but Ileana opens a glowing portal and disappears. Later, Danny climbs to the top of the hospital's clock tower. Feeling overwhelmed and heartbroken, she stands at the edge, but just in time, Rain finds her and gently talks her down. From that moment on, the two become friends. They explore the hospital together, and while walking through the courtyard, they meet another mutant named Sam. He has the ability to fly at sonic speed, though it clearly takes a toll on him. Later that evening at dinner, they're joined by Roberto, a mutant from Brazil. No one really knows what his powers are or why he's even there. As the day ends, the new friends say goodnight and Danny heads off to bed. That night, Danny has a vivid dream, reliving the painful memory of the night she lost her father. At the same time, Dr. Reyes watches her through a camera, noticing that the monitors are picking up a strong surge of energy coming from Danny's body. Meanwhile, in the laundry room, Sam is having a quiet conversation with Roberto when a sudden tremor shakes the building. The lights flicker and one of the machines begins to rattle. Curious, Sam steps closer to check it out, but as he does, his mind is suddenly pulled into a memory. He finds himself back in a mine, standing face to face with his father. Things take a turn when one of the miners suddenly attacks him with a pickaxe, causing Sam to make a blast of energy that sends him flying into a wall and back to reality. The next day, the young mutants return to their usual routine at the hospital. Later, they gather in the recreation room to relax. Danny is the last to arrive, and once again, Ileana taunts her, teasing her for still not discovering her powers. Danny stands her ground and grabs a hand puppet off Ileana's arm, which angers her. Ileana shoves Danny toward the table, but Danny fights back with a headbutt. Ileana unleashes her powers and her arm transforms into metal, and a glowing cosmic sword appears in her hand. Just as she strikes, Dr. Reyes activates a force field. After the confrontation, both girls are sent to spend the night in solitary confinement. That night, as Danny finally falls asleep in her isolation room, her psychic powers begin to activate again, triggering another nightmare. This time, she relives her escape through the forest, but now blood begins to fall from the sky. When she looks up, she sees something terrifying. A giant bear forming in the clouds. The creature lunges toward her and the intense fear jolts Danny awake. She screams in terror. Dr. Reyes rushes to her room and finds Danny panicked with her arms covered in blood. The next day, the doctor tries to calm her down and collects blood samples to study in the lab. Meanwhile, Rain visits the chapel to make a confession. But while she's there, she hears a voice coming from the confessional. Then the doors begin slamming shut on their own and Rain runs out in fear. Later, Danny checks in on Rain in her room. She's still shaken from what happened. As the two talk, the other mutants arrive and invite them to hang out in the attic. There they start playing a game of truth or dare with a lie detector. Each person shares something from their past. When it's Danny's turn, Ileana asks her what her power is, but Danny still doesn't know. Ileana then points to the bear necklace around Danny's neck and asks about it. Danny explains that it was a gift from her father, meant to protect her from a mystical bear. According to legend, the bear feeds on people's fear. The group continues the game through the night, unaware that Dr. Reyes is secretly watching them. The next morning, Dr. Reyes gathers all the young mutants for a group meeting. She explains that if they stay focused on their treatment, they'll soon be transferred to another facility under the care of her supervisor. But Sam becomes frustrated. Tired of being trapped in the hospital, he storms out of the room. Later that night, Ileana decides to get back at Dr. Reyes. She secretly slips a sleeping pill into the doctor's tea. Once Reyes dozes off in the living room, the group takes the chance to relax and enjoy some freedom. While chatting, Danny asks the others who the supervisor is that Dr. Reyes mentioned earlier. Roberto guesses that it must be Professor Xavier, the leader of the famous group of mutants known as the X-Men. A few hours later, Rain takes Danny to a hidden exit from the hospital. They slip out and walk to a nearby cemetery. There they see rain falling on top of the invisible dome above them, creating a beautiful and peaceful view. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Roberto is alone, looking through old photos of his ex-girlfriend on his phone. Suddenly, he hears a soft, beautiful voice singing nearby. Curious, he follows the sound and finds Ileana in the pool. They share a playful and intimate moment together. But then Roberto's body begins to heat up uncontrollably. He confesses that during a past moment with his ex-girlfriend, his powers activated, and he accidentally burned her alive. Ileana tries to comfort him, telling him not to blame himself and encouraging him to enjoy the moment. But just as quickly as she appeared, Ileana vanishes. Confused and concerned, Roberto looks around, then a burned hand suddenly reaches up from the water. Thinking it's Ileana, he turns only to come face to face with a fiery ghost in the shape of his ex-girlfriend. Moments later, the hospital alarm sounds, waking up Dr. Reyes. Far away, Danny and Rain hear the siren and rush back to see what's going on. When everyone arrives at the pool, they find Roberto standing there, his entire body engulfed in flames. Without hesitation, Dr. Reyes shoves him into the water, which immediately puts out the fire and brings him back to normal. Once the situation is under control, Ileana walks in, completely unaware of what just happened. This only confuses Roberto more. He tries to explain what he saw, but Dr. Reyes insists that he was alone in the pool the whole time. Worried he might be losing his mind, Roberto grabs Dr. Reyes's phone and tries to call the police, desperate to report everything happening inside the hospital. Ileana stands by him and challenges the doctor, but Reyes responds by sending her back to solitary confinement as punishment for knocking her out earlier. The next morning, Dr. Reyes begins a new experiment with Danny, trying to unlock the truth about her mutation. She injects Danny with a special substance to help her remember the events of the tornado. Danny starts recalling the memories, until her vision shifts. Suddenly, she sees a mysterious lab where terrifying experiments are being performed on young mutants. As these images race through her mind, strange things begin to happen inside the hospital. In solitary confinement, the door to Ileana's room creaks open, but when she tries to leave, she notices a strange drawing of a figure on the wall. At the same time, Rain is in the bathroom when she senses someone nearby. A deformed bishop appears in front of her, someone she clearly recognizes. Terrified, she tries to transform into a wolf, but the figure grabs her hand and presses a hot iron against it, burning her skin. Everyone rushes to help Rain, but already find her transformed into a wolf. In panic, Rain tries to escape, but the exit is blocked, forcing her to shift back into her human form. Her friends come to support her and soon notice a burn mark on her neck, shaped like the hot iron the bishop used. It matches the older scar she already had on her back. Shortly after, Ileana arrives and points the blame at Danny. She accuses her of creating all the terrifying visions they've been seeing and warns that if she's not stopped, she could end up killing them all. She then activates her metallic arm and pulls Danny into Limbo, a dimension she created herself. In Limbo, Ileana grabs Danny by the neck, but suddenly, a strange mask appears on Danny's face, causing Ileana to panic and snap them both to reality. Dr. Reyes takes advantage of the moment and injects Danny with a sedative, knocking her unconscious. Hours later, Danny visits Ileana's room to apologize and quietly returns her puppet. Ileana is surprised by the gesture and decides to open up. She shares how Limbo was a place she created as a child to escape from her painful past. Meanwhile, Dr. Reyes sits in front of her computer waiting for instructions from her supervisor. A message arrives confirming that after reviewing Danny's test results, she is classified as extremely dangerous and must be eliminated. After being asked for a confirmation code, Dr. Reyes enters it, and the screen reveals the orders are coming from a secret organization known as the Essex Corporation. Later, Danny goes to visit Rain to check on her. But before they can talk, Dr. Reyes arrives and calls Danny in for another round of testing. Rain, growing suspicious of the doctor's behavior, returns to the others and shares her concerns. Suddenly, music echoes through the corridor. Curious, the group follows the sound and Ileana realizes it's coming from her room. But when she opens the door, everything is coated in a strange black substance. Inside, a memory plays from her childhood. The young Ileana is lying in bed beside her puppet when a tall, slender creature appears, reaching for her. Frightened, she teleports into Limbo to escape, enraging the creature. The creature then turns toward Ileana and begins to attack, but Sam steps in just in time and shields her, helping them both flee. Meanwhile, Rain goes looking for Dr. Reyes to ask for help. But when she reaches the room where Danny was being held, both of them are gone. Realizing something is wrong, Rain transforms into a wolf and sets out to find her friend. Unaware that nearby, Dr. Reyes is preparing to carry out her secret order to eliminate Danny. At the same time, Ileana and Sam race through the hospital corridors, only to be ambushed by 3 more monstrous creatures. Elsewhere, Roberto is in the kitchen when he hears music playing. He's caught off guard as one of the monsters creeps up behind him. But just in time, Roberto reacts, hurling fireballs from his hands to defend himself. As the others battle the creatures, Dr. Reyes gets ready to inject Danny with a lethal dose. But before she can, Rain bursts through the air vent above her and slashes the doctor with her claws. Wounded and desperate, Reyes grabs a scalpel and stabs Rain in the leg, managing to escape. Despite the injury, Rain recovers quickly and rescues Danny just in time. Meanwhile, Sam and Ileana are still being chased through the hospital and find themselves trapped in another corridor filled with monsters. Dr. Reyes appears and they call out for help, but the moment she sees the creatures, she turns and runs. With no other choice, Sam urges Ileana to fight back, but scared, she vanishes into Limbo instead. Left alone, Sam powers up and launches himself at sonic speed straight through the creatures, tearing them apart. Afterward, he meets up with Roberto, who's trying to escape through the main exit, only to find it still blocked by the force field. They search for another way out, but more monsters appear. Just then, a glowing portal opens at the top of the stairs. Ileana steps out, sword in hand. Without hesitation, she charges at the creatures, slashing through them one by one. After the battle, the group gathers in Dr. Reyes' office and starts digging through her files. What they discover shocks them. The facility was never meant to treat young mutants. It was designed to train them as living weapons for destruction. Realizing the truth, they all agree they need to escape. But there's only one way out. They must find Dr. Reyes and bring down the force field that's trapping them. The team begins their search, and thanks to Rain's sharp sense of smell, they locate the doctor. Even though she's badly injured, Dr. Reyes refuses to give up. She activates force fields to trap the entire group. Then she reveals the truth about Danny's power. She has the ability to bring people's deepest fears to life. These illusions can become so real that they can even kill. Because of this, Reyes decides to eliminate Danny by removing the oxygen from her force field. But just then, the entire hospital begins to shake from a powerful tremor. Dr. Reyes rushes to see what's happening, only for a massive monstrous bear to burst through the wall. The creature grabs her in its jaws and swallows her whole. With the doctor gone, the force fields vanish, freeing the others. But Danny remains unconscious, her mind trapped in a memory. Rain tries to help her and realizes that the giant bear isn't just a nightmare, it's a physical form of Danny's own fear created by her powers. Ileana quickly takes charge, telling the others to protect Danny while she fights the beast. She summons her glowing sword and steps through a portal, exiting the hospital. Outside, Ileana stands before the giant bear with her puppet Lockheed, now transformed into a small dragon by her magic. As the bear charges, Ileana leaps high into the air and slashes at it with her sword. At the same time, Lockheed distracts the creature, blasting it with streams of fire. But even their combined efforts aren't enough to stop the bear, which strikes back fiercely. While the battle continues, the rest of the group runs to the chapel to place Danny somewhere safe. Inside, Rain gently hides Danny in the confessional, trying to wake her up. Suddenly, the giant bear crashes into the chapel, destroying everything in its path. Sam reacts quickly. He powers up and flies straight at the creature, managing to rip out one of its massive fangs. Soon after, Ileana and Lockheed return to the battlefield and launch another attack on the giant bear. But their strikes have no effect. The bear retaliates, swatting Ileana aside and sending her flying. Just before crashing, she opens a portal and falls to safety. Meanwhile, Roberto hides during the fight, afraid that using his powers could hurt his friends. But when he sees the bear closing in on them, he steps forward and unleashes flames across his entire body. The bear hurls debris from the chapel at him, but Roberto shields himself and uses one of the broken pieces to strike back. As the battle rages on, Rain stays by Danny's side, desperately trying to wake her. But Danny remains unconscious. Inside her mind, Danny finds herself once again under the tree where her father once hid her. She hears her friends calling her back, but she can't seem to break free. Back in the real world, Roberto continues fighting the bear, but the creature slams him to the ground, leaving him unconscious. Rain leaps up and claws at the beast's face, trying to protect her friends, but the bear throws her over the edge of the chapel. She begins to fall. At that very moment, the monster nearly steps on Danny's body, but Sam rushes in and pulls her out of the way just in time. Inside her dream, Danny sees a vision of her father. He tells her that she must face her fear and return to help her friends. Encouraged by his words, Danny opens her eyes just as the bear charges at Rain. Standing tall, Danny commands the bear to stop. The creature resists at first, but Danny slowly walks toward it, trying to calm it. When the beast finally comes to a halt, Danny removes the bear necklace from around her neck and gently holds it out. She tells the creature to go, showing she's no longer afraid. The bear stares at her, then begins to fade. Piece by piece, the monstrous figure dissolves and the nightmare finally ends. The next morning, the group gathers in the ruins of the destroyed hospital. Danny thanks them for standing by her, but Rain reminds her that she's the one who saved them all. Now that Dr. Reyes is gone, Sam throws a rock into the sky and watches it pass through the air. The invisible dome is gone. The young mutants are finally free. With nothing holding them back, they head out together in search of the nearest town. They walk toward the horizon, united by everything they've been through and ready to choose their own destinies. Deadpool and Wolverine begins with Deadpool on a mission to save his world from destruction. Believing that Wolverine might still be alive due to his powerful healing abilities, Deadpool digs up Logan's grave hoping to find him. But instead, he finds only Wolverine's skeleton. Frustrated and heartbroken, Deadpool begins talking to the skeleton. That's when agents from the TVA or the Time Variance Authority suddenly arrive, aiming to arrest him for interfering with the timeline. Acting quickly, Deadpool grabs Wolverine's adamantium bones and uses them as weapons to fight back. He defeats the first group of agents and even kicks Logan's skull aside. More TVA agents arrive through glowing portals, but Deadpool doesn't give up. He ties Wolverine's claws to his wrists and charges forward, using them to battle and defeat the rest of the intruders. Next, the story takes us back in time. Wade, hoping to leave his life as Deadpool behind, wanted to join the Avengers. He believed that doing good could help him win back his ex-girlfriend, Vanessa. His biggest fear was losing her forever, but when he approached Happy, Tony Stark's old driver and now an Avengers staff member, he was turned down. Happy told Wade that his reasons were selfish and the Avengers couldn't accept him. 6 years later, Wade tries to start fresh. He begins working at a car dealership with Peter, one of the few people who knows his true identity as Deadpool. On Wade's birthday, Peter brings him home, where a surprise party is waiting. Wade is surrounded by friends, including Vanessa. Even though he's still heartbroken over their breakup, he enjoys the rare moment of being with the people he loves. After blowing out his candles and making a wish, Wade hears a knock at the door. When he opens it, he's met by agents from the TVA. Before he can ask what's going on, one of them rips off his wig and the other grabs him. Together, they drag him through a portal, taking him to the TVA headquarters against his will. At the TVA headquarters, Wade meets a man named Paradox, who explains that all TVA agents are responsible for protecting something called the Sacred Timeline. Paradox tells Wade that he has been chosen for an important mission. If Wade agrees to work for him, there's a chance he could join the Avengers in the future. Excited by the opportunity, Wade accepts the offer without hesitation and heads to the tailor's room to get a new uniform for his mission. Before starting, Wade asks Paradox if he can go home and share the good news with his friends. That's when the truth is revealed. By agreeing to the TVA's deal, Wade can never return to his world. His universe is set to be reset in 72 hours, and everyone he cares about will vanish. Paradox explains that when a universe loses its anchor, it begins to fall apart. In Wade's universe, that anchor was Wolverine, who gave his life to save a group of mutant children, including his daughter Laura. Instead of allowing the universe to die slowly over thousands of years, Paradox created a machine to destroy it quickly. He gives Wade two options: join the sacred timeline and become an Avenger, or be erased along with his universe. But Wade refuses both. He attacks Paradox and steals a temp pad, using it to open a portal back home. He's now convinced that Wolverine might still be alive and could be the key to saving his world. Wade digs up Logan's grave once again, only to confirm what he feared. Wolverine is truly gone, with no hope left in his own world, and after defeating all the TVA agents who came to capture him, Deadpool sets out on a new mission: to find another version of Logan from a parallel universe and convince him to help save his friends. Wade begins traveling across different realities, meeting various versions of Wolverine. Each time he tries to explain the situation and ask for help, but none of them agree. In fact, every Logan he meets attacks him. One version even looks strikingly like Henry Cavill and leaves Wade covered in wounds from adamantium claws. Eventually, Deadpool meets an older alcoholic version of Wolverine. But this Logan also refuses to help. Desperate, Wade brings him to the TVA headquarters, hoping Paradox might agree to use this version as a replacement anchor for his dying universe. However, Paradox refuses. He says that one Wolverine cannot simply take the place of another. When Wade insists on speaking to someone higher up, he finds out that Paradox plans to go through with the universe reset without getting approval from his boss. Worried about losing his position, Paradox decides to erase Deadpool and does the same to Wolverine before they can cause any further problems. When Deadpool finally encounters Wolverine, Logan is furious. He was taken from his universe without warning and now finds himself trapped in an unfamiliar place. Fueled by rage, he lashes out. Wade fires back literally, emptying his pistols into Wolverine's ribs. But Logan keeps coming. He slashes through Deadpool's weapons with his claws, forcing Wade to rely on his swords. The fight becomes intense. Though Wolverine is hit multiple times, Deadpool's swords end up lodged in his body. Weakened but still dangerous, Logan gets ready to decapitate Deadpool. In a last-ditch effort, Wade talks to him. He admits he doesn't know Logan's past, but guesses the bitterness comes from deep loss. He promises that if Wolverine helps him get back to the TVA headquarters, he'll find a way to convince Paradox to restore his universe. Before Logan can answer, the conversation is cut short. Captain America appears, warning them that enemies are closing in. Deadpool is overwhelmed, seeing one of his childhood heroes in front of him. But the excitement fades quickly when Captain America begins to catch fire. Wade realizes it's not Steve Rogers at all, but Johnny Storm, the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four. Johnny uses his flame powers to attack the incoming threat, but Pyro steps in. He absorbs the flames, neutralizing the attack. Suddenly, Sabretooth shows up ready to attack his brother. Deadpool pulls the swords out of Wolverine's body, expecting a spectacular showdown. But the battle ends with Logan decapitating Sabretooth in a single strike. Pyro then uses a magnetic device to trap the duo and take them to his boss. Wolverine, Deadpool, and Johnny are locked up together and taken to the hideout of Cassandra Nova, the twin sister of Professor Charles Xavier. When they meet her, Deadpool wastes no time stirring trouble by repeating all the insulting things Johnny said about her during their trip. Cassandra, angered by the remarks, decides that Johnny must be eliminated. She explains that she was sent to this place before she could even walk, and her brother Charles never came to find her. As she continues to speak ill of Xavier, Wolverine becomes furious. Defending his late friend, he lunges at her, but Cassandra uses her powers to sink his body into the ground, stopping him instantly. Turning her attention to Wade, she invades his mind, searching through his thoughts to find his weaknesses. There, she discovers the source of his pain, being recently rejected by the person he loved most. Once she exits his mind, Deadpool quickly creates a distraction. Taking advantage of the moment, Wolverine manages to break free and strike Cassandra with his claws. But to their shock, the attack has no effect. Cassandra escapes effortlessly and summons Alioth, a massive purple cloud creature, to devour them all. As Alioth draws closer, Wolverine and Deadpool grab a flying device and escape just in time. With their lives intact, the two agree on what needs to be done next. Return to the TVA, capture Paradox, and force him to restore both of their universes. But before launching into their next mission, they decide to take a moment to rest. The duo stumble upon an abandoned diner in the middle of the desert. While they eat, Wade mentions how Logan is loved by fans in his world. But Wolverine quietly shares that in his universe he's hated by everyone, because of a mistake he can never undo. After a short break, the two set off again, heading for the border. Before Johnny died, he said it was the only way out of that strange world. As they walk, Wolverine asks what happened to the other version of him. Deadpool explains that Logan died saving a girl who was also created in a lab. Her name was Laura and Logan saw her as his daughter. Out of nowhere, Deadpool spots a dog running toward him. Instantly smitten, he decides to adopt the animal. But he soon learns the dog, named Dogpool, already has an owner, another Deadpool known as Nicepool. When Wolverine asks for directions to the border, Nicepool offers to help them get home. He even lends them his car to speed up the journey. Though it's hard for him, Wade gives Dogpool back to his rightful owner and climbs into the car with Wolverine, ready to continue their quest. During their journey, Deadpool asks Wolverine what he would change if the TVA could alter the past. Hearing this, Logan suddenly realizes he's been misled. Wade convinced him to help based on promises that may not be true. Unsure if his universe can actually be restored, Logan slams the brakes and attacks Deadpool inside the car. Since being ripped from his world, Wolverine had believed he could undo a terrible mistake and bring back lost friends. But now, knowing it was likely all a lie, he unleashes his anger on Wade. Deadpool swings his sword, but Wolverine's claws strike faster, piercing him repeatedly. Their healing powers keep them in the fight all night, wrecking the car and covering it in blood. By morning, they're both knocked out and are found by another variant recently sent to that world. Moments later, Wade regains consciousness and spots Logan drinking. Suddenly, he hears a sound and gets ready to attack, but it's Elektra who quickly drops him. Joining her are Blade, a half-vampire, half-mortal man. You can watch his franchise recap here. Next comes Gambit, a man who can mentally control and manipulate pure kinetic energy. Last but not least is Laura, also known as X-23. Laura explains that she found them both passed out and brought them to the hideout because she recognized Wolverine. Before being captured by the TVA, she went through a similar experiment. Adamantium was infused into her body. Thanks to Logan's help, she survived. Though this Logan isn't the same one who saved her, she wants to return the favor. Elektra then explains that all their universes were reset. Because these mutants would never allow that without resistance, the TVA banished them all to the void to avoid future trouble. Hearing their story, Wade decides to join their cause and learns they were all friends of Johnny. At that moment, Wolverine reveals that because of Wade's actions, the Human Torch was eliminated by Cassandra Nova. Despite this, Deadpool manages to win the group's trust and convinces them to help him defeat Cassandra, the twin sister of Professor Xavier. The only way to stop her is to block her telepathic powers using Magneto's helmet, but it was destroyed when Cassandra killed the mutant. While recalling that loss, Elektra suddenly remembers that Juggernaut's helmet could serve the same purpose. The only problem? Juggernaut works for Cassandra. Deadpool hatches a plan to steal the helmet and convinces the entire team to join him, except for Wolverine. That night, while sitting by a campfire and drinking, Logan is approached by Laura. She tells him he reminds her of her father, flawed but always there when she needed him. Hearing this, Logan opens up. He admits he wasn't there for the X-Men when they needed him most. Instead of staying at the mansion with his team, he chose to go his own way. One day, while Logan was out drinking, humans invaded the mansion and killed all the mutants. When he returned hours later, he found the lifeless bodies of his closest friends. Since then, he's carried the guilt of not being there to protect them. Moved by his story, Laura promises to fight beside him. She asks Logan to join them in the battle against Cassandra Nova. At dawn, the team sets off and drives toward the mutant stronghold. As they approach, Blade fires a bazooka, blowing open the front gate. The group storms the base. Everyone assumes Wolverine stayed behind, but just as the fight begins, he climbs out from the trunk, ready to join the battle. His return lifts the team's spirits. Knowing the odds are against them, each member gives everything they've got to help Deadpool and Wolverine reach Cassandra. When they finally confront her, Cassandra acts amused by their return. Without lifting a finger, she uses her powers to freeze them in place. Then she enters Logan's mind. There she sees the pain he's buried for years, the moment he found his fallen friends at the mansion. That trauma turned him cold. From then on, he began hunting humans, hoping it would numb the guilt that never left him. Meanwhile, Laura faces Juggernaut in a fierce duel. After defeating him, she takes his helmet and begins climbing the tower to deliver it to Wolverine. But just before reaching the top, she's pulled back down. Acting fast, she tosses her backpack into the room. Deadpool grabs the helmet just in time and places it on Cassandra's head. As the two debate what to do next, Pyro appears and wants to kill Cassandra, but Wolverine doesn't allow it. The duo then begin arguing over Cassandra's fate. If the helmet stays on, she'll soon die. Despite his anger, Logan chooses to remove it and spare her life. Wolverine knows killing her wouldn't honor Xavier's values. Even if she may attack again, he believes in doing the right thing. Grateful, Cassandra agrees to help them return home. She pulls out a sling ring she stole from a variant of Doctor Strange and opens an interdimensional portal back to where Wade belongs. Just then, the purple cloud Alioth approaches. Cassandra warns that they have only 4 seconds to escape the void before being consumed. Without wasting a moment, Deadpool and Wolverine sprint for the portal while the rest of the team stays behind. The two then successfully survive the ordeal when Cassandra turns to Pyro and demands answers. She soon uncovers the truth. He's a secret agent working for Paradox sent to eliminate her. After learning that Deadpool and Wolverine have returned to Washington, Paradox approaches the two of them. But he's caught off guard when Cassandra Nova arrives. She invades his mind and uncovers a disturbing truth. Paradox is building a machine to erase that entire universe. As Cassandra digs deeper, she violently ejects Deadpool and Wolverine to continue exploring Paradox's mind alone. There, she decides to use his machine to destroy all universes, leaving only the Void, the one place she controls. Meanwhile, Hunter B-15 detects an unauthorized time door activation. After capturing Paradox and preparing to use him in her plan, Cassandra leaves the portal open. Through it, Dogpool runs out and scoops Wade into a hug. Moments later, Nicepool arrives, followed by an overwhelming army of Deadpools from every timeline. Faced with this massive group of variants, Wade tries to rally them to his cause. Instead, they open fire. He grabs Nicepool using his body as a shield and ducks behind a car. That's when Wade realizes Nicepool can't regenerate. Promising to get him to a hospital, he tries to escape, but to reach the corner he has to pass through the enemy horde. Using Nicepool again as cover, Wade pushes forward. Tragically, his hairy doppelganger is shot in the head. Wade takes Nicepool's gold-plated pistols and teams up with Wolverine. Together, they launch into battle, tearing through wave after wave of mercenaries. As the battlefield clears, they spot enemies hiding inside a bus. The duo charges in and finishes the job. But their victory doesn't last long. The fallen Deadpools begin to rise again, this time regenerating, unlike Nicepool. Just as another brutal fight is about to erupt, Peter arrives and calms the chaos. Loved by all versions of Deadpool, Peter's presence brings instant peace. While the others celebrate, Wade and Logan quietly slip away. In the subway, Deadpool and Wolverine discover that Cassandra Nova has already activated the machine. According to Paradox, the only way to stop her from erasing all alternate realities is to short-circuit the device, which is powered by both matter and antimatter. To destroy it, a connection between the two sources must be made, but whoever becomes the bridge will be completely incinerated. Despite knowing the cost, Wade and Logan choose to go ahead with the mission. Wolverine insists on doing it alone, but Deadpool believes Logan deserves a second chance. Without warning, he hits Logan with a fire extinguisher, pushing him out of the chamber and locking the doors behind him. Deadpool destroys the matter source and struggles to connect the power cables to the antimatter side, but he can't reach. Just when all seems lost, Logan breaks down the door and grabs Wade's hand. Together, they form a living bridge, allowing energy to surge between the sources and trigger a massive short circuit. The overload burns their bodies from the inside out, but they hold on, sharing the energy with the machine. The explosion instantly vaporizes Cassandra, and all universes are saved from destruction. Moments later, Commander B-15 arrives and questions Paradox for using the Time Ripper without clearance. Paradox blames Cassandra, saying she forced him to build it and invaded his mind to operate it. He adds that once he realized what would happen, he turned to Deadpool and Wolverine, claiming they sacrificed themselves to save the universe. But Paradox is caught off guard when both Deadpool and Wolverine walk in alive. Their teamwork had helped them survive the blast. Exposed, Paradox is arrested and taken to the TVA headquarters for judgment. With the Time Ripper destroyed, B-15 confirms the universe is stabilizing and commends Wade and Logan for their heroism. Though Wolverine doesn't belong in that timeline, she allows him to stay and start a new life. Seeing her in a generous mood, Wade asks for one more favor: help rescuing the friends still trapped in the Void, reminding her that none of this would have been possible without them. After saving the universe, Wade and Logan head out for a meal. Wade is reunited with Dogpool, and since the variant has no home, Wade adopts him. Back at the apartment, Al welcomes them warmly, happy to have two new housemates. A few days later, Wade gathers with all his friends, new and old, and takes a step toward making things right with Vanessa.
I'm tired of these absolutely vile rumors that I got Johnny killed.
Cassandra Nova, a megalomaniacal psychotic ass. In fact, I don't give a shit if she removes all my skin and pops me like some nightmarish blood balloon. I won't be happy until I've on her freshly barbecued corpse and
Gotcha, face.
The movie Logan begins on a highway somewhere in Texas. A group of thieves start stripping parts off a parked limousine, unaware that inside the car is Logan. He's trying to get some sleep, but when he hears them messing with his vehicle, he gets out and calmly asks them to stop. Instead of backing off, the gang leader shoots Logan at close range, knocking him down. He's older now, and his body isn't what it used to be. Even his claws come out slower than before. The gang doesn't waste any time. They gang up on him, beating him with kicks and sledgehammers, giving him no chance to fight back. One of them pulls a gun, but Logan steps in front of it to protect the limo. He cares more about the car than his own safety. As the beating continues, the gang leader aims his shotgun to finish Logan off. Logan suddenly lashes out and slices off the man's arm with the shotgun still in it. The weapon fires, hitting the limo, which only makes Logan angrier. With a burst of violent energy, he brings them down one by one, forcing the survivors to run away. After the fight, Logan takes shelter in a public restroom to tend to his wounds. But things have changed. His healing power is slower now. The adamantium inside him is slowly poisoning his body, and the cuts take longer to close. Still, he pushes on, continuing his job as a private driver. The next day, while Logan is escorting a family to a funeral, a woman he doesn't recognize suddenly appears and pleads for his help. She claims to know who he really is, but Logan ignores her and drives away. Later that day, he heads to a hospital to collect some medication. When he returns to his car, a man named Pierce is already inside waiting for him. Pierce reveals that he knows a lot about Logan and even shows off his cyborg arm. He says he works for a group called Transigen, a company known for experimenting on mutants. Pierce explains that he's searching for a girl who recently escaped from their facility, and he wants Logan's help to find her. But Logan refuses and tells him to get out. A few hours later, Logan arrives at his hideout, an old abandoned power station. He lives there with Caliban, a mutant with the ability to track others like him and his old mentor, Professor Charles Xavier. But Xavier's condition has worsened. He now suffers from dementia and needs constant care. Logan heads into the tank where the professor is staying to give him his regular medication. But Xavier, confused and disoriented, puts up a fight and falls from his wheelchair. Suddenly he suffers a powerful seizure, sending out intense telepathic waves that affect everyone nearby. Despite the overwhelming force, Logan manages to inject the medicine, and eventually, Xavier calms down. Hours later, Caliban speaks with Logan about needing to increase Professor Xavier's medication. He also brings up something more serious. He's found an adamantium bullet and scolds Logan for thinking about the unthinkable. Logan doesn't take it well and storms off to return to work. During one of his driving jobs, Logan receives a call to meet someone at a hotel. There he runs into Gabriella, the same woman who had asked for his help at the cemetery. She's injured and desperate, telling Logan she needs to get to North Dakota near the Canadian border, along with her adopted daughter Laura. At first, Logan refuses to help, but when Gabriella offers him a large amount of money, he reconsiders. Thinking this might give him and Charles a better future, he agrees to take the job and promises to return the next morning. But when Logan gets back to the hotel, he finds Gabriella dead, and Laura is missing. He grabs Gabriella's phone and rushes back to the power plant to warn Caliban and Xavier. As they prepare to leave, Caliban notices something strange in the trunk of the limo, a child's backpack and a ball. He questions Logan about them, but before they can talk further, a car pulls up. Pierce steps out, once again demanding to know where Gabriella's daughter is. Logan insists he doesn't know anything. Just as the situation starts to get heated, a metal pipe flies through the air and hits Pierce in the head, knocking him out. Another pipe is thrown at Logan, but he blocks it in time and sees the attacker. It's Laura. She had been hiding in the trunk the whole time. Logan treats her coldly at first, but then Xavier arrives and insists that they must help the girl. While Logan tries to sort everything out, he orders Caliban to get rid of Pierce. Caliban follows orders and drives the unconscious cyborg into the desert. But just as he's about to dump him, Pierce suddenly wakes up and backup is already on the way. Shortly after, Logan spots several vehicles approaching the power plant. He quickly rushes to get Professor Xavier, leaving Laura behind for the moment. But soon, Pierce's reinforcements arrive and surround the site, cutting off any way out. With no other option, Logan tries to fight them off, but he's quickly overwhelmed by the mercenaries, known as the Reavers. Pierce then sends part of his team inside to capture the girl, who's still calmly eating cereal at the table. Laura is soon surrounded, but moments later, everyone outside hears screams of pain echoing from inside. Fearing the worst, Pierce watches as Laura steps out of the building, holding the body of one of his men. Shocked, Pierce and his team try to calm her down, but Laura suddenly reveals something even more surprising. She has adamantium claws, just like Wolverine. Without warning, she charges at the soldiers, slicing through them with deadly precision. Despite her strength, there are too many enemies. Laura is forced to retreat but is caught off guard by one of the mercenaries. She manages to escape again and kills him, but then Pierce fires a harpoon into her and pulls her towards him. Just in time, Logan joins the fight. He slashes through the mercenaries trying to protect Laura. Two of them manage to grab her and drag her to a vehicle, but she surprises them again, this time using adamantium claws from her feet to kick and kill them both. Nearby, Logan finishes off the enemies surrounding him, then notices more Reavers moving in on the car where Xavier is hiding. He quickly runs to defend his mentor, takes down the attackers, and speeds off in the car. On the way out, he picks up Laura. While trying to escape, the car crashes into a fence and gets stuck. Logan throws it in reverse, dragging the fence behind him. As the Reavers close in, the fence acts like a giant battering ram, knocking them down and clearing a path. At last, Logan, Laura, and Xavier manage to break free from the power plant and drive off into the countryside. But the chase isn't over. Pierce returns, this time with even more backup to track down Logan and the others. As Logan speeds down the road, he sees a train approaching up ahead. Still, he doesn't slow down. He keeps pushing forward with Pierce and his team close behind in cars and on motorcycles. Laura takes out some of the mercenaries getting too close to their vehicle but more quickly follow. Then in a daring move, Logan drives across the train tracks just seconds before the train passes, escaping safely. Pierce watches helpless as his target disappears behind the speeding train. Back at the power plant, Pierce uses another tactic. He brings Caliban with him and threatens to expose him to direct sunlight, his greatest weakness. Unless he helps locate the girl. Forced to cooperate, Caliban agrees. Meanwhile, Logan, Xavier, and Laura stop by the side of the road. There, they watch a video stored on Gabriella's phone. In it, Gabriella explains what happened at the Transigen labs, where Dr. Xander Rice led secret experiments that combined human DNA with the genes of powerful mutants. Laura was one of the children used in these trials, and her DNA came directly from Logan, taken during the Weapon X experiments. The video also shows that Gabriella managed to free the children and was trying to take them to a safe location beyond the border, a place called Eden. After seeing the recording and learning the truth, Xavier urges Logan to help the girl. Agreeing to move forward, the group continues their journey and stops to rest for the night at a hotel. At the hotel, Laura and Professor Xavier spend some time relaxing and watching movies in their room. Meanwhile, Logan heads out to find a new car. Before he leaves, he notices a few X-Men comic books among Laura's belongings. Although he insists that the stories are just fiction, he decides to take the comics with him. While waiting for the paperwork for the car, Logan stops by a bar and starts flipping through the comics. In one issue, he reads about the X-Men arriving at a place called Eden. Realizing that this so-called safe haven might only exist in the comics, Logan becomes frustrated and rushes back to the hotel. But when he arrives, he sees several of Pierce's men surrounding the building. Trying to stay hidden, Logan makes his way inside. Suddenly, everyone in the area, including Logan, feels a powerful psychic wave. Xavier is having another seizure, this time triggered by the mercenaries who broke into the room to capture him and Laura. Fighting through the mental pain, Logan pushes himself toward the hotel room. On the way, he passes several of the mercenaries, frozen in place by Xavier's telepathic outburst. Logan uses the opportunity to silently eliminate them with his claws. Inside the room, he finds Laura unable to move but still conscious. She reaches for the syringe and hands it to Logan, who manages to inject Xavier just in time. The seizure ends and the psychic disturbance fades. Knowing they're still in danger, the group escapes quickly while Pierce and his men are still recovering. Back on the road, Logan drives away with Laura and Xavier, but partway through the trip he swerves to avoid a truck and ends up crashing into a farmer's vehicle. Thankfully, no one is injured, but the horses in the farmer's trailer break loose and become frightened. Xavier steps in and uses his telepathic abilities to calm the animals. Afterward, Logan helps the farmer named Will move his truck out of the way. As a gesture of thanks, Will and his family invite them to spend the night at their farmhouse. Though Logan hesitates, Xavier agrees to the offer. That evening, the group sits down for dinner with the farmer's family and shares a peaceful meal. But partway through the night, the water suddenly stops running. Will, the farmer, says the problem is likely on a nearby property, and Logan offers to go with him to fix the pipe. They repair the plumbing together, but just as they finish, the landowner shows up with a few armed men and threatens them with a shotgun. Logan quickly reacts, disarming the man and turning the weapon against him, forcing everyone to back off. With the danger over, Logan and Will head back to the house, unaware that someone has already broken in. Later that night, an unknown man enters the bedroom where Xavier and Laura are sleeping. Charles, confused, believes it's Logan and starts to speak warmly, saying that this has been the best day he's had since the tragic accident where he unintentionally harmed the other X-Men with his powers. But it's not Logan, it's a clone named X-24. Without warning, the clone drives his claws into Xavier's chest, fatally wounding him. Laura attacks the intruder, striking repeatedly, but X-24 is too strong and throws her across the room. The noise wakes the farmer's son, who rushes in and tries to protect Laura with a baseball bat. But the clone impales him with his claws. The boy's mother appears moments later and fires a shotgun at the attacker, but it has no effect. She is also killed. By now, Logan and Will have returned and hear the screams. Will runs inside to help his family, only to be attacked as well. Logan hurries toward the sound and is shocked to see a perfect clone of himself. X-24 captures Laura and tries to take her away, but Logan's attention turns to Xavier. He races to the bedroom and finds the professor gravely injured. Logan gently carries him away, hoping to save him. Meanwhile, the clone X-24 heads to a nearby van where Dr. Xander Rice and Pierce are waiting. With them is Caliban, who's being forced to use his powers to track down Laura. Now that she's been captured, the group prepares to leave. Just then, the landowner from earlier arrives with his men, hoping to confront the farmer. But instead of finding him, they come face to face with X-24. The clone slashes the man's neck with both claws, instantly killing him, then turns on the rest of the group, attacking with brutal force. At the same time, Logan carries the wounded Professor Xavier to his car. Desperately, he tries to stop the bleeding, but it's no use. Xavier dies in Logan's arms, his final moments spent with the man he saw as a son. Back at the van, Dr. Rice orders X-24 to stop fighting and return. Seeing an opportunity, Caliban grabs 2 grenades from the vehicle. With Pierce distracted, Caliban sets them off, sacrificing himself. But his plan fails. Pierce escapes just in time, avoiding the blast. Even Dr. Rice is caught in the explosion, forcing X-24 to rush to his aid. Just then, Logan appears and launches himself at the clone, full of rage over Xavier's death. But X-24 is younger, faster, and stronger. He fights back hard, leaving Logan badly injured and soaked in blood. As X-24 gets ready to strike the final blow, a car suddenly slams into him, pushing him into the sharp metal arms of a nearby tractor. The driver is Will, the farmer, still alive and now seeking revenge. Though badly hurt, he pulls out a shotgun and shoots the clone who destroyed his family. After finishing the job, Will turns the gun on Logan, but he's out of ammo. Weak and broken, he collapses to the ground. Surrounded by loss, Logan gently places Laura into the car and drives off, bringing Xavier's body with him. Unfortunately, the next morning, Dr. Xander Rice and his team return to the scene. He injects the X-24 clone with a special substance that helps him heal faster from his injuries. Meanwhile, Logan parks in a forest and prepares a grave to bury Professor Xavier. After laying him to rest, Laura tries to comfort Logan, but he pushes her away and tries to leave without her. Moments later, their car breaks down, only adding to Logan's frustration. Overwhelmed with grief and anger, he lashes out at the vehicle, but his body is too weak and he collapses on the road. Laura finds a man nearby and takes his car to drive Logan to the hospital. A short time later, Logan wakes up to a doctor explaining that his body needs urgent care. But Logan refuses help. He doesn't want more people getting hurt because of him, so he decides to leave the hospital with Laura. Back on the road, Logan thanks Laura for saving his life. To his surprise, she finally speaks, for the first time since their journey began. Logan is angry that she's stayed silent all this time, but Laura calmly explains that she needs to get to North Dakota to reunite with her mutant friends. Logan tells her that the place she's looking for doesn't exist, but Laura won't give up. With no choice, the old mutant agrees to take her there. During the long journey, Logan loses consciousness from the blood he lost in the fight. Laura takes over and forces him to rest while she drives. Hours later, they arrive at a hideout in the mountains. Logan is lifted to the top by an elevator. He wakes briefly and sees a group of young mutants, just like Laura described, but quickly passes out again. The kids take care of his wounds, and their leader Richter injects him with the same serum Dr. Xander had used on X-24 to help him heal. Later that night, Logan wakes from a nightmare, but Laura is there to calm him. She tells him she found the adamantium bullet hidden in his clothes, but honoring Professor Xavier's final wishes, she promises she won't let him use it. After their conversation, both fall asleep, unaware that a drone from Dr. Xander is already scanning the hideout. 2 days later, Logan wakes up to a prank. Some of the kids shaved off part of his beard while he slept. Not amused, he finds Richter and warns him that Dr. Xander won't stop chasing them. Richter explains that they plan to cross the border soon and hands Logan the money promised for bringing Laura. But Logan refuses to take it. He no longer wants the reward. He tells Richter that once the group leaves, he plans to go his own way. Laura overhears this and is deeply upset. She has grown close to Logan and doesn't want to lose him. When night falls, Laura expresses her anger toward Logan, upset that he plans to leave. But Logan explains that he's afraid his presence will put her in danger, just like it did with Xavier, Caliban, and the others he's lost. The next morning, Logan wakes up alone in the hideout. He finds a bottle of serum left behind by the kids to help him recover. As he steps outside, he spots drones flying overhead, followed by a convoy of vehicles heading straight toward the young mutants. Without wasting time, Logan grabs the serum and rushes into the forest to help Laura and her friends. By then, the children are already being hunted by Dr. Xander Pierce and a full squad of mercenaries. Hearing their cries in the distance, Logan pushes forward through the trees, but his body is breaking down fast. With no other choice, he injects the entire vial of serum and suddenly regains his strength. Meanwhile, the young mutants are running for their lives. One by one, they're captured by the Reavers. One girl tries to fight back using her powers, calling on nature to stop the mercenaries. She holds them off for a moment but is soon trapped. Just then, Laura appears. She leaps into action and kills the attacker with her adamantium claws. She gets ready to help the others when a familiar roar echoes through the forest. It's Wolverine charging through the trees filled with fury. He slashes through the Reavers without mercy and keeps going, determined to find and protect the kids. Pierce manages to capture Richter while Laura is surrounded by heavily armed mercenaries. With no way out, she prepares to fight, but Logan arrives just in time to help. Working together, the two use their skills and instincts to take down the attackers one by one. After defeating the mercenaries, Logan begins to feel the effects of the serum fading. His strength weakens, but he still urges Laura to go after their captured friends. He tells her to wait in hiding and only move when she sees his signal. Logan then walks alone toward Dr. Xander and Pierce. Dr. Xander reveals that he is the son of Dale Rice, the scientist who helped bond adamantium to Logan's skeleton. He offers a deal in exchange for Laura's life, but Logan gives his answer by shooting Xander in the throat. With the doctor dead, Logan fires another shot, damaging Pierce's metal arm. This is the signal Laura was waiting for. She springs into action, attacking the remaining mercenaries and helping free the other mutant children. Logan turns to finish Pierce off, but the villain opens a truck gate and releases X-24. Though wounded and exhausted, Logan stands up to the clone to protect the kids, but X-24 is faster and stronger. He slashes Logan with his claws and throws him against the side of the truck. Even so, Logan makes one final move. He knocks the clone down with the truck's door, pinning him to the ground. But after seeing Dr. Xander's body, the enraged clone cuts through the door with his claws and hurls Logan aside. X-24 charges at Logan, but Laura jumps in and attacks with her claws, using both her hands and feet to strike. Logan tries to help, but Pierce shoots a harpoon into his leg, trapping him. Pierce prepares to finish Wolverine, but the young mutants rush in and use their combined powers to attack him. With no way to escape, Pierce is overwhelmed. The children, once his victims, become his downfall, bringing an end to another threat. But X-24 isn't finished. He keeps fighting Laura, and although she moves quickly and attacks with skill, the clone proves to be stronger. He throws her aside and turns his attention to Logan. Just then, Richter joins the fight. Using his power, he lifts a truck into the air and slams it down on top of X-24. But Logan knows it's not enough. He yells for the kids to run as the clone forces his way out from under the truck and attacks again. With his claws, he grabs Logan and drags him deep into the forest. The children escape, but Laura refuses to leave. She picks up Logan's revolver from the ground and reloads it with the adamantium bullet. Determined, she runs after them. By the time she arrives, it's too late. X-24 has Logan pinned against the roots of a fallen tree and slashes him repeatedly. As Logan struggles to breathe, the clone raises his claws for one final strike, but Laura shoots him in the head with the bullet, ending the fight for good. The danger is finally over. But Logan is too wounded to survive. Laura rushes to him and cuts the root to free his body. In his final moments, Logan looks at her and asks her not to become the kind of weapon they turned him into. With his last breath, Logan says goodbye. Laura, holding back tears, calls him Dad for the first time. She mourns beside him, then joins the other children as they head toward a new life in peace. Before leaving, Laura takes the wooden cross from Logan's grave and turns it sideways, shaping it into an X in honor of one of the greatest X-Men the world has ever known. Thank you so much for watching this timeline recap until the very end. This took me quite some time and effort to make, so I'd greatly appreciate some love. Thank you, and always stay awesome and take care.